Over 4 years had passed since Suzuki's failed attempt to defect to Orochimaru and his subsequent return. It had also been 4 years since Naruto was banished from the Land of Fire. Perhaps it was a misjudgment on Tsunade's part, as she was intoxicated and enraged at the time, but she sealed his fate with a chakra-infused stamp on the document. She stripped him of his jutsu, his toad summoning contract, and the protection from the Third's law that kept his identity secret. He fled, fearing that some of those he considered friends would become too consumed by the sight of the fox within him, and his fears were justified. Abandoning his name, he left the village without his treasured necklace or forward protector, his heart shattered and filled with disappointment, never to be seen again. Until now. Land of Waves. The Land of Waves flourished in the freedom it gained after the death of the tycoon, Gato. To promote further trade and prosperity, the Wave Daimyo invited the daimyos of the 5 great nations to hold their meeting in his small country, and they accepted. Among the daimyos, the youngest was the Wind Daimyo, the ruler of the Land of Wind. Her father had recently passed away in his sleep, and she had received the necessary education to assume his position. Each daimyo was accompanied by a select group of guards, most from their nation's protectors, such as the once-renowned 12 guardian ninjas of the Land of Fire. The young Wind Daimyo was escorted by a single, private bodyguard, whom she had sought out for this assignment shortly after her father's death. He joined her at the meeting, which was finally drawing to a close. A figure shrouded in a weathered, tattered cloak sighed softly. The cowl he wore kept his face obscured in shadow. Underneath the cloak, he wore an orange, long-sleeved shirt made of highly breathable fabric and a pair of long black pants. His combat sandals were typical of ninja, and on his hands were fingerless gloves, while his forearms were covered by bracers made from chakra-conductive steel and embedded with various seals. Thank you all for attending. The cloaked figure's idle thoughts were interrupted by the abrupt voice. The meeting was over, and now the Wind Daimyo was approaching him. She wore a formal dress in 2 shades of purple, and her long black hair was styled in a bun. Her lips were a cherry red, a sign that she used a brand of lipstick made from desert berries common in her nation, and her eyes were purple pools that made perfectly cut amethyst diamonds look flawed. When her eyes met his sapphire-colored ones, she smiled. The Fire Daimyo wants to discuss business with me, so we'll be traveling to his estate and then from there to the Land of Wind, she informed him. I know you're not comfortable there, but will you stay with me? He hesitated for a moment but then nodded, and the two of them departed. Land of Fire/Land of Wind border. 2 weeks after the meeting in the Land of Waves, the Wind Daimyo and her bodyguard had started their journey toward the border between the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind. Though the Fire Daimyo offered to provide a ninja escort, she insisted that her bodyguard was sufficient to protect her. It was a genuine risk, considering she would be an easy target for bandits, traveling in a coach with only him for protection, but her faith in him was absolute. While she would admit it was a bit foolish, she wanted to spend time with him. It was purely by chance that she encountered him that day at the temple, as she was preparing to enlist some of the men there to protect her for the journey. He had only returned for a brief rest, intending to continue his plans to explore the world. Her emotions guided her, as she recalled the memories of the 6 months they spent together while he worked for her father, who had replaced the previous Wind Daimyo, whose greed had been a major cause of the attempted invasion of Konoha. He had entered the care of the Wind Temple a little over 2 years ago, having abandoned his past life and the cheerfulness he once possessed. It was during those 6 months that they grew closer as he protected her, and she learned all of his secrets, and they shared a few passionate nights, but they both knew it wouldn't last. He began traveling after those 6 months were over, leaving her unable to find him until he recently returned to the Wind Temple for a few days. She wanted to appoint him as a permanent bodyguard, but he refused, stating that staying in one place for too long would end badly. He could only accompany her for a short time, and she accepted that. As the coach carrying the Wind Daimyo drew closer to the border, its protector held out his hand and brought them to a halt. Pulling out sealing tags, he tossed them into the air, and the slips shot to the ground around the coach, forming a protective wall. And then konoha with explosive tags rained down, hitting the wall and detonating with more force than heat, not truly designed to kill outright, but still capable of causing damage. The constant explosions covered the coach and the cloaked man in smoke, leaving no visibility, as 4 missing nin charged toward the scene, intending to capture the injured Wind Daimyo for ransom. Attacking her was a mistake, a voice carried on the wind and reached their ears. From out of the smoke, the cloaked figure lunged toward them. In his right hand was a small rod, about a foot long, engraved with seals. Pushing chakra into the seals on the ends and envisioning a monk's spade in his mind, the seal created a solid chakra version, while he channeled wind chakra through the blades to make them razor sharp. He gripped the pole with both hands and brought the crescent blade around, leaving a greenish arc in the air as it decapitated one of the missing nin. 2 others positioned themselves to the left and right of the cloaked figure and threw a handful of konoha. A sweep of the weapon and they were swatted out of the sky, before he pushed chakra out of his feet in a quick burst, rocketing forward toward the missing nin on his left and planting the spade horizontally into the missing nin's ribcage, bisecting his heart. The missing nin behind him hesitated for a brief moment, weighing the option of fighting or fleeing, so the cloaked figure offered him some advice. Flee. My only duty is to protect the Wind Daimyo. I won't chase you. The man swallowed hard and decided to heed his advice, but a konoha with an exploding tag embedded itself into the back of his skull before detonating, leaving the majority of his body scattered into pieces across the grass and painting the field the color of battle. The cloaked figure glared at the remaining missing nin, who had just killed one of his own comrades. Why, he simply asked. Why not, the missing nin shrugged. We're only in this for the payday from capturing the Wind Daimyo. These guys were just genin, and by extension, cannon fodder. That comrade nonsense isn't useful in this kind of life. I see. The cloaked figure pointed the spade end of the pole at the missing nin, taking careful aim at the man, who was going through a series of hand seals for a wind release jutsu. You should have just retreated. Pumping chakra into the seal on the spade end of the original rod, the pole extended as the man spat out a ball of compressed air. The spade cut it in half and kept going, as the ruptured ball released the compressed pressure, resulting in a shockwave that knocked the cloaked figure's hood back. 2 thuds were heard as the missing nin's head fell to the ground, followed a split second later by his body. Several meters away, a konoha jounin with long black hair and white eyes watched from the treetops and suppressed his chakra as best he could, not needing to use his byakugan at this distance. He came over when he felt the chakra spike from what looked like a barrier around a daimyo's carriage. It wasn't his place to interfere, but he recognized the chakra signature of the cloaked warrior and had to see if it was who he thought it was. When the hood fell, it revealed a blonde-haired young man, with 6 whisker marks on his cheeks and cold, blue eyes that had been hardened by experience. While those eyes were colder than before, he had no doubt who they belonged to, a former konohanin who had been banished 4 years ago. Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox. Uzumaki was protecting the Wind Daimyo. He thought, I should try to bring him back to the village, but the daimyo has no other guards, which could cause a problem if I left her stranded without protection. Then should I escort them both to the village? Niji. Naruto called, causing Niji's heart to skip a beat. You can try to suppress your chakra, but I can recognize it while you're in my territory. I'm telling you right now, if you try to force me back to the village, I'll retaliate with full force. Niji hesitated before completely stepping from behind the tree trunk and meeting Naruto's gaze head-on. Your banishment ended last year. The Hokage has been searching for you since you left. I'm not going back to that hellhole again, Naruto stated plainly, before turning his back on the jounin and walking back to his charge sealed in a barrier. Tell the old lady that I'm never returning to Konoha after what she did. Can you honestly say it would be safe for me there? Niji couldn't, so he remained silent. It wasn't exactly funny that a good number of his old comrades had called for his death upon the revelation of his tenet. Shikamaru had already put 2 and 2 together and was fine with it, and since he was cool with it, Koji was cool with it. Tenten didn't really see anything that screamed demon fox in him, while Shino and Niji could relate. Suzuki was neutral about it, having been in shock due to the effects of the reinforced sealing on the cursed mark. Unfortunately, several of the other rookies had foolish reasons for hating him, even when most of their parents told them otherwise. Ino and Sakura were still Suzuki fangirls and angry that he was hurt. Kiba was jealous of his power and angry at their defeats by his hands, and Lee joined in whenever Sakura was around because he wanted Sakura's approval. They were too easily swayed by the public. Hinata though, she had it the worst. The Hyuga elders systematically broke down her meek personality, telling her a twisted tale of how the fox manipulated her. They said that everyone in the village knew of her crush and pitied her because they could see he was just playing with her. They said there was no man possibly dense enough not to notice after several years and that he strung her along. Okay, they knew he was, but why tell the truth? She put up a fight for a few months, which was actually surprising, but being around the other rookies fueled the pressure and she snapped. The girl was basically now how Suzuki was when it came to Atake, but with the mention of Naruto. Her father thought about telling her Naruto wasn't that bad, but she was showing promise now. While he didn't hate the boy, if hatred made her stronger, he could just apologize on her mother's grave that it was best for the clan. A small part of himself hated him for it, but then he pushed that part away and started grooming her into an appropriate heiress. I thought so, Naruto muttered. And to make his point, he flared his chakra outward in a pulse that nearly pushed Niji off the tree trunk, blowing his hair back and breaking the tie that held it together at the end. The message was clear, don't come after me. Niji sighed and made his way back to Konoha. It would be roughly a half-day's trip to get back, and by then they'd have crossed the border into the Land of Wind. At least they knew where to look for now, with Naruto and the Wind Daimyo. Naruto, the Wind Daimyo addressed him without a suffix, indicating their closeness. They'll come for you now, you know that, right? I know. Kanna, Naruto stated emotionlessly, his eyes closed. You aren't a member of the 8 Windspades since you retired to travel, but if we hurry back, we can have you reinstated as one of my Ayuro, she started, before he cut her off. No, he said without raising his voice. I can't stay in one place for too long. As soon as you are safe, I'll leave the nation and head to Taki to see her, although I'll probably stop at Suna for a brief visit. Gaara won't be happy that I was in the Land of Wind and didn't tell him. The 8 Wind Spades were the Wind Daimyo's answer to the Fire Daimyo's former 12 Guardian Ninjas. They were skilled warriors and ninja monks from the Wind Temple who served the Wind Daimyo directly if she chose them. The Wind Temple wasn't as well known as the Fire Temple, being located deep in the large deserts of the Land of Wind, which was why he sought them out in the first place. She stared at him sadly for a moment and then nodded. I'll have the guards at the border escort us to Suna instead of straight home. I haven't been to Suna since I took my father's place anyway. Thank you, Naruto said softly. It's no problem at all. She fidgeted before continuing. Actually, if I could make one selfish request. He opened his eyes and raised an eyebrow, remembering her last selfish request, which led to things. I don't know, it has been a while, but we're close to the border and we both know that the other bodyguards will come into view well before. No, not that, she blushed slightly, before shaking her head to clear her mind of those thoughts. Do you remember the summoning contract we discussed before the trip? He nodded. Will you sign it? Just so I could feel a little more comfortable. Sure. He smiled softly. Konoha a Euro Hokage's office. Jounin Niji Hyuga had just left the office of Tsunade Senju, the fifth Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. Before he entered, she hadn't even opened the bottle of Fire Temple sake she had hidden away, vowing to never drink on the job again over minor problems like paperwork. After he left, the bottle was empty, and Tsunade was silently crying upon hearing how someone she saw as a little brother no longer wanted to return to his home. The good news was that they finally found him, and he appeared to still be capable of taking care of himself and could now use some kind of sensory techniques and seals. The bad news was now she had to retrieve him, and he would put up a fight, more than likely giving his captors a reason to use lethal force. All because of her mistake. 4 years ago, the Uchiha retrieval mission went to hell and back, and the civilian portion of the council was furious that the Uchiha was hurt. Once some of the sensors reported traces of the fox's chakra were found on the battlefield, they exploded, ordering Naruto's death. Naturally, neither the elders, Danzo, nor Tsunade would give that a second thought, but a dark idea did creep into her head. Not having much political pull as the newly appointed Hokage on civil matters, Tsunade admitted to herself she needed more support since the number of civilians surpassed the ninja on the council. So, to create a sense of calm, she proposed exiling him for 3 years, with the secret intention of having Jiraiya take him to train the power he possessed. The ninja disapproved, but the civilians were satisfied, and Danzo saw it as an opportunity to seize the boy and have him join his root operatives. Still feeling somewhat tainted by her decision and the nightmares of politics, a field in which she was not as skilled as Jiraiya, in addition to her concern over his injuries and the sheer amount of paperwork from the botched mission, she drank heavily. Shizen was still exhausted from trying to save Niji Hyuga's life, so she didn't review the paperwork as she usually did, and a certain civilian merchant with connections slipped in specific clauses to the simple exile contract that essentially said, stay out of Konoha until the time period is up. When she stamped it with him and Sakura, who was not at all happy, as witnesses, he glanced over it and asked her if she was truly doing this. Her reply was essentially, yes, now leave so I can deal with this headache. He departed heartbroken, but said nothing else. What she failed to realize at the time was what those new clauses stated. They effectively expelled him from the Land of Fire with the backing of the daimyo, who didn't read it but signed it since he owed the merchant, stripped him of the right to use genjutsu or ninjutsu through pain compliance with seals, severed his summon contracts, and essentially screwed him over multiple times. Not a day later, he left the village gates at night, showing the guards the banishment papers and asking them to keep it a secret from everyone. They thought it was a bit severe, but since it had her seal on it, they couldn't object. Naruto Uzumaki had departed the village in the rain, with only 2 people aware of it. The next day, the truth came to light. Princess, a voice called from the window, revealing a certain super pervert. He did not look amused. We need to talk. Jiraiya, she squinted her eyes, having been doing paperwork for the last 12 hours without rest and semi-drunk, while somehow nursing a hangover at the same time. What's wrong? The Toads contacted me and told me Naruto broke the contract on orders of the Hokage according to the elders. I didn't tell him to break his contracts, she shook her head. I sent you a scroll about his banishment and the training plan once he left the hospital in a few days, didn't I? I thought it was strange, so I rushed back, but that's not the worst thing. He sat down in a chair. They're talking about the Kyuubi, in public. That's a violation of Sensei's law, she began, only to be cut off by him slamming a paper on the desk. When she read it, her eyes widened. Oh no. It was a decree that the Third's law was null and voided. On her orders. Tsunade, Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. Please tell me you actually read what you stamped. She shuffled through the desk drawers to find the copy of the banishment orders and reviewed it, and her heart broke the moment she saw what she had compelled him to. Oh dear God. Jiraiya snatched the paper and reviewed it before chewing her out with a fury not seen since she had nearly gone through with Orochimaru's offer. I warned you not to underestimate the council. You have to read what you sign. We have to get him in here and have the council retract it. She realized just why he had that look on his face before he left. They rushed to the hospital to learn he never returned, and after visiting his home and retrieving the 2 things he left behind, they asked the gate guards who were on duty that night. After sending out repair orders from her smashing the gate in rage, she convened the council and demanded whoever added the clauses come clean, otherwise she would have Inoichi search all their memories. After the argument that such an action was illegal, the pompous man revealed himself, pointing out that once she stamped it and with the fire daimyo's backing, they couldn't go back on the orders. He reasoned that the demon was hurting his sales or some other nonsense. He apparently forgot that no amount of money will save you from trained assassins and was killed later that day. No one was sure who did it. Danzo could have ordered root operatives to do it, since having your weapon unable to use ninjutsu and genjutsu was a hindrance. Jiraiya could have done it, or a few dozen others, but no one really looked into it. Either way, the damage was done and he was gone. Jiraiya set out to find Naruto after telling her that he couldn't be angry at her since he neglected the boy for 12 years and things got bad enough that he would leave in silence once he knew the law was rescinded, but he was disappointed at the fact that this could have been avoided by her not hitting the bottle so often. She eased up on her drinking after that and brushed up on politics while working toward weakening the civilians' power in the council. The nations Naruto helped in the past were not pleased about the situation, but they did not do anything outwardly. Secretly, they planned to give him asylum and keep Konoha out of the loop if he showed up. Tsunade-sama, Shizune snapped her back to the present. What will we do about Naruto? We need answers. She wrote up a letter to both Gaara and the Wind Daimyo. Send the messenger hawks out. Once we hear back from them, we'll set up tracking teams to go after him. There's still a chance we can reason with him before we'll have to use force. A very small chance, a cynical voice pointed out in her head. Suna, Kazekige's office. Hey Gaara. Naruto sat in a chair in the office. Naruto Uzumaki. Gaara pushed his paperwork into a pile and placed it to his right. Imagine my surprise when I received a notice an hour ago from my ninja at the village entrance, telling me that you were with the new Wind Daimyo as a bodyguard. Gaara was angry. Naruto thought, a small sweat drop appearing on the back of his head. I have a fairly good reason for not telling you where I was all this time. Explained. Gaara crossed his fingers and rested his head on them. Naruto applied a seal to the floor and channeled chakra into it, ensuring what he said would remain secret. Back when I was banished, you didn't have enough political power to keep me hidden here and under your protection without it eventually leaking to Konoha. I was angry, upset, and disappointed, and I didn't want to have anything to do with Konoha since I couldn't be a ninja anymore. The more I thought about how much I endured over the years to earn everyone's respect, only to lose everything, the more I realized how I would never be accepted there by more than a dozen out of several thousands. Naruto took a deep breath. The things I went through were bad enough, and no child should have ever suffered through the things we containers went through. I felt like I was going to lose myself in anger and rage, so I sought out a new path and traveled to the Wind Temple, since the Fire Temple was still in the Land of Fire and the nearest nations with temples weren't exactly friendly to former Konoha, especially IWA, although I didn't know why until I managed to figure out my heritage. Gaara nodded, understanding the logic behind his actions. It was still a cold thing to do considering they were friends, but he did see why he did what he did. So, tell me about the past 4 years. I spent 3 years in the Wind Temple service, Naruto told his old friend, removing his gloves and showing him the seals burned into the back of his hands. After the old lady stamped those papers, they engraved these seals on my skin not an hour later. If I try to form any hand seals, they burn severely and stop me, so I can't use regular ninjutsu anymore. Gaara's eyes narrowed slightly. I'm surprised you didn't find some way around that. I've thought of several, Naruto shrugged. I could sever the limbs and hope the fox would regenerate them, or I could alter the seals using my own expertise. The reason I don't is because it serves as a reminder of the betrayal inflicted upon me. I see. Gaara exhaled slowly. He doubted he could convince Naruto to rejoin Konoha or even Suna at this point. Anyway, since I couldn't use most regular jutsu anymore, I focused solely on chakra control and manipulation, along with meditation, taijutsu, weapons, and sealing arts. During those 3 years, I spent 6 months under the care of the previous Wind Daimyo, who was the father of the current one. After those 6 months were up, I traveled a bit. I was in the Land of Iron and studied the samurai techniques. Did you know they could use chakra? I did not. Gaara droned. The age of the samurai had long since passed, but I was not aware they could use chakra. The Land of Iron samurai focus on shape manipulation rather than nature manipulation. Naruto held out his hand and sent chakra into it. Visualizing a blade, chakra extended and formed the length of a broadsword's blade with an ethereal spiral design. I spent a few months under their care to expand my skills there. So I know quite a few tricks that I developed in combination to the exercises that I went through when I started learning the Raise Non Hell. I found a way to combine the skills I picked up to do things I never dreamed of, including acting like a censor. Naruto dispelled the blade. After that, I followed the advice of a certain fox and went to my ancestral home, where I expanded my knowledge on sealing. Using the memories of his previous hosts, I discovered a hidden storage facility holding the last copies of the arts of the Uzumaki clan. If you want, I can tweak your seal if the raccoon dog is still bothering you. Tempting, but Jiraiya-sama beat you to it when he passed by looking for you a few years ago. Gaara smirked. While I am not pleased you did not seek out my assistance, I understand fully and hold no hard feeling about it. Left unsaid was that Naruto and the nine-tailed demon fox were on moderately pleasant terms. Those countless hours of meditation provided him with easier access to his mindscape, and even if the fox wouldn't admit it, he enjoyed the occasional company. Hell, the fox handed over the memories of its previous hosts for free as long as Naruto agreed to tamper with the seal and change the mindscape into something more comfortable than a sewer. Eventually he even learned the fox's name, Kurama. Thanks to the additional knowledge he picked up, he managed to recreate his mother and father's signature techniques. He could use his mother's chakra chains through shape manipulation, and while he couldn't directly copy his father's hydration formula, he created a similar technique by using a modified summoning contract formula that would enter him into a semi-contract and then reverse summon him to the location. The only downside was that it could only be used on other living things, although he did follow in his father's footsteps and incorporate the formula into the seal of a certain female container, to be activated if she was ever in trouble by sending a distress signal to a seal on Naruto's body. I also ran into the container of the Seven Tails when I was passing near Taki, a girl named Fu. Naruto stayed quiet for a minute. They didn't even allow her to stay in their village, making her stay in the forest around it. I stayed with her for a month or so in between my time in the Land of Iron and visiting the Land of Whirlpools, and then I went back for only a few days before I came back to visit the Wind Temple and met with Konoha. Left unsaid was the fact that she suffered like they did, if not worse. Gaara's eyes steeled at the silent realization. Do you want me to send a letter to their village leader or approach in a different manner? Translation: offer her asylum and smuggle her out. I snuck into the village and confronted Shibuki on it. Naruto's eyes flashed red for a moment. He said his hands were tied by his advisors and council, and he felt it was safer for her outside the village. Needless to say, after I resisted the urge to assassinate several people, I went out of my way to make her as comfortable as I could. She's a really sweet girl and a lot like I was, masking her pain behind a joyful facade to the point that even Shumei her demon felt guilty about being placed in her. I was working with her on controlling her Baijuyu's chakras since our two were on decent terms. Naruto hesitated for a brief moment before looking at Gaara seriously. She deserves better than what she's been through. Next to Konoha, she's really the only other woman I would go out of my way to protect right now without a moment's hesitation. Unfortunately, he could only control himself up to 3 tails due to the fact that his own negative emotions added to the fox's negative emotions, meaning anything higher would equal a stage 2 transformation. The memories of his mother and her discussion with the first container told him that love was needed to combat the hatred, but the hatred he held inside for many years far surpassed his other emotions. Yes, he could control the cloak at 3 tails by remembering what he went through with Konoha and Fu. It was passion and caring love, but he only knew them for a short time compared to all those years of suffering. Gaara nodded once. He immediately understood how close they were to him and would most likely level a village to protect them. If this information got back to Konoha or someone else, it could be used against him. Everything you have said so far stays with me. Gaara reached for another set of papers. Regardless, I trust that you will be gracing Suna with your presence whenever you find yourself in the Land of Wind, no matter the politics involved. It wasn't a question. Sure, Naruto smiled. But it may be a minute. I plan on heading north at full speed as soon as night falls to visit her, after I sign the summoning contract that Konoha wants me to, since Konoha will probably be stationing ninja across the border in a few days. You'll probably receive a messenger hawk in a few minutes. I'll hold off on instructing my ninja to search for you within the village walls until the next day, giving them a few hours after midnight to start. I had no intention of detaining you, as you were under the daimyo's protection. That should provide you with a head start to get deep enough into the Land of Fire to make it within a few days, provided you're not caught. Thanks, Gaara. He pulled out a small pocket scroll and placed it on his desk. This can instantly transfer information to a similar scroll I have. We can use it to stay in touch. I've given one to Konoha and will get one for Fu once I reach her. In a cave somewhere, several cloaked astral figures were gathered in front of a statue, and a voice resonated through the air. The 9 tails has surfaced. The leader's voice echoed. Now, we no longer need to hold back on the retrievals. Haiden, Kakuzu, you two will begin by retrieving the Nanabi. In the forest surrounding the hidden village of Taki, a woman with mint green hair, orange eyes, and a caramel skin tone slept peacefully in her home. The village wouldn't waste resources on building her a house once they had cast her out, not that she trusted most of them not to line the thing with explosive tags. Fortunately, her tenant used a bit of its power to compel the insects in the forest to lend a hand. They gnawed through the bark of one of the thickest trees they could find and hollowed out the trunk with such precision and smoothness that you could rub your bare skin across the wood and feel the cool touch, right down to your bones, without getting a splinter. This was accomplished by a combination of certain fluids that the insects produced to cause a chemical reaction similar to running a wax buffer across everything. It was roughly the size of a master bedroom and a half, with notches hollowed out for storing things. Her bed was spun from foliage and silk, and her essentials were personally brought to her by Shibuki, whom she actually trusted. Her modest but alluring figure was outlined by the smooth and sensationally soft sheets that Naruto had bought for her during his last visit. Naruto kept a very generous sum of money in one of the many ceiling arrays drawn in invisible ink on his skin, earned through his ridiculous luck in casinos, and he learned to budget well in his travels. He told Fu he'd like to restore his mother's village one day, and with what he made, it wouldn't take too long. The pair spent quite some time under them, enjoying each other's company. Just recalling the nights they spent in the throes of passion and loving embrace afterward left her breathing slightly labored. Not to be a downer, her tenant spoke from her mindscape, destroying her wonderful reminiscent moment. The little guys are clamoring that two dangerous guys have entered the forest. By little guys, it meant the smaller insects of the forest. Fu stirred awake, silently cursing about being roused from her slumber, and mentally vowing to kill whoever it was that caused her tenant to force her awake. That's the thing, Fu girl, Shumei buzzed. The little guys are saying that they smell like death, that they have the scent of fresh blood, one of them has a scratched out forehead protector with the village's emblem, and apparently one of them swears more than you did that night that Kurama's host did that thing with. Okay, I get it. Fu sent out orders to have the insects gather more intel, while she got dressed in her orange combat bra and panties, sleeveless white midriff shirt, long white arm warmers, fishnet armor and shorts, and short white apron skirt. She took the orange hair clip that Shibuki's father had gotten her when she was younger and pinned it to her hair, while placing a necklace that had a charm sealed in amber given to her by Naruto after she successfully signed the beetle contract around her neck, and tied her forehead protector around her arm. Lastly, she looked over to a wooden cylinder that was almost as long as she was, lying against the trunk wall. The wood had an intricate design and was made from the finest trees grown from the first Hokage, who gave the village Chumei in the first place. It was a gift for the first Jinhyuriki, to serve as a hive for the beetles that served her like a queen would for an abarame. It was divided into layers on the inside, and the insects were nurtured on chakra and the wood, which could actually repair itself with a little help from Fu. A portion of Fu hated the first Hokage, almost wishing that assassination mission that a long-dead missing nin failed on was successful. It was because he gave the village Chumei that she suffered. But somehow, she doubted that he knew the village would treat the host of the Baijuya like animals, seeing as Naruto told her that according to the memories Kurama shared, his wife was the first one. She blamed Chumei at first, but the Nanabi didn't ask to be sealed away. She'd be lying if she didn't say that a small part of her blamed Shibuki and his dad for her treatment, even though they were the most humane people in the village toward her. She hated her parents, whom Shibuki's father told her left after she was chosen to be the next container on the fact that she was simply born at the wrong place and wrong time, unlike Naruto's who died protecting him. The first Hokage, Shibuki, and his father may have played a role in her fate, but they at least understood the consequences and accepted their part in it, unlike her parents and the villagers who abused her. She would have accepted death without hesitation if she hadn't met Naruto and the comfort he brought. She practically threw herself into a relationship with him over the course of the full month they spent together after he left the Land of Iron, and thanks to a certain series of orange-colored books she pilfered from a kusanin that tried to infiltrate the village, she didn't mind if he brought a friend along. Wrapping the hive cylinder inside a cloth and strapping it to her back, she sprouted 2 wings and took flight through the forest. With Haiden and Kakuzu, the sacrifices from earlier said the Nanabi should be somewhere around here, but it's a goddamn maze of trees and bugs. A man with slicked-back silver hair and purple eyes commented, "Kakuzu, you know this place, right? Is it close yet? I don't think we'll need to go in any further." Haiden, the tan man with a black mask, empty green eyes, and a /taki forehead protector said, "She found us." Fu landed a dozen feet away from the duo, withdrawing her wings. Men. Haiden ran his hand through his hair, eyeing Fu up and down, before rubbing his hands together. "She'll make a fine tribute. We need her alive." Kakuzu reminded his partner. "Touch me and I'll take your arms off." Fu put her hands on her hips. "I don't know what you two are doing here, but this forest is mine. Get out, or I'll show you how I keep my carnivorous friends fed." "Feisty. I've got this one." Haiden licked his lips. "I can't wait to get a taste of your blood. She's mine and mine alone." "Fine by me," the other man shrugged. "There's no bounty on her anyway. Considering who trained her, she'll probably be a water type with some lightning moves, but we're far enough from any water source outside the atmosphere and any she generates. Just don't underestimate her. Come get some." Fu held her right hand out. Water gathered from the air and formed droplets, clumping together and solidifying into a curved blade that she held in front of her as she slid into a combat stance. Hidden waterfall style, water slicing blade, the priest unleashed a battle cry and charged. The 2 weapons clashed repeatedly, leaving sparks from the collision of hardened water and steel. Haiden savored the battle, trying to dig into her caramel flesh with his sharp tool and get at the fluids inside her to consume them and make them his own, their bodies joined in a bond beyond flesh. The two eventually took the battle to the trees, running along the trunk diagonally and spiraling to the tip, where the priest unleashed a strong blow using the cable and she blocked, but it knocked her into the air. He jumped, spinning the scythe above his head before he swung it down. Fu blocked once again, but was smashed straight into the ground and left a crater. She clenched her teeth and lunged backward, avoiding the motion he made to pierce her with his tool, resisting to the bitter end. He truly enjoyed the game of cat and mouse, where all he needed to do was get a single lick of her life's blood. He tossed the scythe past her and it anchored into the ground, where the cable retracted and started pulling him in closer before she could react. He wrapped his fingers around her throat. "Hands off, I'm taken." The water-slicing blade cleaved through the priest's non-dominant arm at the shoulder with little resistance, and she followed up with a thrust through his chest and a kick to dislodge him from the blade, tossing his corpse to the scythe planted in the ground. One down, he turned to the green-eyed, masked man who just shook his head. The insects of the forest sent a series of inaudible signals to Few, who dove to the left and avoided the triple blade scythe, looking at the not-dead priest. "Damn, my arm," Haydn swore. "Kakuzu, get my arm back on so I can maim this bitch." Kakuzu. He recalled the name from the list of Taki missing nin she was forced to memorize, along with her former masters. Another series of signals had Few flipped back to avoid a sharp net of black threads coming from the Heartstealer. "Was that Earth grudge fear? Seems like you're informed," Kakuzu mused. "My old village was at least smart enough to have their weapon recognize certain techniques. I thought they would hamper your knowledge and abilities, since your former master was also a missing nin. That might be why the poor bastards we caught were so quick to give you up." He was right, to an extent. Few had been trained by Sui Yen before he became a missing nin, who saw her as a weapon. He treated her harshly in training, but it was still better than most of the villagers, which he pointed out repeatedly. He was planning to nurture her anger and turn it against the village, while using that trust and dependence on him when he came back to take the hero's water. Few had been out on a mission and was away from her home during his return and death at the hands of Naruto. She didn't blame Naruto. Sui Yen had stabbed Shibuki, and considering he was the closest thing to a childhood friend she had, that rid her of all kind thoughts of the man, no matter how few. The fact that he turned traitor only made the villagers spurn her even more as the cause, leaving her to learn from experience with the techniques and strategies Sui Yen taught her, since no one else would. At least until Naruto came along. "You're ancient, how are you still alive?" she muttered. Generally speaking, there weren't many old ninja due to their lifestyle. Only the very strong or very lucky lived that long. She looked at the priest, who should have been dead from the chest wound. "Both of you, neither one of you is normal." This coming from someone with a demon sealed inside her. Kakuzu rolled his eyes at the hypocrisy, sending some threads to reattach his partner's arm. "I told you not to underestimate her. I'll expect payment for this. You and your fucking money." Haydn rolled his arm to test it. "I swear to Jashin-sama, you are going to go down to hell and watch it burn for all eternity." "Hell runs on money, I'd be fine," he snorted. "So, still want to try to take her alone?" He didn't answer, opting to go at her with the scythe again. Few dodged it and moved back to gain distance, but the range of the scythe's cable made it difficult. Eventually, she landed and growled in a feral manner. "Let's go, Lucky 7, Few told her tenant. "You got it, Few girl," Shumei responded, releasing its chakra. Few became shrouded and her chakra became greenish. Her cloak was fully formed, and she sprouted a single tail. Hidden art the cylinder on her back released hundreds of smaller larvae, who evolved at an accelerated pace and rapidly became flying, horned beetles with sharp mandibles. Beetle rush. The insects swarmed the priest that tried to avoid them, but they were too fast and numerous, latching onto him and impaling him with their horns, draining chakra from his body like needles in the process. Blood flowed from the wounds, and the beetles began to shine a brilliant green. Haydn tried moving but was unable to, so he shot a glance at his partner, who sighed. Something shot out of Kakuzu's cloak, a demonic tiger made of black threads and a mask. In a single moment, it breathed out a sea of flames that consumed Haydn with the beetles, and barreled towards Few. The Jinhyura key went through hand seals and took a deep breath. Water style, water wall. Few spat out an enormous amount of water converted by her chakra and spiraled around her. The heat met the waves and cooled, releasing steam that was only kept at bay by the spiraling shield redirecting it. Once the flames died down, Few released the wall. "Kakuzu, what the hell, man? You set my head on fire," the priest of the cursed god whined while he patted out the flames, tangled in his cable somehow from swatting the beetles earlier. "Oops," he replied half-heartedly, withdrawing his masked tiger back into his body. "My mistake. This is looking bad. I should regroup and try an indirect approach." Few withdrew the single tail, sprouted her wings while in cloak form, and took off again only for the black threads around Kakuzu's arms to fly out and pierce her limbs and body, avoiding vital spots. Two of the masks emerged and fired a combination of fire and lightning balls at her repeatedly, before slamming her into the ground and causing her cloak and wings to retreat. "Who the fuck told you to interfere?" Haydn roared, finally getting his cable untangled. "I saw an opening and I took it," Kakuzu pointed out. "She can fly and this is her terrain, we'd never catch her if she took off." "Gah!" Few screamed, as the threads finished completely piercing her arms and legs to keep her pinned. "Nothing personal, girl, it's just business," the elderly man told her. "If you want to blame the village for turning you into a container, feel free. You said you were taken before, the dark priest said, releasing the scythe once again to pierce her. I wonder if they'll want what's left after I'm done. I'm sorry. A tear fell from Fu's eyes as the scythe closed in. Naruto. With Naruto. NGH. Naruto's left arm burned while he crossed the upper half of the land of fire, a scorching heat passing from the boundless orange stepped seal he set up in conjunction with Fu's seal. It would only alert him when someone he applied his version of his father's famous technique was in trouble. Fu's in trouble. He disappeared in an orange flash, reappearing above Fu near Taki. Seeing her pinned down and the incoming scythe blade, he pulled out the rod and poured chakra into the seal, shaping it into his monk spade. Tossing it at an angle, crescent end first, it flew and severed the threads holding her down, and then pinning the cable of the scythe down, throwing it off course. What the fuck? Haiden looked up. Get away from her, Naruto roared in anger, shaping a Raise-nan 3 times the normal size and generating a chakra chain like his mother. Swinging it down like the hammer of justice, it smashed into Haiden and threw up a cloud of dirt and grass, leaving a crater in the ground with spreading cracks and one priest. Raise-nan flail. Kakuzu caught a glimpse of Naruto's face once the hood came down and he cradled Fu. Whisker marks, the Kyuubi container. I've seen those cloaks before. Itaki and Kisame. Naruto recalled his previous encounter with the pair. Are you after her because of her tenant? What do you think, dumbass? Haiden chuckled, climbing out of the crater that Naruto's Raise-nan flail had pounded him into and freeing his weapon. A significant portion of his cloak and some of his skin were torn from the rotation and impact of the blow. Although it goes against my religion to take you two alive, you're still Akatsuki's prey. Dumbass, don't give away information like that. Kakuzu berated him. What the fuck does it matter? Haiden rolled his shoulder. He and his little bitch are coming along with us. As a bonus, we get to piss off Itaki and Kisame. Fu, can you stand? Naruto asked her softly. She nodded and stood weakly. Naruto moved in front of her, grabbing his rod off the ground, and stood between her and the others. Get ready to fall back. You're better at guerrilla tactics and I'm better at close range. Don't underestimate them, or you'll die. Kakuzu warned him. Fuck that to goddamn hell. You should listen to your partner, Naruto told Haiden, making a gesture behind his back for Fu to get ready to act. Fu caught the signal. I pity him for having to work with someone like you. I think I would have killed you by now, if I were him. Okay. She whispered under her breath, before she inhaled subtly. If only I could. Kakuzu sighed. Hidden art, hiding in scale powder. Fu exhaled, releasing a cloud of powder over the area. Naruto closed his eyes as light reflected off the powder and showed White Shume means light bringer to the two. Utilizing the distraction, Kakuzu and Fu wisely used the chance to gain some distance and hide, while Naruto stepped back from the swearing priest, who was flailing his scythe about, and started gathering his chakra. Where'd the bitch go? Haiden looked around. Fine, I'll get her after I take care of you. That damn hit hurt. You've made 2 mistakes today. Naruto built up his chakra to the point that an aura was forming around him. The first mistake you made was attacking Fu. Oh yeah, Haiden chuckled, as he twirled his chain scythe in hopes of getting a taste of the new Jinhyura ki. What was the second? Hiding or not, you and the other one are still in my territory. Naruto clapped his hands and closed his eyes, visualizing a square around him, extending in all directions for up to several hundred meters. Opening his eyes suddenly and exhaling, he released the aura in a burst and created the invisible sealed space, filling it with chakra that caused the zombie duo's skin to tingle as it washed over them, only visible to sensors or those who can see chakra. 8th Spade Art Temple of Enlightenment. Naruto thought, having no intention of announcing his technique's name. He could feel the presence of everything in his territory, and the amount of chakra floating all around would mask the original as long as he did not channel more. Even the location of Fu, who was hidden within the foliage roughly 50 meters away, and the Heart Stealer, hiding to the northwest on the tree branch, behind a thicket of leaves, did not escape him. Normally the technique was used in a burst rather than a maintained area, but with his reserves, that wasn't a problem. The main downside was that maintaining the shape of the territory made using the Raise-nan even more difficult since it was the highest level shape manipulation, so he held out his foot-long rod. The seals on it made it easier to maintain the form of weapons that he visualized, a mode lock on the shape, so to speak. The kid has been missing for 4 years. Kakuzu released one of the masks that held his lightning heart. It spouted threads and took a form of a bipedal thing that couldn't be considered human. I'll play it safe and risk 1 heart to see what he's capable of, instead of being caught off guard. He felt the scythe blades displacing his chakra and approaching him from the front, at a left diagonal angle, so he formed the image of a sword he found hidden at Uzushio. It was double-edged and straight, unlike the katanas commonly used, and had the crest of the Uzumaki clan on it. Releasing chakra into the rod, a chakra version of the blade took shape with the rod as the handle. Sharpening the edges of the chakra, he swung it in an arch and deflected the blades into the ground, releasing a pulse of the sharpened chakra in the process. The technique, the destruction strike, was a skill taught to the samurai at the Land of Iron. The crescent arc flew and cut into the Jashinist's torso. His blood painted the grass, and the force knocked him back a few feet. Fucking hell. That hurt, you bastard, Haiden roared. Withdrawing his scythe, he charged at Naruto. When the blonde felt lightning chakra enter his domain from above and leapt back, the bolt barely piercing his cloak and tearing off a handful of cloth. He avoided the rain of thunder and felt the displacement coming from his right side, forcing him to duck and release another arch of sharpened chakra at Haiden, carving a chunk out of his stomach, before dodging again. He's good, he avoided lightning release, false darkness without looking, Kakuzu mused. Let's test how good. The creature leapt through the trees and fired the bolts like tendrils. Naruto dodged, until Haiden closed the gap and tried a frontal assault. The two warriors danced, dodged, and ducked the blade that their opposite wielded while bolts lashed out and tried to hit them. Well, Naruto dodged completely, Haiden, not so much. Watch it, Kakuzu, Haiden screamed, smoke rising from his body due to the repeated strikes. Hidden art, insect gathering. Fu muttered from her hiding place, her chakra spread out in the form of a net that scoured a wide radius of the forest. All the insects of the forest gathered to her, feeding on the lines of chakra and committing themselves to her command. She sent them out to deal with the heart stealer, while her Naruto dealt with the priest. Enough! Naruto shot chakra chains from his left hand to bind Haiden, and severed his scythe-wielding arm and the cable in the process. Those odd-angled attacks were a pain to deal with. Twice. Really? Haiden roared, but Naruto ignored him and kicked the man into a tree, before releasing another crescent wave at the mast bipped. The creature avoided the incoming arch by dropping down to ground level. Lightning element. Naruto smirked, and dashed forward. Let me show you a trick I learned from a Nadeshiko Kunoichi. Wind chakra was imbued upon his free fist. Avoiding the ball lightning that was shot towards him and avoiding lightning tendrils that invaded his territory, he cocked back the loaded fist. The mask harboring the lightning heart released a final burst of electricity that was too widespread to avoid, but with lower potency. He collapsed his territory onto his body and formed a layer of dense chakra to shield himself as he broke through. Hardliner Gale Fist. Naruto slammed the fist into the mask of the deformed bipedal, which halted for a moment and then cracked slightly. The shockwave from the blow was released and the force of the impact fully registered, as the mask was crushed to the point that pebbles were larger and the threads that stitched it together were shredded. Damn you! Haiden roared while standing and tearing off his ruined cloak, pulling a collapsible long spike out in the process with his hand. Another destruction strike and his remaining arm was gone too. Damn you again, how are you not dead yet? Naruto asked, while quietly sending chakra into the ground through his feet and manipulating the shape into chains. I'm immortal, dumbass, Haiden sneered. Wow. Naruto rubbed his chin. That's unfortunate. What are you smoking? Haiden looked at him like he was an idiot. How is being immortal unfortunate? Well, the chain shot out of the ground and bound the armless immortal. For one, it means that you'll live through the most painful experiences possible and suffer endlessly, such as if I were to place an explosive note on your head and trigger it. Also, the dust element technique I heard about while I was traveling would literally turn you to dust. I can't imagine a worse hell than being dust unconscious. Naruto withdrew a black scroll. I originally planned to use this on the masked bastard who led to the death of my parents, but I'll just seal you away for eternity in his place. I can always make another sealing scroll later. For once Haiden looked scared. Kakuzu. Uzumaki sealing art, demonic chains of enforced binding. Naruto tossed the scroll into the air. When it opened, countless black, barbed chains emerged with spiked tips. They speared into his flesh and then wrapped around it tightly, carving into his skin and letting the blood flow over them, before pulling him and screaming. Kakuzu uyuuyua. The screaming stopped when the scroll rolled itself back up and the seal on it changed from black to red. Naruto grabbed it as it fell back down and sealed it into a storage seal written in invisible ink on his body. Well, there goes another one. Kakuzu muttered while hiding, lamenting that he had to explain to their leader how another one of his partners was taken out. I wonder how long until his immortality runs out if he doesn't sacrifice someone. A few years, maybe. Naruto eyed the scythe and spike. Shifting his eyes to the left and right, he put a bit of chakra into a seal on his body to store them in. Not like he'll need it anymore. I wonder if I can turn this guy in for a bounty in Yugakur. Now, let's find that other one. Naruto tossed the chakra blade into the air and clapped his hands, expanding his territory once again. It spread out in a wave and picked up the heart stealer and fuse locations, before dissipating, and Naruto grabbed the rod that acted like the sword's handle and fired another destruction strike. Without warning, Kakuzu suddenly leapt back and avoided a swarm of insects that attacked from all sides, gathered by Fu. Leaning to his right, he avoided the attack from Naruto, who was closing in on him. Tujin Yuriki, short a partner, he was down a heart, and the new one still had some tricks left. I'd rather not take my chances for now or I might be forced to kill you both, he said. I don't think leader will be too angry since I've gotten some good info. You think you can escape? Naruto asked sarcastically. Not if I don't do something to draw your attention. Kakuzu released the fire and wind masks. The two danced, before opening their mouths. Fire style, searing migraine, wind style, pressure damage. Oh, hell. Naruto swore, having seen combination techniques in the past. Stomping the ground and pumping his chakra into it before shaping it, he created chakra chains beneath the surface and sent them around him in few, dropping his territory since it would serve no purpose once the attack scattered his chakra and the control he had over it from the sheer force of the two colliding, combustible elements. The barriers were formed as the wind-fed flames erupted in a storm of fire and heat. Trees and forest life were forced out of the ground by the pressure, eaten by the flames, and killed by the heat. The barriers held, but were cracking fast, causing Naruto to force more chakra into both of them and repair themselves even faster. The Heart Stealer had dove underground and left the scene by the time the damage had been done, and Naruto dropped the barrier and recreated his territory for a split second. Muttering a string of swear words that both Teiuya and Haiden would compliment him on, he ran back to Fu and picked up her battered body. The gashes on her caramel skin from the threads of the Heart Stealer were leaking her precious lifeblood. Quickly removing her outer clothing, Naruto applied the healing salve he had in hopes of slowing down the bleeding, but he needed more time to treat her or let Shume start healing her. He had to get away in case Akatsuki came back to finish the job, which was a damn near guarantee since the smart one managed to get away. The only good thing about this fiasco was one of them was sealed away, and this was the chance he told Shibuki about. This was the only chance he had to take her away. Phew, Naruto stroked her cheek. They'll come back for you, and this village would sooner see you dead than defend you. If we leave right now we can get away and they'll think Akatsuki captured you, but you have to leave your things at your home behind or they'll get suspicious. She didn't know what to say. This was a chance for her to leave her past behind and stay by his side. The only things she really treasured were the hair clip she had, her hive cylinder, and the necklace that Naruto gave her. Naruto's eye said he would protect her as best he could, and if she wanted to stay, he'd lurk in the shadows and protect her from there, even at the cost of his life, or the risk of being captured by Konoha or Akatsuki. With a few silent words from Shume as well, she came to her decision. I know somewhere we can hide until I'm healed, she said, as she removed her forehead protector from around her arm and left it by the shreds of Haiden's Akatsuki cloak. Naruto threw his own tattered cloak around her and took off with her in his arms. When we get there, tell me everything about the one that got away, he urged her. I have the feeling we'll be seeing him again, and information is a part of winning battles. Akatsuki hideout. We got the sandbite from the lake, Kisame chuckled. It was more of a threat when Yagura had control over it. Pain's projection looked at the empty spot, indicating someone was missing. Kakuzu sighed and faced up to it. We didn't get the Nanabe and I'm short a partner, again. I thought you said you couldn't kill him, Sasori mused. I hope you didn't fail because of your temper. Pain said, slightly mad since S-class ninja don't grow on trees and he'd been paying for anger management classes so he didn't have to keep replacing them. It wasn't me, this time, Kakuzu said, gaining the attention of the others. The fox container interfered. What? Kisame's projection scratched its chin. I thought he was somewhere in the land of wind, or maybe the lower half of the land of fire. He just popped up out of nowhere and rescued the Nanabe. I think they have a relationship considering all things. Young love, Kisame said mockingly, they think. Right, Itake. Itake just stayed quiet and listened. He had good combat synergy with her in timing attacks, and seemed to know some decent tactics. Kakuzu looked at Kisame. I thought you said he was an idiot. He was the last time we met. Kisame shrugged. Not anymore, Kakuzu corrected. Once Haiden ran his mouth off about his immortality, he sealed him with some technique I never seen before. He had some kind of sensory technique that used his chakra and let him avoid attacks he couldn't possibly have seen coming without the Byakugan. He shattered one of my masks with a wind-based taijutsu technique he said he picked up in his travels, along with some of Tetsu's samurai techniques, barriers, and bindings, and I'm pretty sure those two work as well as any of our teams. Kisame whistled. Kid's gotten better. I'm gonna enjoy when we meet again. Out of all of us, Kisame would stand the best chance since he relies on chakra constructs, Kakuzu added. That being said, I would take 2 teams to ensure his capture. It would seem so, Pain added in. We'll need to devote more information gathering into what he's capable of and where he's been. If he and the Nanabe are traveling together, we may have to move them to the last targets and strike in conjunction. Kakuzu, work together with Zetsu and gather some information on his movements and do some bounty hunting until we move on to the next one. If he does turn in Haiden for the bounty, we'll have Zetsu reclaim it. May as well let them enjoy it now before we tear them apart, Kisame shrugged. The rest looked at him with wide eyes. Even Itake looked at him with a slightly raised eyebrow. What? He asked, silently thinking, I can't show a little respect for one of the few things in this world that probably isn't made of lies? I mean, come on, 2 Jinryuki falling in love and sharing their pain? At least we don't have to hear a stream of swear words every time we meet now? They all silently agreed, maybe they should let him stay in the scroll. Regardless, Pain grabbed their attention. Deidara and Sasori, how long until you can go after the Ichibai? I have a meeting with a few of my spies this week about the traitors' movements in various other Jinchuriki locations. Sasori thought about it for a second. I don't like keeping people waiting. 5 days should be enough time. Good. Itaki and Kisame head after the Gobi, Pain vanished, along with the rest. In Fu's hiding place. To the north of Taki was a deep cave that Fu's insects informed her about when she was a child. It was hidden and was the home of a colony of glowworms that illuminated the ceiling above in the darkness, making it their nest. Having control over insects and wanting a place of her own, she made it a home away from home, just in case she just wanted to get away. She was currently lying on a flattened stone with a sheet under her, while she was on her stomach, naked, as Naruto ran an ink brush over the area where her tailbone was. That was where someone decided to seal Nanabe into her body, and so to modify the seal, he needed her to strip. Honestly. Fu giggled like a schoolgirl despite her injuries being only shallowly healed. The feel of the ink and brush on her skin as he applied the array was sensational. Alright Fu, Naruto put away the brush. I'm going to modify your seal to access more chakra to speed up the healing process from now on and then modify my boundless orange step array to activate easier and carry more than one person. Thank you, Naruto, she said while still feeling ticklish from the ink. Your father would be proud that you're following in his footsteps. I'm not following them exactly, he said. I can never be my father, nor will I try, but sealing is useful and attaching a seal to jump straight to your lover's side is a brilliant idea. I only regret the fox showed me the memories of their other activities as a couple. What's wrong, Kit? Kurama chuckled. I thought you'd enjoy seeing the night you were conceived. Lies and we both know it. Naruto snapped back. You're lucky I didn't rearrange the seal to look like Mom's mindscape did. Fu giggled at the argument between the two. And then he told us when we were in our joint mindscape how your parents were the inspiration for Jiraiya-sama's works when Lucky 7 referenced to how similar they were. Damn pervy sage for corrupting you with his trashy books. Naruto's eyebrow twitched. You should be thanking him, Fu smiled naughtily. Half of the things I did that night were from his work. She caught the look of terror on his face, not the one with your parents. He breathed out a sigh of relief, before getting serious again. Fu, once I apply chakra to finish the changes, it's going to hurt like the last time. I set up silencing seals, but... She took a deep breath and sat up, turning to face him. Can you hold me? He obliged, kissing her on her lips in the process and allowing her to rest her head on his shoulder, as his hands made their way to the sealing array. Ready? She nodded and he applied chakra. White-hot pain entered her body and destroyed her thought processes. All her body's pain receptors were firing into overdrive, and she let out a heart-rending scream and clenched his body tightly while sobbing. The pain lasted for only a minute, but to her it seemed like hours, and he hated to see her suffering. Once the minute passed, she slumped forward and he held her tighter, whispering into her ears repeatedly 2 words, I'm sorry. When her breathing stabilized, he laid her down gently. He didn't like modifying her seal unless he felt it was necessary because the sealing used wasn't exactly perfect. Seal masters were rare and few, and Taki was a small village that stayed secluded for their own protection. Perfecting the seal would take more time since he had to repair it rather than start from scratch, slowly unraveling it and then fixing it. The process would last far longer and she might not survive the procedure without being in a hospital, attended by someone at a high level of skill, like Granny Tsunade. He muttered without realizing the words that slipped out of his mouth until a second later. No, she betrayed me, the village betrayed me. She was drunk at the time, she didn't mean it. A softer voice in his head whispered, before he crushed the thought with the memories of the abuse he suffered at the hands of the villagers. Accident or not, he snarled to himself. I finally got freedom from that hellhole. Granny Tsunade, I could forgive for her part in it with time, but the village as a whole, never. He shook himself out of his growing rage and focused on the next task at hand. He needed to inform Gaara of Akatsuki, and then deal with the summoning contract and send a message to Shibuki. Scribbling on the contact scroll, the words melted and would reappear on Gaara's copy. Biting his thumb and wiping blood over the stylized summoning seal on his arm, he clapped his hands and slammed them on the ground. Summoning. Taki's village council meeting room. At least we only lost a few genin, and the monster is gone, the elder Saki highlighted at the climax of the 4-hour-long damage assessment meeting. Shibuki wanted to be livid at their casual dismissal of Fu, leaving her in the hands of the monsters that devastated their forest and killed their men, but what was done was done. Shibuki still had hope though, as he clenched a bit of fabric in his pocket that he recognized as Naruto's cloth from the last time they met. He found it when he inspected the battlefield, lodged between some of the debris. Their last conversation was when Naruto snuck into the village at night undetected, and entered Shibuki's office while he was alone and dealing with the enemy of all village leaders, no matter how large or small, paperwork. Naruto had a calm fury about him, controlled but volatile, and went on about how he expected Shibuki to have the villagers treat her better, not even bothering to hide his own status as a demon container. Shibuki claimed his point much like the late Third Hokage, he could order them, but they could still circumvent his orders in spirit and he lacked the power to enforce things. Naruto flat out stated that she deserved a better life, and if he saw a chance and she wanted to leave, they couldn't stop him. Akatsuki was the chance, and while Shibuki only had this small clue to go on, he was willing to place his hope that Naruto took the chance. Still, he was a leader and her friend, damn it, and he was going to take steps to make Fu happy should she be alive. To be safe. Shibuki gained the elder's attention. I'd like to pass a motion to have Fu emancipated the village, even if post-mortem. Why so, young leader? Saki raised an eyebrow. Konoha won't be happy that the Baijuyu we received from the first Hokage was taken lightly, and we won't have the manpower necessary to try and find, let alone fight, the people who took Fu. By emancipating her, we waive responsibility and can avoid political backlash if she somehow escaped their grasp. The debate was short-lived, as many of them didn't even want Fu back, even if she was alive. Being a demon container, on top of having been trained by Suien, made her a liability in their eyes, and if she somehow survived, they would have to waste manpower searching for her or protecting her. The reason emancipating someone wasn't often done was because compared to a banishment or exile, the paperwork was much worse and no one wanted to write or even review it, which was good, since it would allow Shibuki to add in a few clauses that would benefit Fu, if his hope in Naruto wasn't misplaced. Politics was a pain to deal with, but no one said that good people were the ones who had to get screwed over. When he made his way to his office to undergo the hellish torture of paperwork, he found a surprise waiting for him on his desk. "Are you Shibuki?" It chirped and he nodded. "I have a message from my boss." Suna, 2 days later, Kazekige's office. Gaara was sitting in his office, still awaiting the arrival of a messenger from Naruto that would arrive soon. The contact scroll had showed a message sent by Naruto and it worried him quite a bit. It read, "Gaara, there's an organization that is hunting Jinchuriki down called Akatsuki and they went after Fu. I sealed the one known as Haiden of Yukagura away, but the other, Kakuzu, escaped. From what Fu said, he shouldn't be alive and is listed as an S-class criminal in the bingo book, so check it when you get a chance." They claim to have been working in the same group as Itaki and Kisame, 2 other S-class criminals who attempted to catch me several years ago. Fu is with me and I'm keeping her safe, but her village won't protect her. Everyone but Shibuki believes that Akatsuki has captured her, and he had her emancipated so she's not tied down anymore. I'll send my summoning to set things up, wait for it to arrive in a few days. Your pal, Naruto Uzumaki. Gaara checked his bingo book and found all of them listed as S-class or cage level, aka is the money really worth your life to bounty hunters. That did not bode well if there was an organization of people like that after them. But for now, he had to deal with the issue of his drunken brother. Kankuro, Gaara droned. I know you're upset about how your date went, but maybe you should lay off the sake. I am fine. The puppeteer hiccuped. You's got Matsuri, and I got sake. It was then that there was a tapping at the window of the office and they saw what looked to be a desert ferret wearing an orange banana around its neck. It tapped again on the window and Kankuro opened it. It scurried to Gaara's desk and sat up on its hind legs. "Are you Gaara of the desert?" it asked in a squeaky voice. Kankuro looked at the ferret, then his drink, and then the ferret again, then he dumped the sake out the window. "I think I shall go to bed, NGHT. He left the room. The ferret's sweat dropped. "Did I come at a bad time?" "No," Gaara answered, activating a privacy seal. "It was actually highly convenient, and yes, I am Gaara of the desert." It chirped happily. "Good. My boss sent for me and had me go all the way from Taki to get here in 2 days to see you. Somehow, I never imagined he would sign a ferret contract." Gaara mused, before he thought about where Naruto got it. The new Wind Daimyo had a lot of ferrets at her home, and given their resources, it wouldn't have been a surprise that she would somehow land a contract with them and learn to mold chakra to use it. Rumor has it she reverse summoned herself to their home and somehow charmed them into giving her the contract. Dad said he didn't seem like the type either. The little ferret chuckled, before bopping itself on the head. "Oh right, I should explain. I'm a messenger ferret. I'm the slowest of the 5 fastest, but I require less chakra than my brothers and sisters. My name is Pace. Boss said for me to activate a seal he gave me in order to call him once I was in your office and you were alone." It looked around the room, just to be sure, and then it jumped to the floor, sending chakra into the seal Naruto had given him to send the message to Naruto. An orange flash brightened the room, and 2 people suddenly appeared while Gaara walked around the desk. "I don't think I'll get used to that," Fu muttered, wrapped in Naruto's cloak and holding her head. "It gets better after the 10th time," Naruto said offhandedly, turning to Gaara. "Yo, interesting technique, Uzumaki." The Kaze Cage looked at Fu. "And you must be Fu from Taki. I am Gaara of the desert, 5th Kaze Cage and Jinchuriki of Shukaku. Nice to finally meet you," she said, hugging him in a friendly embrace. "Naruto has told me so much about you." "Well, this is new," he droned, while Naruto chuckled nervously. The ferret chirped to get his attention. "Did I do good, boss?" Pace asked. "You did great, Pace." Naruto tossed him a piece of dried meat that he kept in a storage seal. "Tell your dad that the seal I put on you and the others isn't permanent." Kanna said that the ferrets loved the dried meat treats. Judging from the sparkles in Pace's eyes, she wasn't wrong. Thanks, the ferret said before vanishing in a plume of smoke. He reminds of Gamakaki and his brother. Naruto sighed, wondering how those two were after all this time. Now that is handled. Gaara, finally free of the girl, sat back in his chair. Let's start by sharing the information we know about this Akatsuki. Naruto and Fu sat down in chairs and told him everything they knew. Haiden possessed some kind of immortality and they had to seal him away. Kakuzu actually fought the first Hokage and lived, not to mention what Fu knew about the Earth Fear Grudge technique. Gaara made a mental note to request that Shibuki give him all the details. Before I was banished, Itake and his partner Kisame tried to capture me. Naruto wrapped up the last bit of information. Pervy Sage Jiraiya was the one who drove them away, so he knows more on it I'm sure. I'll bring up the topic next time a Konoha group comes by, Gaara told him. In the past, you would have been more eager to test yourself against such an enemy. Maybe, but I was also a genin who won a match by farting on accident, Naruto chuckled, before becoming dead serious. These guys aren't a joke, Gaara, they're hunting Baijuyu, which takes major balls, and personally, while Haiden was an idiot, he was skilled enough to warrant a threat. The book lists something about a ritual that made Haiden cause injuries to his opponent by licking their blood. If I didn't have the training from the temple and my travels to fall back on or didn't reach Fu in time, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Good point, Gaara acknowledged. Gaara, this means that you'll be a target too, Cage or not. Naruto looked him in the eye. You're my friend and I don't want to risk leaving you on your own in case one of them comes after you, so I want to do to you the same thing I did to Fu, placing a seal that will allow me to jump to your location through a space-time jutsu. It was based on my father's Flying Thunder God technique, but unlike him I can only place it on living things from animals to humans right now. That technique was, yes, Minato Namikaze's signature technique, along with the Raiznan. Naruto nodded. They were both my birthright as his and Kushina Uzumaki's son. Gaara blinked and he nodded. I've seen his picture and noticed the resemblance a few days ago, but I thought it would be best for you to tell me yourself. How no one in your village knew escapes me, let alone how they would treat their fourth's heir. That's part of the reason I no longer like Konoha, Naruto said coldly. Forget that I'm the son of the fourth, I learned humility growing up, and rational thinking during my stay at the Wind Temple, but the fact that they would treat any orphan like they did over something they had no control over was something I'm not willing to overlook. That was the reason my mother hid her status as the previous Jinchuriki of Kurama the Kyuubi. Naruto explained how someone manipulated the fact that when he was born the seal weakened. The masked man arrived and broke Kyuubi out to unleash his vengeance on Konoha. His father and mother died, but the Kyuubi caught the memory of them sealing their chakra into the seal. I am mad that Kurama inevitably did lead to my parents' death, but the blame isn't solely on him. It was the balance of power that the nations are striving for and the bastard who had a Sharingan that caused it all. Kurama and his siblings only followed the words of their father and they were betrayed by humanity. I'm working on making an array that will block out yin chakra from affecting them, rendering them immune to genjutsu. Jinchuriki who have their partners backing are protected, but we can't do the same to the Baijuyu because we normally only pull out their chakra, not the other way around. I see, Gaara said, digesting the information. I'll consent to having the seal installed once it is finished, as well as the time-space technique. Shukaku and I aren't on the best of terms, but even he doesn't deserve to be enslaved to the point his own thoughts were manipulated. I'd like to apply the seal as soon as possible, Naruto said. Also, can Fu and I have a place to crash for a few days? I'll need to get her some new clothes and things since we left most of her stuff behind. Shibuki had her things sealed away, but the ferret I sent out won't be able to get it here for a few days. You can stay at my manor, Gaara said. His father had a place that could easily house 10 people without any problems, and since the only people staying there were him, his siblings, and Matsuri, there was enough free space. Of course, Matsuri slept separate from Gaara for now. They couldn't advance in their relationship for various reasons right now. One was too nervous and the other was too stoic. By the way, Gaara added, the Wind Daimyo is still in the village. I believe she will be departing tomorrow morning. You should visit her beforehand. I can't wait to meet her, Fu chimed in. I wanted to see the other girl who had my Naruto open up after his time in the Wind Temple. Can we go tonight? It's not too late. Certain gears in Naruto's head were turning at the thoughts. A night with 2 girls, one of whom has already consented into adding another one, and a good chance of the other being willing. He wouldn't force it of course, but maybe if he taught Fu how to use shadow clones even though he couldn't make the seals for it, he knew the proper chakra balance and could explain the signs and motions. Jackpot, he muttered absent-mindedly. With a certain pervy sage, something potentially wonderful for research is going to happen. The white-haired sage reached for a notebook but froze. But where? Konoha, 1 day later, Hokage's office. Tsunade wasn't very happy right now. Just when Naruto reappeared, the organization known as Akatsuki that Jiraiya was tracking started to move again. She received notice of the subsequent attack, capture, and then emancipation of Taki's Jinchuriki by Akatsuki judging from the scrap of cloak they sent. She needed to know where Naruto was, but the Wind Daimyo and Kaze Cage weren't exactly being helpful at the moment. The responses were written in a formal tone, but the underlying message was clear from both of them. Who I hire is none of your business since he isn't yours anymore. From the Wind Daimyo. He was here, but I didn't have the authority or a reason to detain him nor inform you of his arrival at the time or future arrivals. From Gaara. She didn't blame them. Even though she reduced the civilian council by a third in the subsequent years, surprisingly with the elders' help, they were still a thorn to deal with. Although it helped that a few more of them were caught being involved in something they shouldn't have been and killed in the process. She thinks Danzo might be cleaning house on the more liable members and sending a message to the rest. He probably didn't like the whole sealing the weapons abilities deal and the resulting fallout either. Still, she had to send someone to Suna on the off chance that Naruto was there, to warn him of the danger and bring him back, preferably by choice rather than force. That was when the team walked in. Kakashi, Sai, Sakura, and Suzuki. Tsunade called out to the Jonin and his Chuyunin team. You are to go to Suna and personally inform the Kaze Cage of some sensitive information involving a certain group. Unofficially, you are to see if Naruto Uzumaki is there and convince him to return to the village peacefully. Force is an absolute last resort. So, the rumors were true then. Kakashi mused, a gleam of hope in his visible eye. You'd think Ninja would know better than to spread rumors on sensitive information. Tsunade rubbed her head. Niji hadn't said anything to the public, but somehow the information leaked that he was in Suna with the Wind Daimyo and left in the cover of night, and that led to another council meeting. After all this time, Suzuki closed his eyes. We've finally gotten a lead on him, but can you honestly blame him for not wanting to return? No, I can't. Tsunade added. But, the information that Gaara needs passed along to him by Kakashi is relevant to why we need to get to him, for his own safety. We'll have the village protect him like it should have been. Tsunade took great pride in the fact that she had broken the Avengers' desire to join Orochimaru. After he recovered, she personally dragged him off with Jiraiya for a week. Most of the public thought she put him under a genjutsu to make him more sympathetic to Naruto, but that wasn't the case. Genjutsu would have been nicer. Instead, she showed him the medical reports of what the Cursed Seal did to the Sound Five and how it devastated their organs and internal workings, how it affected their mentality, and then showed him all the experiments that they knew Orochimaru to do. That put a small wedge in his faith in the man, before they forced his Sharingan to activate with a seal and memorize every detail and the pictures of the victims before and after he got done. That took about 3 days, and with the Sharingan, he wouldn't forget it. Then they took him into a separate room in the Hokage archives, filled with cabinets of reports that lined the room. They were all about Naruto. Every single incident he was blamed for and proven innocent, attempted murders, and other things. That took 3 more days, and once again, he wouldn't forget it. Naruto knew pain even greater than his own, and now Suzuki knew it. Lastly, she told him that there was evidence that Sarutobi left to Jiraiya, originally planning to have Jiraiya take the hat. When Jiraiya found out Itachi was in Akatsuki, he told Sarutobi, and the old man informed him of what really happened to the Uchiha and what they were planning, leaving all the mission details and scrolls with Jiraiya, as well as a psychological evaluation of Itachi and Sarutobi's personal thoughts on the fact that they believed Itachi wouldn't kill the kids and he couldn't have done it alone. His brother was looking for death and had left him to do so and avenge the clan. He loved his family, but what they were planning to do, they were going to kill clan heirs and civilians in the process, children too, and weaken the village in their takeover. His brother loved the village enough to betray his family in hopes of avoiding another war. But honestly, he had horrible people skills. Suzuki didn't like what his family had become before their end, and he couldn't completely forgive Itachi or the village. He wasn't loyal to the village itself, but for Tsunade to open his eyes to his mistake in trying to follow Orochimaru and revealing a truth the rest would let be taken to the grave, he had trusted her and the pervert sage for the better part of 4 years. It also helped that they didn't constantly try to kiss up to him. When will people learn? Sakura said nothing, wisely. She had too damn much potential to not be a medic, but the little tart was still nursing a grudge over her precious Suzuki being hurt and blaming the fact that he wouldn't return her affections on that. Honestly, how did she expect the mission to end when he left on his own free will? There was going to be fighting involved. Kakashi went through the motions of having lost a student regardless and realized he could have done a better job with both Naruto and Sakura. He tried to put more effort into teaching Sakura in the Genjutsu department now, but she wouldn't stand out more until she stopped trying to win Suzuki's heart and blaming it on Naruto. Sai, well, he's Sai. That should explain enough. You leave in 2 hours to head towards the border between the Land of Wind and the Land of Fire, she ordered. Land of Fire/Land of Wind border. Suzuki was leaning against the wall inside a housing building for those crossing the border during a particularly bad sandstorm. It was like a hotel with lousy service. In the room with him were Sai, Sakura, and Kakashi. Upon arriving, the team was informed that a sandstorm had suddenly appeared, and since traveling through sandstorms were a surefire way to get lost in the desert, they weren't allowed to cross just yet. At least that was the cover story. While the Suna ninja didn't show any hostility or anxiety, the group knew better and was taught to see underneath the underneath. Most likely they were being stalled, and they knew that if they did anything suspicious they'd be turned away. Still, Kakashi wasn't an idiot or blind. So he had Sai send several of his ink mice towards Suna under the cover of night, where they went unnoticed as they passed two men in cloaks with red clouds. Kazeki's private training ground at night. Naruto sat on the ground in a lotus position, calm and relaxed within the secluded place where Gaara did some of his more private training. The last 2 days were spent hanging around with Fu and getting her introduced to the Sand siblings, along with Matsuri and Kanna. Naruto enjoyed that night with Kanna and Fu, who used the shadow clone technique to do things that went well with his stamina. He had to remember to thank Jiraiya for his part in inspiring Fu with his Ika Ika series, after kicking his ass for spying on his parents, on the night of his conception. Damn pervy sage and demon fox. That memory will never leave him alone. Extending his territory, Naruto felt the near-absent life around him on the surface of the desert sands, despite the drop in the temperature as night fell. Taking a deep breath, he guided his chakra into the loose sand to occupy the space between it and detect the life forms hiding beneath the surface. Naruto's territory could peer into water and sand with ease, while forcing it into something like solid rock was difficult. Naruto felt the presence of a scorpion creeping behind him beneath the sand, curious and unaware if he was a predator. Naruto stilled the chakra around the scorpion and then used shape manipulation to shape it into a box and temper it into a solid form. Exhaling, he willed the box to move and it rose inside his domain, the scorpion and the layer of sand it hid beneath inside of it. The box appeared to float around him, when actually he used mental effort and chakra control inside his territory to push the box. Once it was face to face with Naruto, he stared at the scorpion without any emotion on his face, despite its stinger lashing out against the box in fear. Taking another deep breath, he smiled and gently pushed the box 50 feet away before lowering it to the surface of the sand. Careful, he released the box and the scorpion darted away from him. Curiosity killed more than a cat. Standing, Naruto forced chakra into his feet and leapt into the air. As he reached the summit of his jump, he recreated the box. He sealed the scorpion in and solidified it beneath his feet, giving him a foothold in the sky. Kicking off it, he somersaulted and fell towards the ground with his arms spread. When he neared the ground, he shaped 9 small boxes in a circle around him and increased the density of chakra around them to form 9 chakra chains with the same point of origin, each attached to one of the boxes. They functioned as a net, as he landed upright on his right foot. Extending his hand in a claw-like manner towards a large stone, he commanded the chakra to become a second set of fingers. Swiftly swinging them down, the chakra lashed out against the stone and created decent-sized gashes. The Temple of Enlightenment was called Naruto's territory for a reason. The area filled with his chakra operates according to his control. The chakra lacing the air can make it blow or become a blade, the chakra in the sand can capture and shape it, and nothing was out of his reach. But the greater the area under his influence, the lower the control he has. In addition, the technique can be disturbed by someone with enough chakra or control. Part of the reason the technique was so effective was that it was unknown to the majority of those who would pursue him, but information was the key to battles and he wanted to maintain his secrecy. He would only use this against someone who could actually see chakra as an absolute last resort. With his exercises done, he made his way to Fu's side. It was times like this he wished he had perfected his father's Hiraishin the Flying Thunder God technique, but unfortunately, he would need a greater reference than his mother's memories. If only there were someone living who could advise him. Back in Konoha, the 3 members of the 4th Hokage's private guards all sneezed at once. With Fu, the green-haired Kunoichi was currently lying on her bed at Gaara's manor and reading more of Jiraiya's literature when she noticed her lover walk in. "Hey, Naruto?" Fu pointed to a page in her book. "Can we try this tonight?" Naruto went over to read what she was proposing, before his entire face went red and he backed away slowly. He enjoyed sex, but he wasn't a hopeless pervert like Jiraiya, and there were some things even the self-proclaimed super pervert won't do. Naruto doubted he could even get as many girls at once that they referenced the previous night. How he got the research for such a thing will escape Naruto's mind forever, but it was an abomination to all but those who worshipped the ground the author wrote on and carried his books like a religious text. Land of Wind/Land of Fire border. Kakashi was reading said unspeakable acts when he sneezed. "Did you catch a cold, sensei?" Sakura asked. Back with Fu. "Remember what I've said about limitations," he reminded her. "You consented to doing anything I wanted already," Fu told him, getting off the bed. "When was that?" he asked. "The night we were with Kanna," she crossed her arms. "After the clones. You never go back on your word, right?" "Now, Fu," Naruto muttered, as Fu inched towards him with a predatory look on her face, her mind thinking of several ways to try this. It didn't help that Chume was giving her advice and Kurama was laughing his tails off. That's not fair, no man would be thinking rationally then. Kinky things that pervy sage indirectly corrupted her with aside, Fu was a great woman. Strong, smart, reliable, caring, she was perfect for him. Hell, Naruto could see raising a family with her. They'd have to keep privacy seals in the bedroom, due to her insatiable behavior at times, but other than that, Naruto. Few pounced and he wound up with his back against the wall and few pressed against him. Don't resist, just enjoy. But I need to save my energy to apply the seal on Gaara tomorrow. Naruto made one last desperate plea, but it fell on deaf ears. Before she could act, Naruto's ears twitched and he looked out the window as a muffled explosion went off nearby. It was accompanied by a small flash that illuminated a portion of the night sky, and a white bird with a male ninja in a black cloak with red clouds being chased by sand. Salvation, I mean. Oh no! Akatsuki's attacking. I'd better go help Gaara, Naruto said, before he leaped out the window. I'm killing them for this, Fu muttered under her breath and started getting dressed for combat. I was so close. With Gaara. White wings of clay took to the desert sky of the night, avoiding a barrage of sand tendrils that slid through the air and grated against each other while acting like the sand Jinchuriki's limbs. Golden hair swayed in the air, as smaller clay birds were released and swatted from the sky. Not bad. Deidara chirped as twin tendrils lashed out and batted him off his ride and towards the ground. The sand darted to catch him from above and below, entrapping him, but the clay bird swooped in and retrieved him in time. That was pretty close. You won't get away in one piece, Gaara told the Akatsuki member. Sand gathered behind him in the shape of compressed spheres and became bullets. Leaving a trail that shimmered in the moonlight, they flew towards the clay bird whose acrobatic superiority saved its master from a death without grace. The city became an obstacle course as they navigated throughout it with agility. Through the looping passages and roads, around the buildings and towers, they flew. The exchange of bombs and sand woke the sleeping residents who witnessed the flight of their leader as the Akatsuki member rose higher into the sky. Pretty good, Deidara mused before he pulled out a clay figure. But this is it, for you and the whole village. The clay figure became a giant and followed the whims of gravity. Falling towards the village below, the blast element-infused clay would rupture and bestow the art of death in an instant. Gaara's eyes widened and then steeled themselves. Sky sand defensive wall, he raised his arms and the sand obeyed. Towers of sand rose at the beckoning of the Desert Master, the fifth Kaze Cage. Spreading like a great wave and then hardening, the sandspout separated the village from the explosion that lit up the night sky with a hue of destruction, as a certain blonde watched on and made his way towards them. Gaara leaned on one knee as he dealt with the exhaustion from the effort of raising the wall to protect his village. Blocking that is amazing. Deidara commented, and Gaara glared. The sound of shifting sand and the all-consuming shadow were the only warnings he got as twin-tipped sand arms began to enclose the very sky. Sand prison, Gaara announced, and the sphere of sand was sealed. Blast! Deidara's voice echoed and his bird exploded, leaving a gap in the prison for him to fall through. As he made his way to the earth and sand tendrils rained from above, the mouth on the left hand spat a certain figure and filled it with chakra. A plume of smoke gave way to another bird and he landed on it in a crouch as they pulled away. Gaara raised his hand and concentrated. The sand of the desert ruptured and roared as the head of Shikaku took form. Deidara hovered in place at the sight. Whoa, he muttered, relatively impressed before he took off. Guess I'll back off for now. The mouth of the Ichibai raccoon's avatar opened. Sand and demonic chakra of the Baijuyu merged and swirled to the fierce howl of wind and sand. Gaara's eyes glowed a luminous golden for but a brief moment as he took aim. Hear the howl of the desert, he ominously proclaimed. Roar of Shukaku. The trigger was pulled. The light of the golden roar painted the night sky and parted the clouds while the desert sands were pushed back in the shockwave. The wrath of the desert was unleashed in its entirety. The flight of the explosive artist was cut short as the light consumed him, his only salvation with the detonation of the bird carrying him allowing him to escape the full force of the blast. He fell to earth as the form of Shikaku faded. With Naruto. How come every Jinchuriki I meet has some cool technique or bloodline ability and I only get stuck with faster healing? Naruto said to no one in particular. I want to blow stuff up too. Kurama chuckled. I guess this would be a bad time to tell you about one of my tail beast skills then? You've been holding out on me? In my defense, imagine if you had access to that kind of firepower when you were a small kid. The village would have burned down. Well, I couldn't really care about that, but you'd most likely have killed yourself. We'll discuss this as we make our way to Gaara. Naruto closed and started leaping over rooftops, the buzzing of beetles following him. With Gaara. Gaara made his way towards the fallen form of Deidara on a rooftop that served as his final resting place. His breath ran ragged from the exhaustion of the fight. Lethargy set in as the adrenaline faded from his system. Is it over, then? I would say, not. The voice of the explosive artist came from behind the weary Kaze cage. He turned to face his hunter while the fallen figure lost its color and became clay once again. That was pretty close, Deidara admitted. He took that and still, Gaara's thoughts ran rampant. But, he formed the seal of the explosion with his right hand. In the end, victory's mine. Clay spiders broke through the sand gourd and crept along Gaara's body. Before he could mutter a word or protect himself, the final words were spoken. Blast! The spiders ruptured and the blast element was ignited within. Point-blank explosions rocked the rooftop as the Kazekige's body stood at ground zero. He fell to his knees and was consumed by the rising tower of constant explosions, and smoke rose in the air with the scent of charred flesh. The sand armor protecting his body was cracked and exposed raw skin beneath. The Kazekage fell into oblivion. Man, he approached the fallen Jinhyuriki, his hands chewing a new sculpture. That took some doing. Mixing detonating clay and the sand in the gourd, a smirk etched its way across his face. You weren't giving me any openings, either. You're as tough as I figured, Kazekage. The clay expanded to form another fowl with more girth than his regular breed. All right. Now I'm gonna take you someplace fun. I don't think so, roared another voice. On instinct, Deidara leapt to the right and off the rooftop, his left spitting out another bird to ride on. The carrier game that was to house the Kazekige's body was split in two by a blue crescent arc that cleaved through the figure, and an explosion rocked the rooftop. Standing amidst the dancing flames and formless smoke, a cloaked figure stepped from the backdrop without injury. The wavering air added to his presence and was blown away as his chakra roared with fury. There, wrapped in a blue aura, stood Naruto, brandishing his chakra broadsword of Uzushio. Naruto, a second figure, hovered next to him, her green hair shifting in the wind. Green hair, wings, blonde hair, whisker marks. Deidara pooled his observations into a single thought. Nanabe and Kuwabai. Get Gaara to the hospital. Fu told her lover. I've got this. Alright, but be careful. He deferred to her wishes and hoisted Gaara over his shoulder. He's got an IWA band, and that clay is probably earth element, so lightning will short it out. These guys move in a pair, so I'll search for any out-of-place signatures and find the other one. Naruto leapt off the rooftop that smoldered with his old friend in tow. Another two Jinhyuriki? Sasaridana won't be happy that one got away, but maybe if I bring this one or the other one. Deidara checked his supplies. I'm glad I bought extra clay. Now then. Fu looked at the artist being hoisted in the air by his artwork, her wings glistening in the moonlight among burning orange that contaminated the sky. Water gathered into her hand and took the form of a curved blade. Payback for ruining my Naruto time. From above, a horde of beetles descended upon the artist, whose creation took off like a jet. He's too fast for the beetles right now. Spreading her wings, the Jinhyuriki took flight and flew after the artist. Come on, Deidara chided the Jinhyuriki. Let me show you a night on the town. I'm sure we'll have a blast. The pair began the dance of the sky once again, with bombs exploding in the background. With Sasori. What is taking him so long? The puppet master of Legend sighed. He hated waiting, despite being a puppet and therefore having all the time in the world. I am going to turn him into a human puppet for this. A wave of chakra washed over the puppet master and his steel tail whipped. Leaving a silver arc in the air, the metal batted away the projectiles that came towards him. His gaze was drawn to the figure landing ahead of him. This was unexpected. Sasori mused. Chakra needles. Looks like Kakuza didn't gloss over your growth when it comes to using chakra constructs after all. Akatsuki. Naruto pulled out the pole and formed a blade for combat. It's time for the hunters to become the hunted. Is that so? Sasori chuckled lightly. Then he ripped off his mask and exposed the puppet's mouth. The slots of the mouth slid down and a barrage of silver senbon rained down forward towards the Jinhyuriki in a spread pattern. Heading to the left or right would hold no salvation for those caught in the spray. One touch would mean a long death. Yet, Naruto advanced forward. The slicing of the air as the senbon passed by, the clashing of the chakra blade against the metal, the sand being littered with the needles of death, these constant sounds echoed throughout the night air outside the walls of the village hidden in the sand. You saw through it. He raised the arm that held dozens of cylinders attached to a larger one and launched it into the sky. It spun and released the cylinders, which further split into a shower of senbon that dotted the sky silver. How about this? Naruto howled and flared his chakra outward. The pulse it released batted the needles out of the sky and sent them spiraling around the Jinhyuriki, who continued his charge towards the puppet master with a fist shrouded in the white cloak of wind chakra and a chakra blade in the other. The steel tail of the Akatsuki member flashed and made its way towards Naruto. Skidding along the desert sands, he twisted and avoided the piercing edge that refracted the moonlight in his eyes as he passed with his blade arcing. Drawing a blue crescent arc, it cleaved through the tail. Shatter! Naruto finished his rotation and slammed his fist into Sasori's body. Hardliner Gale Fist. A cloud of sand was thrown into the air. The sound of crushed wood echoed with the sound of explosives from the village. Splinters fell like leaves as the cloud of sand cleared and Naruto leapt back. You've proven yourself worthy of learning my name. A red-headed boy appeared from the remains of the broken puppet while donning the cloak of Akatsuki. My name is Sasori of the Red Sand. Allow me to show you my masterpiece. He unraveled a scroll. With Fu and Deidara, two ninja danced in the night sky as the villagers watched below the dazzling yet deadly display above them. The sky would be filled with bolts of blue lightning 1 second and orange flames and smoke the next. The flapping of the clay fowl's wings was met with the buzzing of insect wings. These are a lot faster. Deodara launched numerous quad-winged creatures at the caramel-toned woman with mint green hair. They swiveled and darted in a helix pattern toward Fu before accelerating. Fu twisted her body and ascended toward the moon, 2 blades of hardened water in her hands. Her figure became silhouetted against the moon along with dozens of dots that represented her flying beetles. Halting in midair, her wings folded while lightning climbed into her blades and she fell to earth. Twin trails of lightning circled into their own helix as she spiraled toward the ground. The quad wings that failed to break away from their ascent were cut down and riddled with lightning to diffuse them. The pieces fell with Fu until she opened her wings and fluttered parallel to a small oasis below with the clay game's carpet bombing from above which exploded on impact and threw up spouts of water. Deodara looked on as his hands were producing more sculptures. He abandoned his current ride instantly when a shadow descended from the sky above. Hidden in the darkness of the night were the beetles Fu had before her descent. Blast! The large bird exploded with enough force to light up a tenth of Suna as it incinerated the insects. With a flick of his wrist and a bit of chakra he landed on a more slender bird than the bulky one he had before. He applied chakra to his feet and leaned back as far as he could as the lightning streaming blades crossed at the point where his head once was. Meeting Fu's gaze with a smirk, he tossed up 5 clay figures that became spiders and were heading for the Jinhuriki while forming the seal for his element. Blurs from dragonflies that Fu gathered from the oasis nearby tore past and captured the spiders as he muttered the trigger phrase and the explosion was set off to the side, sending both of them into a spiral, recovery, and subsequent chase once again. Have you ever experienced the art of a single moment? He asked the fleeting Jinhuriki of the sky as his hands began jointly chewing a large amount of clay from his pouch. That single moment where true beauty takes hold and shines while leaving an unforgettable memory. Yes, although it's only seen when I'm with Naruto. Fu replied while she began infusing lightning chakra into her cylinder. I'll never forget those moments in my life. Deodara smirked, as both his hands spat out another sculpture that fell while he ascended. Sending his current method of transportation on a crash course, he released all the remaining pre-made figures into the sky save for one and they became a flock of birds of prey while Fu's cheeks puffed out and she gathered chakra into it. Hidden art, hiding in scale powder, she mentally recited as the powder blanketed the sky and refracted moonlight to create a blinding glare. Deodara released his chakra grip on the bird and fell, while Fu unleashed her lightning chakra-infused beetles and they scattered. The birds swarmed on her supposed location hidden in the light and impacted with each other to set off a chain reaction that she avoided. Fu dove toward Deodara who had gotten himself a new ride. A much bigger ride. C2, Dragon. Deodara looked smugly at the Jinhuriki. This would be the moment where you flee. Lucky 7. I'm running low on chakra, Fu telepathically told her tenant as she took to the skies with a predator in tow. Well Fu girl, that's what happens when you converted so much into lightning and fed the little ones. Shumei chided her. I can give you a quick refill, but you'll be feeling the effects for the next few days depending on how much. Just enough for summoning a large water beetle. Fu abandoned her water blades and flew beyond the walls of the village while avoiding roughly a dozen mini dragons with main one trailing. Got it, but you'll be feeling buggy for the next 3 days. Shumei flared its chakra over the girl and a thin green outline formed. Her pupils became compounded and glowed green. Her wings flapped faster and she accelerated, rising into the sky and going through hand seals until summoning a large beetle with sapphire scales that the moonlight washed over appeared. The beetle's elytra were opened while its hind wings moved too fast to be seen as anything but a blur. What is the meaning of summoning me in the middle of a desert, young one? The beetle complained. I am better suited for aquatic ventures or areas with more moisture. Just because you hold the Great One does not mean you can summon me in such an environment. Sorry Misama, but I need you to spray the area, Fu begged. Fine. The summoning bellowed before converting its chakra and opening its mandibles. Water sprayed out in a fine mist of condensation and hung in the air before the summoning vanished. I'm all wet. Deodara shrugged, until he heard the buzzing of beetles around his main ride and saw several small beetles with translucent abdomens, filled with. Sorry little ones, Fu muttered to the tiny insects before giving the final command. Hidden art, flash beetle bomb. The beetles shone with the flash of life before their abdomens burst and released the lightning into the cloud of mist. Lightning jumped from water particle to water particle, arching lightning conducted and was sent throughout the air. The dragons and the artist fell to the desert sands below with a loud thud and impact cloud. Fu lowered herself gently until she was hovering over the artist who was burned and smoldering. How? His voice came out rasp and weak. His organs were failing, ruptured from the electricity flowing throughout his body. My beetles were infused with a majority of my converted lightning chakra, she told the dying artist. As a result, they become no different than your explosives. They shine for but a brief moment to kill an enemy and then return to the world as ashes. Heh. A soft but fragile smile graced his lips. Beautiful. With those last words, the artist known as Deodara passed from the impure world and his body went still. He used a final lightning technique to ensure his clay was completely diffused and his body was dead, before placing his corpse in a preservation storage scroll. You may have been an enemy, but nevertheless, rest in peace. With Sasori. Iron Sand, Drizzle, the puppet master announced. The greatest puppet in Sasori's arsenal had been released, the third Kaze cage. The gathered iron sand was fired like bullets towards the Uzumaki, who had to reseal his conducting rod as the metal construct was constantly being drawn by magnetic field and raised a barrier with chakra chains as a cloud of dust was throwing up. The shots halted once visibility was lost. Sasori's fingers stood rigid, his puppet hovering over his right shoulder. They twitched and began a complex pattern as a barrage of chakra needles were fired from the cloud to bring up a wall of iron sand. It was then a shadow grew on the ground and Sasori looked up. Naruto's hand was wreathed in chakra and formed the blade he once showed Gaara. Swinging the blade down, he severed the chakra strings as Sasori jumped back and sent the puppet to the ground with a side kick as the iron sand lost control. Sasori extended his hands and a tube emerged from both palms. A stream of pressurized water was fired at the Uzumaki Jinchuriki, who dodged as he felt the thin streams within his territory. Once he used up the water, Naruto acted. Rain down, his blonde hair ruffled as he raised his hand. Dozens of chakra needles were shaped above Sasori from Naruto's chakra permeating his territory. They flew towards the androgynous man. Sasori hopped lightly on his feet and avoided the barrage. Finishing with a dodge roll, he extended his hands and chakra strings were launched from all 10 fingers. The right 5 connected with Naruto's forearm and sent it curved towards his head with the chakra blade active and forced him to drop the shape manipulation to avoid decapitating himself before streaming chakra into his free hand and severing the strings attached with them. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt movement behind him and somersault backward. The third Kaze cage puppet's claws and saw cut off a tuft of hair as he landed and slid back. He looked up in curiosity as the iron sand gathered into the sky and formed a dense sphere that hovered above the center of the battlefield. Iron Sand, Needle Sphere. The sphere ruptured and iron spikes were launched from the sky and Naruto ran. Swerving left and right, jumping backward and rolling forward at opportune moments, he avoided the constructs that littered the sky and ground. He slid to a halt when the downpour stopped. Then spikes shot out like thorny tendrils from the implanted construct and Naruto dodged as best he could but was scraped on various points of his body before they formed a cage. It's over. Sasori told him. My poison is in your system. Unless you receive the antidote from me, you'll die painfully in 3 days. Naruto smirked as his chakra blade vibrated using chakra control and became shrouded in white wind chakra. The blade flashed as he swung it and cut through his cage. Poison doesn't work on me. I may have over-relied on it. Sasori thought before replying. Let's test your resistance then. You don't need all of your limbs anyway. Iron Sand gathered, sword. The sand took on the shape of blades. With a twitch of the finger, the puppet's magnetic field gathered the senbon from the desert sand that were used earlier and embedded them inside the blades to make an even more lethal weapon. That might do the trick, the Uzumaki muttered. For someone who needs Jinchuriki alive, you sure as hell are going for a lot of kill strikes. Even if it takes a few years, the Kyuubi will reform eventually. The Kaze cage puppet clacked. I think I'll turn you into a puppet and add you to my collection. I can replace anything missing. The blades fell with the aid of gravity. The puppet's chest cavity opened and a burst of chakra made the blades fall faster. The last visible sight of Naruto was his widening eyes turning red with slits with pupils as the impact threw up a cloud of sand and the shockwave shattered the chakra control that maintained the Temple of Enlightenment. Oh, for father's sake, what are you waiting for? The fox howled as his host leapt back out of the cloud with enhanced speed and landed on all fours. The scrapes on his body were evaporating as steam poured from his body. Breaking down this poison in your system isn't easy when you keep getting bathed in it. I'm up against a fucking cage, puppet or not. It's like fighting Gaara but with poison instead of crushing. Are you that daft? Kit, Kurama sighed. All those books and scrolls you've read since your exile and you never picked up a chemistry one? Iron Sand's main component is magnetite, which loses its charge once sufficiently heated. How do you know that? He mentally questioned his tenant. I've been around since the Sage of the Six Paths' final days. My hosts have both been involved in the Great Wars. Do you honestly think either I or they wouldn't have learned the abilities of an enemy cage? Kurama snorted. Just roast the damn sand already. I don't have a fire seal scroll on me right now. I didn't think I'd need to make one just yet and I'm not a fire user. Naruto paused. Well, I guess we could use that skill you've been holding out on me. The heat from my Baijuyu skill depends on the number of tails I'm using. Your 3-tailed state should be enough to disrupt the magnetism from the puppet and charcoal it into kindling. You'll also have a dry throat after this. Naruto's whisker marks became engorged. A crimson shroud emerged from his body and took shape as bits of his skin began to peel. Donning his 3-tailed state, a murderous grin spread across his face as he howled to the heavens. This does not bode well. The puppeteer felt alarmed and metallic protrusions emerged from his back as Naruto gathered air and chakra into his lungs and his chest and cheeks swelled. Nine-tailed fox fire stream. Scarlet tongues of fire raced across the desert and roared. The sky grew blood-red as it flared and turned the sand into molten glass from contact with the flames that devoured the iron sand and the third Kaze cage puppet. The puppeteer decided to cut his losses and took to the skies. The blades on his back rotated and he flew off in the distance while Naruto slowly exited his tailed beast state exhausted. Damn it, Naruto swore while he clenched his dry throat and coughed. He got out of my range in the middle of the attack, now even puppets can fly. Kurama scoffed. You've still got a long way to go. Once all this is over, you better make some more sealing scrolls and train from those samurai in iron. And hurry up with that genjutsu blocking array. You won't be able to fight that masked man when he returns at this rate, and I'll be damned if I fall under his control again. Damn Sharingan users. Whatever, Naruto stood upright. At least Akatsuki is 2 members down now if you took care of the other one. Naruto began to make his way back to the village to check on his lover and friend. As he passed the gap of the defenses that served as the entrance, he failed to notice the legion of black mice that hid in the shadows. The mice looked at each other and established 2 groups, all but one to carry the information they had back to their master, the last to trail Naruto, who joined up with Kankuro. It slipped inside the puppet on his back. Kazekige's office. Gaara donned his hat once again after leaving the hospital despite the doctor's insistence. In his office were the 2 other Jinchuriki, his brother, and an elderly pair of siblings. To think my grandson went so far as to turn himself into a puppet. The elderly woman sighed. He even killed the third Kaze cage and turned him into one as well. Indeed, the older man shook his head. How did Akatsuki get past our village defenses without raising an alarm? Gaara asked. His brother stepped up. Yura, he sabotaged and killed the guards at the entrance. Kankuro told him. I was in the middle of a fight with him when I saw Naruto heading to confront Sasori, but by the time I finished, the third Kaze cage had been unleashed and I doubted I could keep up as a puppeteer. You couldn't, the woman chuckled. Only someone of my skill would be able to keep up with my grandson now. If it bothers you that much, I'll see about giving you some hands-on training. Still, this poses a bit of a problem. Chobie-sama is correct. Gaara rubbed his forehead. Konoha has a team waiting at the border and I can't hold them there for another day without reason. Naruto, while you and Fu are both technically free of any village, I'm sure they've heard rumors of your arrival and will need to relocate the pair of you until they leave. That's fine, but where? Fu asked while nursing a steadily growing headache from Chumei's tainted chakra. The Wind Daimyo and I were going through her father's predecessor's assets and found a certain hidden piece of property. Gaara referred to the Wind Daimyo whose greed helped trigger the invasion years ago. Only she, Matsuri, Temari, Kankuro, and I know of its location. That place was great, Kankuro nodded. It was like a desert paradise. Given how much it cost, I wouldn't be surprised if a good portion of the budget that was supposed to be used to support Suna as retainers went into it. Regardless, Gaara sighed. This will be the perfect location for you to hide. The villagers are grateful for your help and will stay silent, but rumors will leak somehow. I'm not foolish enough to doubt that we have spies in our ranks. Alright, but can we have a few hours to restock on supplies? Naruto asked. I need to resupply my sealing materials and get some new clothes since the ones I'm wearing are shredded. Also, I need to apply the seal array to you in case this crap happens again. Matsuri and Kankuro will escort you both to the safe house after the seal is applied and supplies are bought. Gaara droned. Also, about that matter involving the Suna contractors we discussed. It's done and they'll arrive on the location shortly. Contractors. Kankuro looked at the blonde. We're keeping it a secret for now, but let's just say that it was money well spent on a future project. 2 days later, Team Kakashi finally arrived at Suna. The ink mice made it back to Sai, who recorded a transcript and log of the conversations, as well as visual information in the form of pictures on a book. After Sai passed out from chakra exhaustion, they stayed 1 day to discuss matters before they were given permission to cross now that the sandstorm had settled. While Sai passed by Kankuro, the ink mouse in the puppet that went unnoticed melted and shot up the inker's leg and into a container. When he sat down and poured the ink onto a map, it created a black trail indicating the path the puppeteer took to the safe house and back. He rolled it up and joined his teammates minus Kakashi, who was meeting with Gaara. Kakashi, hey take. Gaara looked at the bandaged Jonin and activated a privacy seal. What happened to you? One of your elderly shinobi mistook me for my father. He scratched the back of his head. My apologies. Chobie-sama is getting along in years. The matter has been settled at the very least, he chuckled before getting serious. Anyway, we came to tell you about an organization named Akatsuki, but you seem to have run into them already. Gaara wasn't surprised he knew. That information would have been helpful much sooner, but in the end we were able to drive them off. I've sent the body of one back to IWA. Well, that sandstorm lasted a really long time. Kakashi sighed and then tried to run the guilt angle to ask about Naruto. Otherwise we would have helped and the number of lives lost would be much smaller. Let's stop beating around the bush. Gaara dropped all pretenses. You've known about Akatsuki for years and now you decided to send the information? Right around the time rumors of a certain blonde reached the ears of the Hokage, Kazekage-sama, it was only rumors then, he argued. We only heard whispers and nothing concrete. Despite the fact that they appeared 4 years ago? When they tried and catch Naruto, Gaara glared at the man. It is bad enough that we Jinchuriki are called weapons and scorned for things we had no control over, or that the demons themselves were captured and sealed to start the so-called balance of power and kept as weapons. But it is that type of isolationist thinking that leads to war because of incidents that could have been avoided if the information was shared. Kakashi stood silent. If you raised the alarm then, steps could have been better taken to neutralize the threat they present to the nations that are housing Jinchuriki, and I wouldn't have several dead men and women from the surprise attack. You don't go around hiding the fact that an organization of S-class criminals are targeting those similar to me and then try to slip it in at the last minute in order to guilt me about leaving you at the border while we had a guest. From my point of view, instead of giving all the information about Akatsuki to every nation holding a Jinchuriki, you opted to keep it to yourselves in hopes of letting the rest get captured to weaken them. Your sudden reactions make it clear that you had another goal and not in good faith coming here. Every nation has its secrets. Kakashi made his point, but Gaara had a rebuttal. Maybe, but we're dealing with an international group of cage-level opponents who can overthrow nations, destroy villages with massive bombs, and have had ample time to do whatever the hell they wanted for at least 4 years. They have already attacked Taki and Suna in order to claim their ninja who contain chakra demons, and by now I'm sure they moved on to the others by now. May I inquire how you discovered this information? The copycat asked. My source has first-hand experience, as have I. If the purpose of this visit was to inform me of a threat to my nation, then you have come too late. Tell your Hokage that I will be compiling all the information I have on the subject and sending it to the 5 great nations to take steps to avoid having this incident repeat itself and more of my kin going missing because they weren't aware they were being hunted nor their hunters' capabilities. This meeting is over. Translation, get out now. In an Akatsuki base at the same time. Capture of the Gobi was successful, Itaki announced. Does something smell like steamed shark? Sasori added. Kisame opted to handle him alone and didn't listen when I told him that the Jinchuriki could use steam techniques. So that's what you really look like. Kisame chuckled at Sasori. You look more like a girl than Deidara does. Kakuzu noticed the missing member. Where is Deidara anyway? Dead I'd assume, Sasori mused. Our plan to capture the Ichibai were thwarted by the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I'd hazard a guess that the Nanabi Jinchuriki was there and killed Deidara. It would seem that we've lost another member. Pain solemnly said. Let us mourn for him in privacy once this meeting has concluded. The foxbrat managed to destroy my favorite puppet in Hiriko. Sasori began informing them of Naruto's techniques and skills. Agility, chakra control, and access to a Baijuyu skill. He's becoming a pain to deal with. Send Kisame after him already. Leave the corpse in one piece so I can replace my Kaze cage with him. If it's bloodline bodies you need, I may know a few bounties that can tide you over until then. Kakuzu volunteered. The bodies are mostly intact after I take out their hearts, although I still need a lightning element one. Kakuzu and Sasori, Pain addressed them. You two will work together on bounty hunting and information gathering. You two are to stay away from the Nanabi and Kyuubi at all costs. You're in charge of our finances and information networks. Losing either of you would cripple us further. I'll have Zetsu work together with Toby to find us 2 new recruits and possibly retrieve Deidara's body from IWA if they've sent it for a burial. Itaki and Kisame, capture the Nibi from Kumo. If the two of them continue to be a threat, I shall personally capture them when the time comes. But I want a crack at him. Kisame whined. Come on. He uses fire, I use water. He uses chakra weapons, I have a sword that can eat chakra and massive reserves. Unless you can do those things, I have the best shot. Pain could do all those things, but why argue when Kisame is rationally explaining his point? As long as it leads to peace, it doesn't matter who does it. Fine, but only if you don't have a target at the time. We need him last and try not to kill him or we'll be waiting years for the Kyuubi to reform. He shot a glance at Sasori at that last comment. What? The puppeteer shrugged. So I may have gone a little into the overkill section. He lived and I didn't use my final performance. You and Kakuzu are going to get along fine. Kisame chuckled. Safe house in Land of Wind. Ow. He whined while lying next to Naruto on a bed in her undergarments. Her fingers were wrapped around the amber necklace and charm he gave her. Naruto, it still hurts. Chume warned you that you couldn't take an unrefined chakra with the side effect, Naruto told her while gently kissing her neck and cradling her. Remember, your seal isn't perfect and I still have a long way to go without running the risk of killing you mid-process. I told you, phew girl, Chume chimed in. The effects should fade later today, uh-oh. Just as Chume said that, an alarm seal Naruto set up was triggered and alerted the pair. Intruders, Naruto said as he got out of bed. What do your bugs say? They say it's 4 people. She stretched her arms and a dragonfly landed on it. One smells like tomatoes, one has pink hair and smells like medicine, one has the scent of ink, and the last one has Silvera a hell. Naruto slipped on a new orange long-sleeved shirt and black pants, followed by a hooded cloak similar to what his father wore, but black with orange flames licking the bottom. On the center of the back was an orange spiral inside 9 points that made it look like the sun combined, and around his waist was a belt with scrolls attached. They sent my old team and one other person. Why the belt? She dressed up in shorts and a sleeveless shirt over her chainmail undershirt. She strapped on her cylinder and a new set of forearm bracers from Suna. You have seals all over your body. Because I don't want them to figure that out too soon, and the clothing will probably hinder Kakashi since it'll remind him of my father. It's a tactical advantage, Naruto argued. Plus it looks cool. Point made. Phew agreed before she stumbled slightly and Naruto grabbed her. Phew, you aren't in the best condition right now, he warned her. Kakashi is not a joke, he's up there with Akatsuki members and preaches of teamwork, so they'll probably work together. Neither one of us can risk going into a tailed state right now without losing control. I'm a kunoichi and I won't leave you to fight your old team alone, she countered. Besides, I have a personal grudge against them from everything you've told me. I'm more worried about you losing your temper in the middle of battle and it clouds your judgment. That may be a risk, but I don't plan on a fight to the death in my current condition. I can't use the temple since they have Sharingan and can see chakra, and that's too much to their advantage. Damnable eyes, Kurama roared. He still took being controlled personally. Even if I did kill some of them, I'm sure at least one of them will get away and Konoha will try to use that to get me labeled a threat and Granny Tsunade won't be able to overturn it. I don't like Konoha very much, but I don't want Hunter in after me right now while we have to deal with Akatsuki. Naruto sighed and bit down on his thumb. We simply need to last long enough to get away clean. He rubbed the blood over his summoning seal. We are going to get shit for this if Gaara finds out we're going after Naruto, Sasuke warned Kakashi. I know, he sighed. Legally, he didn't say he was sheltering Naruto, and we'll assume that he's not a citizen of Suna. It's kidnapping. Get over it, duckass, side-chided Sasuke. We're ninja. We're trained weapons to be used for whoever orders us and pays our leader. We kidnap, kill, whatever we're asked. Just because the current and previous Hokage have been lenient on such requests does not mean it doesn't happen. That doesn't mean I like it, and my hair does not look like a duck's ass. Sasuke smacked Sai upside the head. Sakura silently growled. Sasuke-kun, if you want to, then think of it like the time he went to retrieve you and return the favor. That was different and we all know it, he argued. He was banished and had the freedom to leave as long as he didn't become a threat to the village. I tried to defect to a very sick missing nin who assassinated Naruto's grandfather figure and wanted me for my eyes. The conversation was cut off as a tower of sand exploded outward with a pillar of white smoke rising up. From it emerged a 20-foot ferret that sat with its legs and arms crossed while smoking a cigar and carried an axe on its back. Standing on top of its head was a very irritated Naruto who tapped his foot while glaring at the intruders with burning anger. Fu was right behind him. Sensei, no, Naruto. Kakashi looked up in awe at the resemblance before giving him an eye smile. Yo, good to see you Naruto. Kakashi sensei, and I use the term sensei loosely. Naruto looked down on him. May I ask why you are trespassing? Okay, I admit I probably deserve that, the copycat thought. We were sent to inform you about a group hunting Jinchuriki down and escort you back. He noticed the girl standing there matched the one from the reports. I take it you know already. Naruto nodded. Yeah, we've already taken care of 2 of them, but unfortunately the smart ones keep getting away. Yeah, gotta hate it when that happens. Kakashi nodded in sympathy before sighing at the death glare Fu was giving him. Nice clothes, by the way. I think so, I like the way they resemble my father's, Naruto stated simply. How Daita Kakashi was about to ask, when Naruto cut him off. The fox and I are on speaking terms and I'm not such an idiot that I couldn't see the resemblance. Neither were you, given you knew my mother and how close they were. Naruto. Sasuke made himself known. The Hokage wants you back in the village. She didn't add those clauses to your banishment, it was a civilian council member who got too full of himself and was put down. She was drunk, she made a mistake, but it didn't matter once she put her seal on those papers, Naruto said as he looked at Sakura. Judging by the killing intent that my former teammate is sending me, I can only imagine what the others would think of me now that the fox is out of the bag, so to speak. Sasuke glared at Sakura, but still spoke to him. I know you don't want to return, but I told Hokage-sama and the old pervert I'd bring you back. We won't let anyone harass you, old friends included. Not all of them are against you and I know I'm the last person you would want to see Buddha despite the fact that you used my chest as target practice during our last encounter and tried to kill me. I don't hate you Sasuke. At least you can see past the fox, which puts you ahead of 99% of the village. I can let a lot of things slide but not when it comes to labeling me as the fox or trying to hurt me and my loved one because of it. That being said, Genin probably shouldn't be taught assassination techniques ever again. In my defense, I was under his damn clan's power, Kurama snorted. I loathed the fact that Madara enslaving me led to my first imprisonment, but you humans started it when my first container's husband decided to start handing out my siblings and I like slaves. Why the hell do you think my chakra is so tainted when I'm not even trying to take you over anymore? Hatred thrives like a parasite on the ignorant and unclean masses. Hell, you could give me a run in the hatred department right now. As for the bastards in the village, even if you did drag me in, the moment one of them steps out of line I will defend myself. They attack, I fight back. They try to kill me and I will kill them without a second thought. My days as everyone's stress reliever are over. I will not walk into a lion's den willingly unless I felt it was worth being torn apart. Kakashi sighed. We're not gonna be able to reason with you into returning to the village, are we? Hell no, he responded. Before Pinky came along, I hadn't received so much killing intent directed towards me from anyone but Akatsuki and a couple of missing nin who made threats they couldn't back up. I've had freedom these last few years, and for that I'll thank Granny, but I will not go back to a village that would sooner see me killed for circumstances beyond my control or only see me as a weapon. We've got our orders, dickless. Sai cut in, prompting Naruto to glare at him. We will return you by force if necessary. Naruto glared at him before shooting a glance at Kakashi. My replacement? The copycat nodded, before revealing his Sharingan and preparing for battle. Naruto, I'd rather not force you, but we have to bring you back. He glanced at Fu. We'll have to bring her along as well given she's one of their targets. You think I'd let you take her back? Naruto's pupils became slits. To a village that would sooner rip out her demon, kill her, and stomp on her corpse? If you're going to resist then I'll simply break every single bone in your body and drag you back in chains, Sakura bluntly stated. And since I'm getting on everyone else, let me ask this, what the hell did I ever do to you? I all but killed myself for you. You hurt your teammate and dragged him back to the village injured. He tried to defect to someone who was going to steal his body and I had to bring him back by force. I kept my promise at the cost of getting run through by an assassination technique and pile drove into solid rock from the top of a waterfall after being set on fire. What the fuck did you think was going to happen when two genin have access to A-rank techniques? You're book smart and rational, you should have known this. Naruto looked closely at her before grinning. Unless you weren't being rational, you're still a fangirl aren't you? This is because he won't return your feelings so you vent on me like before, isn't it? All the men present looked at her with a side glance. He wasn't wrong. When are you going to get it in your head that he just doesn't like you? Naruto pointed out. All you do is kiss his ass, can't you tell that merely pisses him off further? Why the hell do you think we got along better with each other than with you? I don't think I was called out here for an emo drama, the summon warrior said. In fact you're pushing it by having me and brother away from home at the same time. Pop still wants to talk to you anyway. I'll speak with the ferret boss after this has been taken care of, Naruto answered. If he screwed up and lost the contract, Kunna would kill him. Phew, can you deal with Sakura and the new guy? Bring it, Sakura snapped her gloves. Let's see what the demon-loving whore can do, was the sound of Naruto's patience breaking. The time for talk is over. Naruto snarled before taking a deep breath and calming down to address the warrior ferret with respect. Oh no, I have given them the chance to flee and they have refused. I take it you won't have a problem with assisting me. As long as I never have to go through this again and you fork over that bag full of treats Pace was going on about. Honestly, what are you guys? 12. Summoning. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and slammed his hands on the sand and a sealing array etched itself on the surface. A tower of smoke rose and then scattered with the force of great beating winds. A giant hawk scattered its brown plumes across the desert sky. Does everyone have summoning contracts now? Naruto rubbed his forehead. I'll have to do something about that before we can escape. Oh ho ho, the hawk summon chimed. Am I to fight the eldest child of the ferret boss? Are you sure you wish to fight me, little ferret? You are aware that hawks devour your kind? A smirk etched its way across the large ferret's face and it took the axe off its back. Kid, he addressed his summoner. Screw the treats. I'm having hawk meat. Sasuke and I will face Naruto. Kakashi drew a kunao. Sakura and Sai, you'll capture his companion. Be aware she is also a Jinchuriki and take appropriate measures, but avoid any long-term damage or lethal techniques. So she's actually a demon whore? Sakura muttered. The villagers are going to love this. What next? They'll have demon spawn. Even I found that in bad taste, Sai said coldly. Kill Naruto muttered darkly before Fu held him in her arms. No, Naruto. She looked him in the eyes. Don't give in to the hatred. You said we can't risk going into cloaked states and you're pushing it by getting mad. I'll take care of the bitch, you stick with the plan. He nodded. Fu spread her wings and glided away with Sakura and Sai in tow. Naruto put on his bracers and fingerless gloves, pulled out his seal rod, and created his Uzashio chakra blade once again before he leaped towards the pair rushing at him. The warrior ferret and assault hawk gave out fierce battle cries. The battle had begun among the desert sands. With Naruto, Sasuke started the battle off. he threw shuriken laced with lightning chakra. They flew in a bluish-white arc toward the Jinhyuriki and left a trail in the air. Wind infusion, the chakra blade was outlined in white wind chakra. Naruto swung the blade horizontally and released a white crescent slash of wind chakra. Destruction strike. The arc smashed the shuriken to pieces and forced the Sharingan users to dodge. Sasuke slid underneath it, while Kakashi leaped above and pulled out several konoha that he threw at Naruto. Naruto held his bracer in front of him. He put his chakra into the seals on it. A round shield of chakra emerged and the konoha bounced off. He watched as Kakashi made a hand seal. Earth-style, Earth Flow River. A stream of mud appeared next to the copycat and he formed another set of seals. Earth-style, Earth Dragon. The mud took the shape of a dragon's head and opened its mouth to fire globs of mud at Naruto while Kakashi followed up. Fire-style, Fire Dragon Bomb. Kakashi somehow spit flames out from the front of his mask, without getting it burned. The secret is that he buys masks made from special silk woven by the Abarame clan that allows chakra through because of the fibers. The flames were merged with the projectiles and became flaming comets that darted toward Naruto. Naruto slid forward as the same comets went overhead and landed behind him, burning the sand black and smoldering. He crafted the Raise-Non and threw it into the air, revealing the chain attached to it. Raise-Non Flail. It aimed for the dragon and copycat next to it. Naruto channeled even more chakra into the chain to flow into the Raise-Non. It increased its size to roughly half his height. Smash it! Kakashi somersaulted away as it came down on the dragon. It spiraled into the mud and sand and threw up a wave of the two substances combined. Kakashi covered his eyes to avoid getting blinded by the backlash. Naruto then focused on his other opponent. He had to work to keep track of them both so he didn't get caught off guard. Sasuke was preparing his own assault. Chidori Sasuke's hand was coated in lightning and he waved it in an arc. Dozens of lightning needles darted toward Naruto. Senbon. Gale Naruto coated his free hand in wind chakra and did the same. Numerous wind chakra senbon shot forward. Needles. Thin bits of lightning and wind clashed in the middle of the battlefield and those that impacted wiped each other out while the two avoided those they missed. Naruto glanced over to the Jonin, to see a giant sandman rushing to capture the Jinhyuriki. Earth-style, Sand Golem. Kakashi said. Since when can you do that? Naruto asked while not breaking off his charge. Copied over 1,000 jutsu, remember? Kakashi chided his former student. I fought against IWA and Suna Ninja who've used the rock and sand versions respectively. Oh yeah? Naruto poured chakra into his feet and shot into the air with a boosted jump. Upon reaching the summit, he began to spin while channeling wind chakra into his leg as he fell. Hardliner the golem raised its forearm to block the impact with its hardened and compressed body. The moment the leg came into contact with it, the entire thing burst as his leg tore through it. Revolving cut. Fire-style, Great Fireball. Naruto looked over to see a fireball the size of a small house being crafted. It was literally turning the sand around Sasuke molten. Sasuke put a little force into it and it flew at him. Fire-style, Phoenix Flower. He saw the tiny fireballs from Kakashi who was running at him from the side. The projectiles were arcing around and curving to attack him from behind using the sides near ground level. The only escape was to jump. You can only dodge up and then I'll use the Demon Wind Shuriken and wires to bind you. It's over, he thought, until he saw Naruto fire a destruction strike at him and snuffed out the only tiny flames that would make a direct hit before planting his blade in the sand and focusing on the bigger fireball. Damn, he won't be able to get out of the range of the attack. Kakashi yelled as he avoided the strike. Shit, Sasuke swore. They expected him to dodge. Once the fireball hit, it would swallow him before it erupted and left not even bones. Look out! Uzumaki Custom, Fire Seal. Naruto pulled a scroll from his belt and unwrapped it before he held it in front of the flames and poured in chakra. The scroll had the mark of the fire kanji around a complicated array and drank the flames into the seal made of ink until the last drop before it rolled itself up. Sasuke looked on in shock at a distance while Kakashi recovered and tried to rush in and get up close and personal. Naruto reached for another scroll on his belt and switched his target to his former sensei. He tossed the new scroll and the currently full scroll into the air and summoned a chakra chain barrier around himself. The first spat out a plume of flammable powder that poured out over the area, and then the fire seal scroll unleashed its content. God, I love Jutsu's sealing scrolls, Naruto muttered, as an explosion engulfed the area. A sea of roaring flames overtook the sand and rose into a fiery mushroom cloud that belched smoke into the sky. As the flames settled, Naruto couldn't make out Kakashi among the scorched sand. Earth-style, double suicide decapitation. Kakashi's hands popped out of the ground at Naruto's feet and buried him up to his head while shattering his concentration on the barrier from shock. That barrier's weakness is that it can't defend you against attacks from below. You fought well. I'm working on that. Naruto only smirked. On a similar note, do you remember the time you asked Mom to show you how Dad got used to using multiple Hirations? Kakashi noticed the spike in the chakra and jumped back as far as he could. Chakra chains burst out of Naruto's body from every angle and knocked the sand from around him. Each one had a spear tip on the end and they rose like a tidal wave from the Jinchuriki's body as he stood. Kakashi looked on with a nostalgic sigh as the chains all coiled and flew towards the copycat spear ends first, who proved how he was one of the fastest in Konoha with his eye active. He dodged with flexibility befitting a ninja of his caliber, he blocked what he couldn't dodge with the kunao in hand. At the end of the rain of chains, he stood unharmed as the sand spout ceased, ragged for air, but unharmed. Naruto clenched his teeth and the chains faded away since he stopped wasting chakra on them. The more chains he made from his body, the weaker they were since he had to divide up the chakra for it. He didn't expect to do any real damage, just get Kakashi to use up chakra on jutsu to defend himself or something. It was the fact that he avoided or blocked it with a regular kunao of all things that irritated him. Hell, his dad had to jump repeatedly using his personal technique to avoid getting speared. It made great practice for him and a stress reliever for his mom. Yeah, Kakashi huffed. You really do take after your mother. Naruto decided to focus attention back to the matter at hand and noticed that Sasuke was gone. There was a shadow growing on the ground, the crackling of lightning, and a small tap of a foot against the sand. He rolled to the left and dodged a slash coming at him from the rear. Getting on his feet once again, he extended a chain from his hand back to his sword's rod and retrieved it before clashing with Sasuke while streaming wind chakra. The blade sung as the two clashed with streaming lightning and wind. They danced the dance of swordsmen until Naruto put a little space between them before he went into a rotating backside kick. Sasuke wasn't concerned at first, and then his eyes saw Naruto channeled wind chakra into it. Hardliner, gale kick. Sasuke raised the flat of the Chokyoto for defense. The wind chakra enhanced kick connected. He went skidding to the side before he recovered and flipped further back while Naruto focused on his other enemy. Naruto held the blade perpendicular to the ground and extended it toward the incoming copycat, who twisted into a crouch and threw a kunao that was blocked by Naruto's bracer. He then focused his attention on his former teammate. If I can hit, I can paralyze him. Sasuke aimed at Naruto's stomach to avoid anywhere else that might have been potentially fatal and launched the spear of lightning. Chidori, sharp spear. Naruto dropped to his knee and held his right bracer in front. His wind chakra was siphoned into the seals on it. They formed a chakra shield infused with the element that was superior to lightning. It stopped the assault and Naruto batted it away before he stood and launched a spear-tipped chakra chain from his free hand's palm while infusing it with wind chakra as well, and Sasuke prepared to knock it away with his blade in one hand. Sasuke, don't! Kakashi tried to warn him, but it was too late. The moment the lightning streaming blade tried to cut through the wind chakra infused spear end that was heading toward it with a greater velocity, the blade was separated from his hand in a violent backlash from the force. You're mine! The chain coiled around his torso at the arms and Naruto pulled it with a strong jerk. The Uchiha flew towards him. Naruto's arm extended and caught him midair just below the neck. The maneuver clotheslined him while avoiding accidentally crushing his larynx. He spun around like a pinwheel before he faceplanted while Naruto charged Kakashi. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Kakashi created 7 clones that rushed at Naruto while he pulled out a military ration pill to regain some of his chakra. Naruto's eyes flashed red. Using his own jutsu against him, Kakashi of all people. It was an insult he wouldn't let pass. Kakashi, his blade reformed into the monk's spade. Naruto performed one of the routines he went through and the crescent blade and spade danced a waltz of death. The clones were swiped out of existence by the translucent chakra blades. Naruto swung again and the crescent blade detached from the body attached to the chakra chain. I do believe I pissed him off. Kakashi muttered to himself as he ducked to avoid the chained blade and flipped backwards to avoid the horizontal strike as Naruto closed the distance. He was pushed back further when Naruto spun and extended the crescent blade with a chakra chain once again, sweeping the area. Naruto's assault stopped when he felt several sharp pangs as Chidori Senbon littered his back. He fell to his knees as the electricity in his body began to hinder his nerves. He barely managed to look back at his former teammate. You let your anger affect your judgment, Sasuke huffed from his firing position after retrieving his sword. He rushed at Naruto from behind and Kakashi did so from the front. Naruto roared and flooded his system with wind chakra, pushing out the invading chakra and gathering it into his free fist. That fist of his glowed with an awesome power. It told him to defeat them. He slammed it into the ground and discharged it into the ground. Hardliner Gale Crusher, the discharged wind chakra howled as it tore through the sand. The sand beneath him expanded like a balloon before it exploded out and sent all 3 of them flying from being near the epicenter of the blow. They all landed on their feet, a good distance from each other. Naruto allowed his rage to subside before it could cost him in this battle again. Wiping the blood from his mouth from being at the dead center of his own attack, he broke off into a sprint at his opponents while shifting his weapon back into a blade and activating the bracer on his free hand to form a shield. With Fu, Naruto. Fu muttered at hearing his screams at his former sensei before turning back to her own problem. Sai soared after her on a larger ink bird while Sakura pelted her from below with explosive tagged kunao. Smaller ink birds carrying explosive notes flew towards Few and detonated when they got too close in an attempt to force her to land from the shockwave of the explosions. Few was mildly annoyed. Again with explosives, Few yelled. I just dealt with a blast element user a few days ago. Okay, fairly annoyed. Few ascended until she was with her back to the sun while Sai followed and was blinded by the glare. Few made a certain set of seal while splitting her attention on gathered chakra into her lungs. She faced Sai below and smirked. Hidden art, hiding in scale powder, she exhaled the powder and a blinding light took away their sight. The wind eventually blew and the powder was blown away, to reveal dozens of Few's. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Sai reined his ride and flew off as a good portion of the Few clones chased after him. Pulling out his brush and infusing it with chakra, he performed his super beast imitation drawing and drew up several more ink birds with sharp beaks and had them dart at the clones. On impact with clones, both were dispelled. Chop, Sakura charged at the incoming clones. Right hook, back spin kick, upwards kick, she struck each clone as they came at her from the front. The clones split apart at the realization and took a different pattern. They summoned the water slicing blade and closed in on her from all angles. Sakura pulled out several konoha with explosive tags and tossed them all around her as she jumped. The tags exploded as her foot met one of the airborne clones and kicked off it. She threw a konoha at one to her left while stepping on another to go higher while dispelling them. Using the airborne clones as stepping stones in the sky, she threw konoha at the ones out of her range until there were no more after her and she began to fall out the sky. Need a lift. Sai swooped in on his ride and she landed on it. He took charge and began to pursue the original Few again, who looked over her shoulder and smirked, before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Behind us, Sakura yelled as the original came forward with far more speed and two water slicing blades in hand. Sakura tried to use explosive konoha along with Sai's suicide diver birds, but Few literally cut through them and darted past them with extra chakra in her wings before the explosions went off. Sai grabbed Sakura and abandoned his ride as Few's blades drew a blue arc in the desert sky and cut through it. Sakura threw down an explosive tagged konoha at the sand and it ruptured. It threw up enough sand to smother the flames and give them some cushioning. They landed on their feet a bit shaken but fine otherwise. It doesn't seem like she can continue to fly. In that case, I can capture, Sai thought to himself before he dumped all his chakra-laced ink onto the sand. Ink flush, strings of ink swelled and squirmed to her as she backed away. They entrapped her and wriggled over her caramel skin. She yelped as they hoisted her off the ground while Sakura and Sai rushed in. Ew. Few lurched at the feel of ink on her skin and created another two shadow clones that cut her free. One clone avoided Sai's tanto only to meet Sakura's fist, while the other and original found themselves with their backs against the wall of the compound they were staying at with the ink abominations reformed and closing in. They shot each other a glance and started making hand seals. Water style, water trumpet, / lightning style, wave of inspiration. Few and her shadow clone called as they unleashed a combination jutsu. Collaboration jutsu, spout of thunder. The water and lightning instrument captured and evaporated the rampant ink. A konoha hit the clone and dispelled it as Sakura approached with her fist chambered. Sakura's fist missed as Few dodge rolled, and went straight into the safe house. The wall cracked, then the entire building before it literally imploded and begun falling to pieces as Few landed some distance away after a chakra burst jump. You are aware we need her alive, right? Sai deadpanned when Sakura landed next to him, with Naruto, Kakashi, and Suzuki. Oh, Gaara and Konoha is going to be pissed, all three of them thought at the same time as they watched the building finish its collapse. Training with Granny, he asked Suzuki and the Uchiha nodded. Have fun explaining the building to her. Gaara and Konoha liked that one. Naruto nailed Suzuki with a sharp gale kick into the defensively held Chokito. It cracked the blade and sent the Sharingan user skidding while he jumped back. FUU, we're leaving now. Plan B. Naruto unraveled two new sealing scrolls from his belt. It rained a downpour of concussive-based explosive tagged konoha toward the two Sharingan users. They covered their eyes from all the sand being thrown up. The sand, he's trying to blind us while he gets away, Suzuki said, only to be surprised when he heard a voice from right behind him. True, but first I need to deal with your summons. Naruto was standing back-to-back with Suzuki. Suzuki swung the blade backward as Naruto ducked and spun, one arm thrusting forward while the other held the chakra blade. The chakra blade finished snapping the Chokito in half while Naruto's hand unleashed a palm strike to his abdomen. On impact, a sealing array etched itself on Suzuki's body as he was knocked backwards. Triple contract seal. A loud pop was heard as the hawk summoning vanished in a poof of smoke. Damn, Ono swore. His body was covered in bleeding gashes, but he was grinning with the cigar in his mouth still lit despite the barrage of winds he endured. Next time we settle this, Hawk. The ferret summoning vanished afterwards. Naruto, Few called from on top of a giant black and white striped desert beetle that had taken to the air. Naruto shot a chakra chain from his hand and it was caught by the beetle's mandibles as they took to the skies. Go, Nebi-sama, she told her beetle summons. As you wish, it responded as Naruto climbed on top of its head. Naruto. Fu leaned against him. I know you don't like to carry typical ninja weapons, and I didn't see you pick any up in the store when we went shopping. So how did you get all those weapons and tags? I made the tags and scrolls since I only wanted concussive damage instead of heat damage from the explosives, he told her while rubbing the back of his head. Before we left Suna, I may have borrowed some weapons and the flammable powder from Kankuro's room since I figured his puppets would have a ton of stuff like that. I left him about 1,000,000 ryo as compensation and a note, even though I didn't take nearly that much. I don't like to steal anymore unless I have to, like in my childhood, but we were pressed for time. I love you, Naruto, but were you really a monk? Not all monks are saints, Naruto argued. The 8 wind spades had discipline and control, but that was while on the job. Off the clock. Well, I'm sure Kankuro won't mind seeing as you did need them. Fu patted him on the back. With Kankuro. Kankuro sat on his bed counting the money left behind after reading the note in place of his missing weapons. He licked his lips as his fingers nimbly took count of the currency. When he finished, he smiled. Naruto should rob me more often, he giddily exclaimed. I can afford everything he took, a new puppet with the works, more war paint, and all I can drink at the watering hole next to Gaara's office, with Kakashi. We need to go after them. Kakashi looked at the fleeing pair. Can either of you summon or draw? I'm out of ink, the pale teen responded. I can't summon, Sasuke said. This seal he put on me, besides, I used a lot of chakra in our fight. The only reason you haven't dropped is because you ate that pill, and I need a new sword. It can't be helped. Kakashi sighed, before making another shadow clone and summoning his faithful Nindog. What do you need, Kaka? The Nindog picked up an old scent. Naruto. Yep. Kakashi went over the battle before asking him to chase after Naruto's scent with his shadow clone. Pakun nodded before he started sniffing again. Pakun, what's wrong? There's 2 ferret scents as well, Pakun told his summoner. One is gone, long gone from the house, or what remains of it, while the other is mostly centered around here, probably the one that fought. Kakashi thought about it for a few moments and summoned another hound and sent it after the second scent. Pakun and the clone then took off in the direction of the beetle. The original looked at his team. Kakashi, what now? Sasuke asked. You do realize Naruto is more than likely going to maim your clone unless it's a lightning one. The clone will go with Pakun and track those 2 and try to reason with them one last time before they get too far away, Kakashi told Sasuke. The second Nindog will track the second scent since I don't think either one of them was fighting too hard. Naruto didn't even attempt to kill one of us, at least until I used his old jutsu. He took that personally. Then should we wait for his response? Sai asked. The rest of us will head back to Konoha and avoid Suna, he mentioned offhand as he looked at what remained the building. I'd suggest we get out of the land of wind very fast or Gaara will come after us, and I'm not fighting him in a desert. Ugly should really learn some self-control, Sai muttered. He woke up on Kakashi's back several hours later nursing a headache. With the Kakashi clone. My apologies, the summoning addressed Fu. I cannot maintain flight any further. And he's still chasing us. Fu looked at the ground to see Kakashi's clone and Pakun chasing them. The dog is cute though. This is fine, Naruto told her. Ray should be there by now and it's only a single shadow clone. Let the summoning rest, and don't call Pakun cute. He doesn't like it. Alright, she nodded. Nebi-sama, please lower us and return home. I only wish I could aid you further. The summoning said as it landed and then vanished in a plume of smoke. Naruto pulled out his seal rod and crafted the blade. Now, Naruto, the clone said. I know I can't beat you as a clone and I didn't mean to insult you by using your old jutsu. I only wanted to talk about you two about returning. You've learned a lot over these 4 years. No thanks to you. Everything I've learned had to come from my time away from Konoha or the Kyuubi's memories. You can't trust the Kyuu. Shut up, Kakashi, Naruto snarled. The fox has been more honest than most of the people in my life. Did you know that the fox has been sealed in the Uzumaki starting with Granny's grandmother, Mito Uzumaki? That my mother was the second container? That she was attacked as she was giving birth to me and that led to the fox being unleashed. Pakun and the clone stayed silent. Shizukane showed me after I defeated her due to that silly promise the perverted sage made to that Nadeshiko ninja. The monks and samurai taught me shape manipulation and chakra control. I picked up my clan's techniques to a degree with great Auntie Mito and Mom's memories. Jiraiya at least taught me the Raiznan, even if he was a terrible godfather for not checking in on me more often. Naruto sneered. But you? You only taught me the fucking tree climbing skill, and you barely taught Sakura a damn thing before I left. You doted on Sasuke and ignored us both. You left both of us to die. We only lived because of the fox and luck. I was hoping to appease Sasuke and slowly teach him the benefits of teamwork so he didn't fall to temptation, the clone side. He also reminded me of a younger me. I made a mistake, and I've been trying to make it right ever since then. Too late. You knew my father's technique and could have taught me, or you could have told me the secrets of using shadow clones like you are now before they had already taken my jutsu from me, and then you of all people flaunted in my face. You could have directed Sakura to Kurenasen so she learned to be useful in a fight and I didn't have to keep protecting her. You could have done a hell of a lot more as a sensei. Naruto, the clone attempted to reason, but Naruto was too far gone. You knew what I felt like as an orphan, wanting to know who my parents were or to know they cared about me. Tormented by those damn villagers day in and day out with no comfort but a monthly visit from the old man, Irika, and a few others out a village of thousands. Only to find out whom my father and mother were. To find out that Granny is actually a distant relative of the Uzumaki and me. That Jiraiya is my godfather. That's a whole lot of anger the kid has, Pakun thought. To find out how the village spat on my father's dying wish. Naruto's fox features became more defined. How dare you even think of trying to bring me FUU back to that hellhole? Naruto, that's enough. He wrapped her arms around him in hopes of calming himself down. You're letting the hatred take hold of you. Now, Kit, Kurama chimed in. I'm all for giving in to the hatred and everything, but it serves no benefit now and will only shorten your moderately higher than normal lifespan on a shadow clone. At least go for the original. Naruto growled as his features began to recede. Make no mistake, Kakashi, I want nothing to do with the village. The few who were kind to me have my eternal gratitude for keeping sane all this time, and the only reason I'm telling you this is because Granny deserves to know about her grandmother and you at least did your job every now and then, but if you ever flaunt the fact that you hindered my growth with the shadow clones, I'll. Naruto was cut off in mid-sentence when he and Fu vanished in a flash of orange light. Wasn't that? Pakun trailed off. It looked like his father's technique all right. The clone closed his eyes and shed a tear. You know you'll have to tell Tsunade about what he said, right? I'll tell her and Jiraiya-sama in private about his family, he won't forgive the village. The clone sighed. Nope, Pakun stated coldly. Land of Iron. Fu and Naruto landed in the snowbank. As they wiped themselves off and Naruto put away his blade, they noticed a ferret in the snow with an orange bandana and goggles over its eyes. It took longer than I liked, but I got here, the ferret said. Though I must say, I did not like going from a comfy room in a marvelous paradise in the desert, to a frozen nation. Sorry, but thanks for the drop-off race. Naruto gave him 2 bags of treats. You really are the fastest of the group. One of those bags is for Ono, share the rest with your siblings, and tell the ferret boss I'll be in touch soon. No problem, the ferret took the bags. Dad just wants to talk about the toad boss. They go way back before an incident involving a white-haired pervert and the previous contract owner for us ferrets. Pervy Sage, just what did you do during your travels? Naruto wondered as the summoning vanished, before he saw Fu shivering. Naruto summoned a fur-long coat from inside one of his body seals and draped it around her. His warmth flooded her body and she pulled him in close for a kiss. Sorry about before. Naruto told her after coming up for air. It's just the thought of you in the village, going through the crap I went through, after I learned everything. It's good to vent, Naruto, but don't lose control. Fu tightened her grasp. Remember what Mito told your mother. Love balances the hatred. If you lost yourself, if I lost you, I won't. He trailed off. I'll stay by you and Konoha, no matter what. So, she spread her arms out to the winterland of snow. What do we do now? Konoha can't move on us here, but I have no intention of staying forever, Naruto told her. I want to see one of my sensei here to improve my skills, maybe learn to shape chakra shuriken, add the wind element to the raise non, apply an explosive seal on contact, second element, etc. Plus, I haven't been kicked out of all their casinos yet for winning too much. Fu sighed. At least wait until we're about to leave before you get us ran out. Naruto chuckled, before slamming his fist into his palm. I need to send a message to Gaara and Konoha about what happened. Naruto pulled out the contact scroll. Can you send one to Shibuki and tell him I'm okay? Sure. With Gaara and Konoha. To think that Naruto gave us this much money to build his clan's village back up in secrecy. Konoha said in Gaara's office, accompanied by both of his siblings. I should go visit him and Fu later today. How much? Temari looked at all the zeros in log. Holy father of ninjutsu. How did he get that much? Konoha answered. The goddess of gambling loves him. Yet anytime something can go wrong with him it does, Gaara pointed out. Look at his mission history. Konoha and Gaara's contact scrolls changed color to indicate they received a new message. Konoha looked at her contact scroll. Well, there goes my plans for today. Now I have to work around my schedule to go to the Land of Iron. Matsuri is not going to be happy, Gaara read over his scroll. She liked that place. I'll need to write to Naruto about the contractors and the estimated time for the project to be carried out without drawing attention. Also, he says he's sorry about robbing you, Kankuro, but apparently it came in handy. When you write back to Naruto, tell him I said he's free to rob me whenever he wants if he's gonna compensate me like this. Kankuro held his new puppet dearly as he exited the room. Temari looked confused. Do I He had a bad date not too long ago involving his war paint, alcohol, and some words I'd rather not repeat but had Shikaku in a laughing fit. Gaara deadpanned. He's getting better. I'm gone for a few days and all hell breaks loose from S-class criminals to Kankuro's battle between love and war paint. So what did the short stack say on his message scroll? He's not short anymore, in any department Kanna started, but Gaara cut her off before it got into too much information territory. Apparently Kakashi found the safe house and the pink-haired, ex-teammate of his was studying under the current Hokage. Gaara covered his ears as a precaution and prompted Kanna to do the same. You'll have to cancel those plans you had to take the Nara up there, and I'll have to cancel my plans to kill him afterwards. Tamari's screams of anguish washed over all of Suna. In her defense, it was a very nice place. In Konoha, Shikamaru was playing a game of shogi with Asuma while Kurone and their child watched on. He suddenly tensed and looked left and right. Something wrong? Asuma asked. I feel a disturbance, the Nara muttered, as if 1,000 shrieking Haranos were praying for mercy to an absent god, and then suddenly silenced by the slicing of wind. At the same time, I feel as though the shadow of death hanging over me has been lifted. Beyond troublesome. Kurone looked at her husband. Wasn't Kakashi's student on a mission to Suna, Hokage's office, days later? The council meeting had just let out not too long ago. I can't believe they tried to get me label him a missing nin for just defending himself. Tsunade pushed open the door with a flick of her fingers. She must have been angry since it cracked the wall when it slammed into it. Though I am surprised he managed to fend 2 Sharingan users off, summon a warrior ferret, save both the Kaze Cage and the Takijin Hirakifu from Akatsuki, and still managed to get away from all of you with a flying beetle. Judging from that look on Danzo's face, he'll probably try to find some method to gain control of both Fu and Naruto since neither one belongs to a village and both are pretty skilled. Jiraiya sat on the windowsill. Kakashi silently walked in after them and shut the door after Tsunade ordered Umbu out. Alright Kakashi, Tsunade sat behind her desk and activated a privacy seal. I know you left out a lot of things at the council meeting, not that I blame you, but considering the very strongly formal worded letters I received from the Wind Daimyo and the Kaze Cage that essentially said fuck you, along with a repair bill, and a death threat to my apprentice, I feel obliged to some answers. Well, you essentially ordered a kidnapping of a person they went out of their way to unofficially protect, and it escalated to the point that your apprentice demolished a very, very nice piece of property they seized. Jiraiya bluntly stated. Did you not see those photos? I could get any woman I wanted if I took her there. Tsunade-sama, Shizun made herself known. It would have been better to try a gentler method of persuasion. I told Kakashi force was a last resort. Negotiating was never a choice, not for me, Sakura, or side Kakashi side. He was pretty considerate to Suzuki, all things going. He doesn't even hate him for the whole assassination technique to the chess thing. It was the rest of us he has a problem with. How bad? Tsunade asked while feeling the headache coming. Well, he was irritated that I hindered his growth by not telling him how to use clones in training, and Jiraiya-sama had made a promise to the predecessor of the Nades Hiko warrior who taught him some of those techniques. I can't believe that Kunoichi from Nades Hiko held me to that promise and made Naruto face her successor. Jiraiya scratched his head. I mean really, that was years ago and he was my student technically, but considering some of the skills you mentioned he used against you, it makes sense. Now that I think about, what were you doing at that village in the first place? Tsunade glared at the pervert. That was only the tip of the iceberg. Naruto knows about his heritage, and to say he was pissed would be an understatement. Kakashi sighed. He knew I was his father's student, his mother's identity, Jiraiya was apparently his godparent, and Tsunade-sama is a distant relative. How? Jiraiya looked in shock. The fox told him, apparently Kushina was the previous host of the Kyuubi and Tsunade-sama's grandmother, Mito Uzumaki, was the one before her. Through sharing their memories, he managed to recreate Kushina's chakra chains and Sensei's flying thunder god technique to an extent. My hound tracked a ferret sent to the land of iron days after it first appeared, with Naruto and Fuse sent and no trail beforehand. Kakashi then went on about Naruto's rant and his birth. Shizun dropped her clipboard, Jiraiya nearly fell out the window, Tsunade's jaw dropped at the revelations. Jiraiya summed everything up. If Naruto knows all that, then he has every reason to not want to come back. He even knows what happened on the day of the attack when none of us do. If you had told the council that they would have lost it, Shizun shook her head. He has too many ties to the village by blood alone to let him leave. He's literally a walking representation of Konoha's history. Jiraiya licked his lips and went into thought. We'll have to inform the next group we send after him about the techniques, but this does not bode well. Either way, iron is off limits for the moment, given how fast the fighting will escalate in the samurai, so we'll have to wait for them to move again. What are the chances that we can convince him to return somehow using his girlfriend? Tsunade rubbed her forehead. What if we offered asylum to Fu, since she's technically one of Akatsuki's targets and he's obviously attached to her? Well, the chances might have been higher if Sakura didn't call his apparent girlfriend a demon whore, tell him she was going to drag him back in chains, and try to kill her rather than capture, according to Sai's report. Tsunade broke the desk in half at that declaration. And Gaara probably has already done so unofficially anyway. Damn it, Sakura. Tsunade sighed and had Shizune leave to get another desk. What if we try to convince the Sandbrat or his council that it'd be safer here for them? Not likely, Jiraiya added in. According to the reports, they helped him against Akatsuki and they like him. Not to mention the Wind Daimyo likes him too and he was in service to her, in more ways than one. Both of them have been released from their villages, so we can't legally argue for them. So basically we have to forcibly kidnap him back to his own village. Tsunade covered her eyes and pulled out a bottle of sake from the broken desk. They couldn't blame her at this point. To be honest, Kakashi looked down. He'll likely be happier outside the village with few. If we attempt to bring him back by force, he won't go easy on us again. He said he didn't hate Sasuke, but he's furious that neither I nor Jiraiya took better care of him when he was younger, and he flat out hates 99% of the population here and the feeling is mutual on the opposite side. I'll admit I messed up, and I'm trying to make things right, but it may be too late, and God help us if the girl gets pulled into this, Kakashi added. Naruto almost went into a cloaked state at the mention of bringing her back here. I think he can understand that she's a kunoichi and might get hurt in the line of duty, but when it comes to how Jinchuriki are treated in Konoha, let's just say that getting blasted by attackist Tsukiyomi was more merciful. Princess, I know how you feel, but Kakashi has a damn good point and I know it's selfish, Jiraiya. Tsunade slammed the bottle on the broken desk and shattered it. I want him back since he was like a little brother to me. No, he's actually related to me, and if it were up to me, I'd let him be happy elsewhere as long as he stayed in touch like I did. But how long until things escalate even higher? When not if but when other villages find out there are two Jinchuriki, two of the strongest by tails, I might add wandering around, they will come after him if Akatsuki doesn't, just to make up their lost strength and hell will break loose to the extent it might start another war. He's gotten skilled, but how long until they all gang up on him or whoever is bossing around these cage-level ninja and Akatsuki jumps into the fray? Naruto, Gaara, and few won't see it that way. Kakashi ran his fingers through his hair. Gaara basically called us out on not informing them or any other village about Akatsuki in the first place, and it nearly had his village destroyed. He pointed out how we only cared about protecting Naruto as a village weapon while the other Jinchuriki would be rounded up. I never said he was a we. You don't, but the Elder Council does, Jiraiya interrupted. Let's face it, Jinchuriki get the short end of the stick and Gaara is right about that. But from the position of a military leader, having someone else steal your rival's ultimate weapon is a blessing as long as they don't turn it on you. Tsunade sighed and went deep into thought. Her breath grew shallow. Headache did not even come close to this. It almost seemed like she had fallen asleep until her eyes snapped open, and she made her decision. Jiraiya, work with Kakashi and list everything we know about Akatsuki in a file to be sent to all the other cages before we send a team to go get Naruto, Tsunade declared. The Sandbrat was right, and I'm sure the elders and Danzo probably won't complain since it would keep Konoha safe in the long run. They do many horrible things but they care about the village. And the next retrieval team? Kakashi asked. They are going to be breathing down my neck if I don't go all out, former Team 7, 8, 10, Team Guy, as well as their Jonin sensei but replace Kurone with Yamato, and Jiraiya will personally go after Naruto once the time is right, at Irika and Shizune as well since they might be able to reason with him. Just in case things truly go snafu, I'll have the 4th's personal guard on hand to use Flying Thunder God to transport me there as well. Overkill much, princess? Jiraiya asked rhetorically. I wouldn't go this far normally, but Kakashi said he nearly entered a cloaked state on the mention of returning them here, and given we will have to force them both back, I have to deal with the very real possibility that he may completely snap and go full-blown Baijuyu. Yamato can help repress the chakra if Kakashi can slip the necklace on him and you can seal it, all of that combined can hopefully restrain them and bring them back. She pointed to Kakashi. Go and inform those who will be involved. We don't know when we'll run across Naruto again, but the moment we get confirmation, we are going full force. He left in a body flicker. And once he does get back, hellfire will rain and we both know it, Jiraiya sighed. The elders and Danzo won't be stupid enough to have his Baijuyu transferred to another host since at least Naruto can defend himself, but they'll need some method to enforce loyalty on him. A seal probably won't work since I looked at the one that Naruto nailed his former teammate with before I removed it. It was like the one his mother taught Minato and that spacetime technique like his father's most likely uses seals too. He's probably a seal expert, if not a master at this point. Tsunade bit her lip. You're probably right. Depending on the condition we bring Naruto and Fu in, Yamato will most likely have to have them bound and restrained in a hidden location. I'll be damned before I lock him up in a cell for defending himself, but I'll probably have to use the Senju complex as a form of house arrest and restrict the knowledge of his capture. And Gaara will be pissed off, he gently reminded her. And Spring, Moon, and Wave, and Taki's leader probably. The only reason they haven't cut off agreements and trade with us is because of politics. Jiraiya, I know, she sighed. But short of him willing walking through those gates, someone is going to get pissed off regardless. At least this way they can be pissed off and he can be safe rather than in Akatsuki's hands. If Sensei had enforced punishment against those who broke both the spirit and word of his law, if the people weren't so prejudiced, if you had checked on him more often, if I hadn't been drinking when I stamped those papers, and if Kakashi had taught him more, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. But that's just it, we can't correct the past. I may drink myself into the ground later for this, but at least the two of them will be alive long enough to hate me. That's the price I paid for taking the hat. I can't play favorites too often and keep everyone happy. Jiraiya walked up to her and rubbed her back. How about we go out tonight and drink so you can unwind? I'm not sleeping with you, Jiraiya, she said preemptively. I'm too damn depressed, and I might lose control and break you in bed. I was talking about going out as old friends, he chuckled. But what a way to go. Elsewhere in Konoha, several hours later, the Konoha 11 had gathered and been informed about their pending mission by Kakashi and Naruto and fused techniques. Hinata left afterwards, claiming to be tired, while Kakashi left to speak with the others participating, minus Neji. I was not aware there was a beetle summons, Shino said blankly. I believe I would be greatly interested in meeting this few. I wonder if Naruto could teach me how he made those tags and scrolls. Tenten mused. She had an interest in seals as well as weapons. That slashing technique was decent sounding too. Maybe I should go to Iron and learn from a samurai. You just had to piss off to marry, didn't you, Sakura? Shikamaru addressed the kunoichi. Just to let you know, she's gunning for you now. Chill, Shika. Shuji ate a few more chips. At least now Gaara won't kill you. Sakura, are you alright? Ino asked. You've been awfully quiet. When are you going to get it in your head that he just doesn't like you? Naruto's words echoed in her head. All you do is kiss his ass, can't you tell that merely pisses him off further? Sakura shook her head and chuckled at Ino to drive off the thoughts before addressing her crush. Suzuki-kun, would you like to go get dinner with me and Ino? Suzuki shook his head. Are you still thinking about what he said before the fight? He nodded. Sakura, not a damn thing Naruto said was wrong. I understand him better than you do, and he has every reason to hate this village or try and burn it to the ground. Is he still under that genjutsu? Kiba asked, and Akamaru barked at him. I wasn't being rude. For the last time, I'm not under a fucking genjutsu, Suzuki yelled. Lee looked at Sakura's depressed face before speaking. Suzuki-san, do not let the demon's words linger. If he was really a demon, then do you think he would have lasted 13 years here as Naruto Uzumaki? You're all so fucking stupid it's not funny. Not one of you has a good reason to hate Naruto Uzumaki, even if you have a reason to hate the fox. We're lucky he hasn't snapped after everything he's been through in this village. He had the old Hokage in both Sunen's favor, Kiba argued. How bad could he have had it? On his birthday when he was 6, a hand covered Suzuki's mouth. As much reason you have to be vocal about his defense, Neji spoke up from behind him. I'm pretty sure that information is classified, and I am technically obligated to bring you in if you finish. Fine, Suzuki said once Neji removed his hand. But I'm going to call them out on all their stupid flaws right here and now. Feel free, Tenten, Shikamaru, Shuji, Shino, and Neji all replied in perfect unison. He pointed to his teammate. Sakura, you are by far one of the worst of them all, considering the sheer number of times Naruto has saved your ass only to get hit. You do know that he could have had you arrested on nearly 100 abuse charges by now? Hell, even Jiraiya gets better treatment from Tsunade. And you actively antagonized him and tried to turn his girlfriend into paste. The Inyazuka was next. Kiba, he beat you with a fart, while his chakra was mostly sealed by Orochimaru in the forest. If you're still angry that Hinata liked him over you, then you're thinking with the wrong head again. Even after years of stirring and hatred, she still sees you as little more than friends, and that won't change since she's devoting her time to training. Followed by the Green Beast. Lee, he bought Tsunade back and got you healed. You owe him your entire career. As I'm sure Guy has told you repeatedly, quit going along with Sakura's blind hatred because you like her. He actually struggled to say these last words unyouthful. Lee actually gasped in shock. Ino, you're as bad as Sakura because both of you are acting like fangirls instead of thinking. You two are responsible for both Lee's stupidity, and the fact that you keep trying to bully Chuji into joining your Lynch Naruto group. Let me be clear, after all the shit I have listened come out of your mouths about how I was critically injured after I actually tried to kill him, and led to Chuji and Neji nearly dying for their parts in my retrieval, I am tempted to castrate myself just so no one tries to push me into a CRA or arranged marriage with you two. He turned to the Hyuga. Neji, when you see Hinata, tell her Naruto honestly didn't know she liked him. He's gone through a hell you can't imagine where the closest thing to love he had was a fangirl who constantly beat him. It's a miracle he's maintained a stable relationship with his current girlfriend or even the fact that he's not a sociopath. I'll try, but she hasn't even been listening to me anymore. Neji shook his head. Let me be frank, the elders took great effort to color her using hatred to the point I believe it is only the little kindness she has left that is preventing her from using the caged bird seal every time I bring it up. She nearly hospitalized her sister in a sparring match earlier today because of what her father told her about the council meeting and the other Jinchuriki. Unlike these fools who have truly ignorant reasons to hate Naruto on a shallow level, she may be too far gone to reason with. Niji shot a murderous glare at Ino and Sakura. The elders may have been wearing her down, but hearing from Naruto's crush about how bad he was and harping on about it put the final nail in the coffin. It doesn't help that you two taught her how to incorporate chakra scalpels into her fighting style either. I can only pray that she doesn't have a mission where she runs into either one of them alone or she will try to kill them at the cost of her own life. In that case, you'd better hope she doesn't, Sasuke told him. I've been where she's going before, and it screws you royally no matter what. If her only goal in life is now to kill Naruto, then once she does and if she's still alive, she'll be no better than a living puppet, not moving on her own strength but the whims of others. Sasuke gave Shino and Kiba a final glance before he walked out the door. If you truly care for her as teammates, you'll get her some help before she ends up going down the path I went. Shino nodded. With Kakashi. You're kidding, Iruka said with his mouth wide. He actually held you and Sasuke back, while not trying to kill you. Without the Kyuubi's chakra? Yamato asked for confirmation. He and the other adults of the capture group had been gathered by Kakashi. Until I inadvertently insulted him, yes, Kakashi admitted. He pushed back Sasori of the red sand from the info site picked up, and the unofficial reports on Akatsuki from Suna to all the villages also indicate that Sasori had up until then used the third Kaze cage as a puppet. The report also listed Haiden, who has some kind of immortality thing, sealed away even though they didn't say by who. You could hear a pin drop at that moment. Impressive, Yamato summed it up. Weren't his hands sealed so that he couldn't use ninjutsu? Asuma asked. Not all ninjutsu uses seals, Kakashi reminded him. Plus, he's beefed up his taijutsu, weapon use, and chakra control to a level that many of us would be hard-pressed to match. I may have him beat in ninjutsu, but he's got me in stamina. Guy might have him beat in taijutsu, but Naruto fights smart and would probably find some way to seal you the moment you touched him. Asuma, he infused wind chakra into a sword made of pure chakra and his body to face off against Sasuke's electric attacks. Are we really dealing with the same person who used to run around in an orange jumpsuit and spam clones like they were going out of style? Asuma wrapped up their thoughts. He's a bit darker, but same person, Kakashi confirmed. Not to mention his partner is also a Jinchuriki who took out another S-class criminal that stole a forbidden art and had the blast element. Also, she can fly. Truly, Guy gave his signature pose. Their flames of youth burn brighter than ever. The point is he was holding back in order to escape, not kill. Kakashi prepared to wrap the meeting up. The operation to bring him back is to be taken seriously, even with all of us, Jiraiya, and Shizun going. The group nodded and began to disperse before Kakashi walked over to Iruka. Kakashi, I'm not a fool, Iruka told him. It's not just about strength why I was brought in. How dire is the situation that you need me to go after him? I can't give you all the details, but Naruto has a lot of rage issues when it comes to returning here, Kakashi flat out told Iruka in private. You are one of the few people who might get a pass and can reach him. Iruka closed his eyes and nodded. With Sasuke. Hey, Sasuke said as he entered a certain eatery. Ayam-chan, can you give me tomato ramen? Coming right up, the brown-haired chef said from the kitchen. The tomato ramen was a creation that came about as of one of her trips out of town, and much like Naruto would swear by miso ramen, he would bow to Ayam's creation. The Ichiraku family duo were on pretty good terms with Sasuke, along with his other old friends since after learning everything Naruto went through, he saw how they were his light in the darkness. After he got on his knees and apologized, they hit it off pretty well. Plus, Ayam didn't try to kiss his ass all the time like fangirls. That's wife material right there. I heard you laying into your teammate from the street when I was passing by the building. What was all that about? Tuki asked. We ran into a certain blonde with whisker marks on our last mission, he told him. Ayam dropped her ladle. I can't give you the details, but if you keep your ears open, I'm sure one of the stupider clan members from the council will say something. Like those rumors that he was working under the Wind Daimyo. Ayam was cut off by Tuki before she could get into it. How is he? Tuki asked. Happy, Sasuke told them. He doesn't want to come back, he's afraid of having the same thing happen to the girl he's with and would probably kill himself trying to protect her. There are too many people against him and too much crap has happened for him to forgive the village as a whole. He's also gotten smarter and stronger. The two of them could only smile at those last words. With Hinata. The demon found himself a bride, the voice whispered inside her, he never loved you or looked at you. Shut up, Hinata told the voice. He used you, he's tainted you in the eyes of everyone and left you to suffer. You've tainted the clan with your naivete. There's only one way to cleanse the taint, kill him with your own hands. Unbeknownst to Hinata, her father was leaned against the wall outside her room. He had arranged for Inoichi to give her an evaluation not too long ago, and for the first time, he feared that he went too far. Apologizing on her mother's grave may not be enough anymore. The voice was a manifestation of the mental abuse she's accumulated, that he's allowed to go unheeded. Never-ending whispers in her mind that represent the words of the elders and the other villagers, including himself. She needed help, but for the Hyuga, appearances and traditions are everything. Just having Inoichi figuring out the problem was pushing it. Mental instability in the next heiress would upset the balance among the clan, but it was part of the drive that made her stronger. He walked away, wondering if it truly was worth sacrificing his daughter for the clan by feeding her insecurities. In pain, a paper angel fluttered from below a tower in the infinitely reigning nation. The body has arrived. She placed a paper coffin in front of him and removed the sheets covering the face. Your contribution toward peace is appreciated, he told the corpse as lightning flashed and revealed who it belonged to before he performed a jutsu on it. It was the body of Yujito Nii, the former Jinchuriki of the Nibi. Set it with the others, Konan, Pain addressed his angel. She laid it with the other dead Jinchuriki bodies that Pain gathered and preserved using a jutsu. The message had been sent. The threat of Akatsuki had been known with the attempted theft of the Ichibai and successful thefts of the Nibi, Sanabai, and Gobi. Unwilling to lose their remaining Jinchuriki, the recalling of the Jinchuriki to their villages had begun, whether they liked it or not. Land of Iron, 1 week after Land of Wind incident. Naruto started as they entered a winter forest coated in evergreen trees. I feel the need to warn you ahead of time about the person we're staying with. Guard your ass, I mean that literally, not figuratively. She raised an eyebrow. He told me he had a fetish for them, and this man is nearly as big a pervert as Jiraiya, and you have a very nice one, he openly told her as they approached a good-sized cabin in the middle of the forest. I don't know why the goddess of perverts has decided to endear the strongest of them to me, or if it's a trade-off for the goddess of luck blessing me during gambling and cursing me during missions, but the majority of my senseis have been perverts to an extent. I'm sure he can't be that bad, she muttered as they approached the door, but thanks for saying you approve of it, just letting you know. He knocked on the door and waited for it to open, and it is very nice. It revealed an old, short man that barely went past Naruto's knees due to his advanced age robbing him of his height. He wore a plain blue kimono and had a black cane with a hilt at the end revealing it to be a sword in a sheath without a handguard. His eyes were half closed and his hair had been pure white and balding. Been a while, pervy master. Naruto gave him a heartfelt grin. A smile etched itself onto the wrinkled face. Indeed, whiskers. Meet pervy master Hayadu. He looked over to his sword master. Pervy master, meet Fu. Hello, Fu told the man and gave him a short bow. Thank you for taking care of Naruto before we met. The older man stepped around to look at Fu before he got a gleam in his eyes and slapped her ass, causing her to jump. Nice and firm. You've been busy, I see, whiskers. Fu crafted the water slicing blade while her face was lit with shame and embarrassment, and a little excitement from the shock. Fu, I warned you, put down the water slicing blade. Naruto held her back. Pervy master, please refrain from slapping one of my girlfriend's ass. She wants me to stop, she'd better get quicker reflexes, and he chuckled. Seems like you've taken after the toad brat and gone down the path of the arrow, well done. It's just her and Kunna, Naruto told her. I still find it odd that you call pervy sage a brat. Well, he is compared to me. Still, I have a fine appreciation for his literature. He motioned for the two to enter his home. Speaking of which, when are you going to give it a try? I'd imagine you've done some things worth putting on paper. Kunna would kill me, given I'm rebuilding a village, and it would feature her, he warned. Plus, if I did start writing erotica, it'd have more plot than what he calls research. I will however castrate him for a certain volume involving a certain redhead and blonde. With Jiraiya. The toad sage was relaxing in a hot spring when he sneezed. One of the husbands of the women I've added to my research must be threatening to castrate me again. Jiraiya sighed. At least Minato never found out he could actually pull it off, or Kushina, with the older pervert. The cabin was cozy but only had minor furnishings. The old pervert had Naruto make some tea while he talked with Fu about Naruto and how he was somewhat proud that a kid with ninja heritage became somewhat passable at true kenjutsu, the art of the sword. Fu could hear the pride laced in his voice. Originally, this was just a small cabin with a single area, the old man chuckled. When Whiskers moved in, I told him I wanted it bigger as a joke. He took it seriously and hired contractors as well as helped them for the experience. The old pervert has my respect, Naruto told her as he gave them their tea. He found me when I had left Kunna and the Wind Temple out in the woods after some Rounin samurai who've left the service or an instructor disgraced or for other reasons decided to attack me. That was the first time I met with Samurai of Iron, and those bastards caught me off guard with their shape manipulation. I was damn close to going into a cloaked state because they looked down on me because I fought like a ninja, since warrior monks in the 5 nations have a base in ninja arts. Old man tore us a new one about fighting on his property before he whipped their asses. Indeed, the old man took a sip of tea. Much ass was duly whipped. Lousy upstarts going on about how just because they could make fancy shapes using manipulation, they were above others. No wonder they got kicked out of their school. The rest is history, Naruto shrugged. I stayed for a few months for a couple of lessons, and then I met you. We're close enough that I told him about the Kyuubi after he asked where I got all my stamina from and didn't freak out, which put him above a ton of others. I'm too old to care, he said. I've seen all kinds of things in my youth, including a giant salamander that breath poison. Why would a fox and a tall kid scare me? The old human has guts, Kurama muttered. If it weren't for the fact that his training keeps you and by extension me alive, I would gnaw on his frail bones. So, the old man got serious. You here for old time's sake or to train? Training, Naruto told him. Konoha knows about me, and Granny will be going all out, I'm sure. The slug girl, Hyudu rubbed his chin. I heard about her after she got her title with the toad brat and snake bastard, as you call him. You know you can't use my style of swordsmanship with your blades, but we can refine what you know. Land of Earth, 1 month after Land of Wind incident. The hermit and container of the four-tailed monkey, Rashi, sat on his wooden porch as the sun had just began to fall beyond the horizon and painted the sky a somber shade of molten red and orange. The sake cup in his hand felt heavy as he looked at a shorter man in front of him. What do you want, Suchikage? He said coldly. It had been about 5 days since he received uninvited guests in the form of Iwa Umbu. It had taken them longer to find him since he rarely stayed in touch. That Suchikage has ordered you back, was what the once-living ninjas ordered. He refused, and they attempted to use force. They died a molten death, the heat finishing them well before they were halfway gone. He was called Rashi of the lava style for a damn reason. Now, is that any way to greet an old friend? Uniki smiled somberly. We haven't been old friends since you became Suchikage and ordered me around like a weapon during the war and made me do things that were cold and cruel. You gave me orders to burn down the majority of the farms near where I was stationed, but you weren't there to watch. You didn't have to stay there and listen to children complain about starving to death. You didn't have to kill desperate parents and orphans doing what they had to in order to survive. You still haven't even apologized to the survivors or tried to regrow those fields after all this time. You became an asshole, Oniki, not a friend. Rashi finished. Damn it, Rashi, I'm not the first Hokage. I can't just grow food in forests at no cost. We have to do things to ensure our shot at victory. All shinobi become weapons during wartime. Maybe, but at least they're looked at as human. They're mourned when they die and are treated when injured. If it weren't for the Yanbai, I would have been dead long ago. We Jinchuriki get the short end of the stick enough to the point where giving into the hatred is easier than to wear a fake-ass smile through our lives. You know damn well that part of the reason Han wears that armor at all times is to hide the scars he got from his youth and so he'd feel safe, in his own damn village. And let's not get on your behavior in terms of etiquette with other villages. Do I need to remind you of the tragedy of Yusuga Pass? Where you ordered your men to betray those they were supposed to help? Despite claiming to have changed over these years, you still haven't sent Kiri an apology and returned the belongings of their men you had killed. You were always a bleeding heart. Uniki shook his head. You weren't there when I had to see that man Madara. I had to be ruthless to face men like him and do like Musama did, what was best for the village. Mew may have loved his village, but could you honestly say he was better than Madara when it came to his clan? I became more human because of the hell I went through and learned empathy, and that has brought me to moderate terms with my tenant during my travels. I can't atone for all the crap I put others through on your orders. I simply don't have enough years left to do so. It's part of that reason that despite knowing the Yanbai's name, I've never mentioned it. Uniki started to levitate off the ground. Rashi, you have to come back. That's an order. Why now? Rashi asked the older man while pouring another cup. It seems like those upstarts we hired, Akatsuki, had been planning to steal our Jinchuriki. Deodara was probably the one who told them, and even though he's dead, the body was taken somehow from our morgue. They already got Han, and I'll be damned if I lose both of you. Humph. Rashi shook his head before placing his empty sake bottle down. You still refer to me and Han as your Jinchuriki, not friends or allies, but weapons. So in the end, you want me to spend even my final years as a weapon. I suffered at the hands of my own fellow comrades, fought in your damn war, and killed your enemies, yet I cannot spend my final years as I like. Now, Rashi, it was just unfortunate for you that you were born fit to be the Yanbai's container. We cannot choose how we are born, but we can choose how we die. Rashi stood after finishing the last of the sake. I'm tired of that village. I'd rather die at the hands of an enemy than to the machinations of the village that will only see me as a weapon or beast. Sometimes I wish the Yellow Flash had finished me when he had the chance. Don't joke about that, he said. I'm still receiving reports about the damn lookalike that killed some of my men when they attacked him while he was with the Wind Daimyo and those monks. Self-defense, I can understand my men, not so much. I would have killed any that survived because of the paperwork I had to deal with to ensure the Earth Daimyo and Wind Daimyo that it wasn't an active war. I hope he is related so I can meet him one day and express my gratitude for the man's help in ending that last war, but enough small talk. Rashi took a fighting stance. Let's get this over with. Rashi, Uniki said tiredly. You and I both know how this is going to end. Maybe, but you know what? Rashi smiled proudly as his cloak began to form. For Han, his and my tenants, and for myself, I'm going to make you work for it. Always the difficult way. Uniki sighed. God help you if I throw out my back. The Tsuchikage and Jinchuriki of the Yanbai clashed, and the landscape was forever changed. Konoha. Has anything interesting happened with you, Daimyo-sama? Tsunade asked, finishing up a meeting with the fire daimyo on events in the nation and village. Not much, he shrugged. Someone paid a substantial amount of money for the land of whirlpools, but they didn't give me a name. We've been looking to do something with it since Uzushio fell. Speaking of Uzushio, how is young Uzumaki? I was surprised to learn that the quiet guard that was with the young wind daimyo when she visited was him. We're trying to bring him back, Tsunade told him. The group explained it was an accident, but it doesn't change the fact that we both signed the clauses on his exile. I'd like to give him a public apology to show that I regret it, but, Hokage Dano, the fire daimyo addressed Tsunade. I also regret my part in the boy's banishment, and I'm willing to pay him in favors or monetary compensation, but you know how it is for those in a position of power. We simply can't publicly apologize and let it be known we were manipulated, by a civilian of all things. If we do, how long until others try to pull the same stunt? Then that only leaves force before things get out of hand, Tsunade sighed. I'm sure you've heard of the whole incident in the Land of Wind. Yes, he chuckled. Not that I mind seeing another young version of you running around, and the wind daimyo who purchased that property was a very wasteful person. Your apprentice must be taught restraint. That mission you authorized was unofficial and I cannot reimburse them for it, otherwise it would seem like I authorized the kidnapping of 2 Jinchuriki with no affiliation. That was a bad call on my part. Tsunade rubbed her head. Sakura doesn't hate Naruto for the fox, and her reasons were so shallow I thought she could rein them in. Her parents never encouraged it since they weren't really affected by the Kyubai's attack on the village, having been away at the time. Unlike most of the other ninja, she has no traumatic background, and I thought having her on the team would appeal to Naruto's crush on her since I didn't know he had found himself a girlfriend. 2. If the rumors that have reached my ears are true, the daimyo chimed in. The wind daimyo obviously trusted him enough to travel with him alone for protection. I hope the brat isn't taking after Jiraiya, Tsunade thought before answering her equal. Sakura clearly broke rule number 2 that I give my students. Medical ninjas are not allowed to engage in the battles. She can defend herself or her patient to protect them, but she actively chased after few, which I would be willing to excuse, but she used excess force above all else. How did you punish your apprentice? Well, it was my negligence for not beating self-control into her, so I've given her a more hands-on approach after I sent her off to Temeria of the desert with her chakra sealed and orders to return her in one piece at the least. She'll also have to take reduced pay from missions for 1/10 of the building's cost, which will be a few years' worth short of a few S-rank missions, with the rest coming from the seized finances from the idiot who modified the exile clauses. Did you ever find out who killed him? Nope, shame, really, she mused half-heartedly. We've had to drop the search for other reasons. Quite a shame, the daimyo said without a hint of sorrow. He wanted to give the assassin a medal. The assassin must have been quite skilled. Elsewhere in Konoha, Jiraiya sneezed. Someone must be complimenting my manliness. Pervert, the women currently being used for his research yelled at seeing him. Crap, was his final word before hauling ass on Toad back to avoid a justified maiming. Back with Tsunade and Fire Daimyo. What about Naruto's heritage? The Fire Daimyo asked. I've thought about it and I'm not going to tell the village unless Naruto wants me to, Tsunade answered. Why not? Because anyone in Naruto's generation will have only heard of his father from history books and only see him for the fox, while the older generation are too hard-pressed to change their ways. Naruto won't be their previous Hokage heir, he'll still be the fox wearing the fourth son's skin. If people truly cared about the fourth sacrifice, they wouldn't have treated him like they did. Indeed, that is a curse of our age. The daimyo sighed. I have great respect for Uzumaki because his accomplishments have brought prosperity to not only our nation but our allied nations, not his heritage. People like him are so rare, but with the looming threat of another war waging over Jinchuriki and Akatsuki, do what you must to bring him back. With the Konoha 11, 2 months after the Land of Wind incident. Let it rip, Tenten proclaimed as she pulled the rip cord of a large shuriken launcher. The large shuriken gave out sparks as the rotation increased against the grating metal before it flew in an arc and through several airborne targets. The retrieval team were preparing for their eventual encounter with Naruto between missions. They trained whenever they could for the unknown threat level he presented in groups or alone since all of them were rarely together at once. Even Irika worked on his own skills and the basics with a little help from Anko Mitarashi despite not really being expected to contribute to the active fighting. The Jinchuriki of the Nanabe, who is highly competent at aerial combat, water and lightning jutsu, can use insects like an abarame from the reports, and Naruto taught her how to use clones. Of all of us, only I and Sai can effectively fight her in the sky while writing on our hawks or ink drawings, but she can blind us easily so we'll take steps to neutralize it by having our rides blow the powder away. The rest will need to deal with Naruto from a mid-range or long range unless you're confident enough to go up close, but he's a wind type like Asuma and can give you a nasty wound as a result. Sasuke gave advice to the practicing rookies based on their encounter. Sasuke's eyes were a blessing because of what they could do, but he was no longer arrogant enough to assume they made him God's gift to the world. It was that type of thinking along with years of pent-up frustration among other things that led to the Civil War plot and Itaka's mission. He used them to help his teammate improve instead, like he should have before Naruto left. Anything to add, Kakashi? Sasuke asked the copycat. Well, we can't bother with genjutsu since if Naruto is on good terms with his tenant, it won't work, and Ino will have to act solely as a medic since her clan's techniques won't work on a container either. Kakashi mused. A Jinchuriki's mindscape is linked to their demon, which means that if you try to control his body through your mind and chakra, it'll be a contest between you and them both. Shino, work on your taijutsu since both Naruto and Fu will most likely close the distance to get at you and circumvent your insects, but don't try to have them siphon Fu's chakra or they may fall under her control. Shikamaru, Naruto may have enough chakra to break free of your jutsu, but if you can hold him still for even a few seconds, it'll be enough for us to get a blow in and restrain him. I'm just glad Sakura and I are close enough that she helped me improve my medical jutsu so I won't be useless since I can't just control them with my normal techniques, Ino stated. Their friendship had grown even stronger over the years as close as she was with Shikamaru and Chuji. Where's Kiba and Hinata? Sasuke asked Shino. They should be here. Well, I believe that Kiba is still sulking that Hinata refused to eat with us last night after her mission. Hinata has been practicing with her father after all this time, Shino stated. I am concerned she is not getting enough rest. She isn't going to do something irrational during the mission, is she? I cannot honestly say, Shino admitted. Past emotions and words from the ill-intended have made her delicate. She has shown absolute restraint lately, but in some ways, it feels forced. Land of Iron, 3 months after the Land of Wind incident. Alright, youngsters, the old pervert took a drink of tea from the flask in his hand at about 300 feet from Naruto and Fu. He had been instructing them in control and giving advice while working on their physical conditioning, but this was the first sparring match. Let's get this show on the road. Aren't you gonna unsheath your sword? Fu asked. Samurai only completely unsheathe their blades when in the company of their opponents to kill, he explained. I'll simply use chakra flow with the sheath and bat you around a couple of times. Naruto closed his eyes and breathed calmly before throwing the first strike. Destruction. Naruto swung the blade horizontally and released multiple bursts of chakra. They became numerous crescent arcs that rained towards the old man. Barrage. The old man tilted his head and then took a step to the side and nonchalantly watched as they passed by at multiple angles. You've got enough chakra in you to fire more of those than a unit of samurai, but you can't control how they fly yet. You need more chakra control and less of them unless you plan on simply attacking a large contingency. The appearance of dozens of Fu clones had the older man switch targets while they rushed in from all sides of the horizontal plane. He waited until they got close enough, and then he made his move and spun fast while streaming chakra in the sheath before stopping. Destruction halo, a thin ring of chakra expanded outwards and cut through the clones. My range has shrunk because of my age, unfortunately. Gale. Naruto shrouded his hand in wind chakra and swiped it across the air. Shuriken. Spinning discs flew towards the old man who streamed his chakra into a sheathed sword and batted them away. Too fragile, he told him. You haven't balanced the shaping with the amount of chakra. Don't just think that because you have the shape it will work properly if you gorge it with chakra. In that case, make it bigger. Fu came from above with water slicing blades in both hands. When she was only a few feet away, she swung down the blades. They drew a blue arc in the sky as they descended on the man. IAI, horizon cut. There was a flash, and the blades were sliced in two with enough force to resist Fu's fall. His eyes gleamed as he used his sheath to smack Fu's rear and earned a yelp. You might have a firm ass, but your recovery time is too slow. Fu blushed and flapped her wings to back away as Naruto rushed in from the front with a Raiznan roughly twice the size of his head and a half. Grand Raiznan. You're telegraphing it. Another flash before the old man jumped back. A line was drawn in the sphere. The left and right halves slid an inch before it ruptured into an explosion of released chakra. He had cut the Grand Raiznan in half before leaping back. IAI, skyward cut. My speed is not as fast compared to Mifyun's. The old man suddenly got serious and frowned. Playtime was over. Let's test your defense, he warned Naruto. I'm coming. Chains emerged from Naruto's body and coiled around him tightly. A solid layer of chakra was tempered and projected a thin barrier over his skin. Chakra chain armor. Impressive and faster than your full barrier, but it has limits, the old man said as he appeared from behind Naruto and took a swig of tea from his flask. Naruto kneeled over, clenching where his floating ribs were supposed to be, and the barrier cracked. Because it is tied to your body, you still feel the force of my blows. Try to make it expand back into the sphere shape but maintain the ability to move by keeping it within an arm's range. He glanced up at Fu. How about you? Fu started making hand seals when the old man was already in front of her. Too slow. He swung the sheathed blade and smacked her from the sky and into the snow below. Fu looked stunned as she began to sit up. How can an old man be so? She shut up when she noticed he was in front of her already. I've been alive a long time, little girl, he told her with his sheathed blade next to her throat. Much like you ninja, we samurai get more dangerous as we age and live through combat. Iato was created to kill your kind before you can do any ninjutsu. He emitted enough killing intent that it felt like he could cut off her head before she could do a damn thing. Gone was the perverted old man, and in his place was a warrior. Do you yield? Fu nodded, and he pulled back the weapon. I'm heading back inside. My age is catching up with me. He left as Naruto wobbled over to her, waiting for the fox to finish healing his ribs. Naruto, what was that? Fu asked. The speed, you mean? He's that fast because he trained his ass off like bushy brows. Naruto sat in the snow next to her. Here, in isolation and the freezing cold. He trained until he bled, and when I came along, he had me do the same. I can't match him in sword skills, and if you try to make a hand seal on him, you'll learn the hard way not to underestimate him. No, Fu shook her head. That killing intent, it was dangerous, and sad. You felt that, huh? Naruto sighed. Remember he told you he was in a unit with Mifune a few days ago, right? Fu nodded. What he didn't tell you was that during the war, he was one of the ones who encountered Hanzo with Mifune, and he ran. He ran away, and Mifune bought him time to escape with the others by clashing with the salamander summoner. Hanzo, he was an infamous ninja, right? Fu asked. I didn't go to an academy, so I didn't learn history, only current things Shibuki, his father, or that bastard Suien taught me, along with certain people to look out for. Like me, he hugged her. Especially you, she leaned into him. Well, I only know because I picked up a history book out of boredom and the Wind Temple had books from all over. Hanzo was a monster in the Second War that not even Granny, Pervy Sage, and the snake bastard could beat together. They got the name Sunin from him because they survived fighting him. Even to this day, most people don't know who killed the guy or if he's really dead or not. Then why was running bad? It was a legitimate question. He was the oldest samurai there, the most experienced, and skilled enough to the point he earned that sword, Uki, which is a Maito blade that is famous and has history. Naruto looked down. He let a younger, promising samurai be the one to make the sacrifice. It was a miracle that Mifune lived through the poison and as a result he became immune to poisons. To him, it was his greatest shame. He never forgave himself for that and sought to atone with death by Mifune's hands. Mifune forgave him, as well as the others who fled, which hurt even more since it meant he couldn't take his own life or it would be disrespectful. He isolated himself, unable to stand in the same space as the comrade that he once fought alongside after leaving him for death, but he was unable to take his own life. He was willing to fade away from history instead of as a brave samurai of his era as penitence for his crime. He wouldn't be missed, only forgotten with no one to grieve for him. A lonely death where it would be the same as if he never existed. Fu finished. He feels a lot like Pervy Sage in that aspect. Naruto sighed. They both have things that they regret and feel as though they can never forgive themselves for until they die, if then. The two were brought out of their gloom by the appearance of their most commonly used ferret. Hey boss. Pace ran up to Naruto with an orange bandana and a scroll on its back. These few months he had made progress with their kind after he summoned the ferret boss and several of his kin and got to know their various abilities, lifestyles, and skills. Naruto also learned a bit more about the toads, like how they had sage skills and their own form of taijutsu. The toads and ferrets go back far until an incident involving Jiraiya spying on the previous contract holder while on a toad. Gamabunta blames the pervert for their years of separation. The ferret boss also had a grudge against the snake boss, Manda, because, well, it wasn't a pleasant situation. Naruto had standing orders to summon the ferret boss if he ever ran across the overgrown snake. He didn't blame him after what he learned. The problem was that they had to kill him before he escaped by anchoring in the location, meaning he'd have to check the storage facility for something that could help once he got back to Uzashio. Hey Pace, how'd it go? I gave the old man's grandson and princess the messages and the money, and they gave me the stuff you ordered and said they would get the message to Moon. The ferret handed him the storage scroll and paused. Although that boy's mom tried to glomp me. Sorry about that. Naruto gave him a treat. Tell your family I said hi. The ferret nodded and vanished. What did you order, Naruto? 500 kunao in packs of 100 each, 200 of those ice, ball, tree, ice bomb thingies used by that flying girl from my trip to snow before it became spring, more ink and scrolls, poison powder and poison bombs from Suna and grass, a couple of jutsus sealed into scrolls that I paid a few shinobi to perform, 20 explosive tag balls, materials to make a second seal rod, some sake from Wave, etc. I also sent Tajuna from Wave and his family a message along with Princess Yuki, who'll pass another one to Moon Country to the prince and king. Naruto, there's a thing called overkill. She raised an eyebrow. You're strapped more than a small army. All of these are going to be used in my version of the traditional style of Uzumaki fighting, he told her. I want to be ready for anything that Konoha or Akatsuki could throw against me. I didn't know your clan had a method of fighting. Fuse scratched her head. Mom didn't use it because she came to Konoha when she was young, and Granny's grandmother stopped using it because she had Kurama and settled down with her husband before she was widowed, Naruto explained. The Uzumaki were feared because of their ability to seal just about anything, jutsu, souls, etc. I can't do everything they could, but I can use sealing scrolls to completely throw my enemies off like I did with Kakashi. Granted, he got my ass in the end with the decapitation technique, but still, at least you have a clan fighting style, or a clan. I have to fall back on the training I got from Suien and self-taught things. Fuse sighed. I can't use a good portion of Chumei's skills unless I'm in a stage 2 transformation. Outside the scale powder technique, some references I got on how the Aberame and Kamaizuru clans use their insects, and my summonings, I'm limited. Phew, my main series of skills are close range and all chakra constructs or have me hitting something or using pre-made seal scrolls or sealing off an ability like summoning. I can also apply wind chakra externally to the Grand Raisnon now, but it still pushes and grates against an enemy instead of cutting them beyond the surface of their skin. You can fly and have an outright advantage against most enemies, attack from one end with your swords or jutsu, while your insects or clones attack from another, blind the enemy, which is infinitely useful against people who rely on their eyes, and you can throw together combination jutsu in tandem with yourself. We've both got limits, but we can work together to overcome them. You're right, she kissed him passionately. I have more at hand than I thought, so, what are you naming your new Raisnon? Wind style, Grand Squall Raisnon, and if you're upset you don't have a clan name, you can take mine once all this business with Akatsuki is done. Near Mount Katsuragi, 4 months after the Land of Wind incident. The forest surrounding the mountain was covered in an abnormal rainstorm that washed away chakra from those not in tone to its signature. It was the mist rain technique only taught to a special unit of Kirinin, the Hunter Nin. They were on the move and they had finally found their prey. Water style, Azure Dragon Palm, was cried, as a spiraling torrent of water gathered and released from the palm of one of the hunter's hands. It tore through the air and was targeting a man and young woman running through the forest to escape. They're only after me, the man told the girl as they jumped off the branch that was destroyed by the incoming attack. If you interfere, they'll use it as an excuse to kill you. I'm not abandoning you, the girl said before she turned to face the incoming man who lacked the traditional mask of Hunter Nin and wore an eye patch. She jumped away from her companion and blazed through hand seals. Water style, Wild Water Wave. She exhaled gallons of water that was slowly eaten away by the rain but still saturated with enough chakra to force the incoming man to jump away, and into a bubble-filled area. Such a troublesome girl, he said half-heartedly as the dozens of bubbles gathered towards the eye patch wearer and the bubble user snapped his fingers. Water style, Bubbles. A chorus of explosions engulfed the Hunter Nin as the pressure inside the bubbles was released as an explosive force, which spattered along with the dirt that was caught in the blast. Yet, there were no viscera or remains, only water. The girl's scream caught his ears. Hotaru, he looked back to see the girl being held by the eye patch wearer himself at Kunao Point. I was fighting a water clone. Utakata, Jinchuriki of the Rokubai, the fact that Mizukage-sama sent both myself, Ao, and young Kojuro should warrant how desperately she wishes you retrieve. He held the curved-tipped kunao by her neck to get the point across. You've been a hard man to find, hiding behind those barriers on the mountain to the point that I almost overlooked it. Let her go, Utakata demanded. Be grateful we aren't the same bloody mist as we were in the past. Mizukage-sama is even offering to expunge your crimes against the previous Hunter Nin and show you records that your master meant you no harm in the incident. He was killed in exchange for your return. My so-called master trying to kill me and take the power was bad enough, but that was the last straw in a long series of problems with that damn village. You've taken someone hostage just to have a shot at catching me. You've always left bodies hidden in the mist just to accomplish your goals, no matter how high you've had to stack them. The bloody mist will always remain the same. Hotaru eyed the kunao carefully and then looked at Utakata. She shed a single tear and prepared to run her neck through the kunao when Ao changed his grip to avoid that outcome. You'd be surprised at how many people have tried that in the past, he told her calmly. Let her. The Jinchuriki was cut off. Sorry about this. A teen with blue hair, glasses connected to ear protectors, and shark teeth appeared behind him with a hammer made of chakra coming out of a sword. He slammed the hammer blade and sent the Jinchuriki flying into the rock face, next to Ao and Hotaru, creating a crater in it before he fell to the ground. NGH. Utakata tried to get up, only to see the teen in the air with his hammer ready to swing down again. Hotaru, I. The earth shook as darkness claimed the Jinchuriki and the sound of smashing earth rang down in the cloud of dust. Only when it cleared did it reveal the injured form of the Jinchuriki of the six-tailed slug. Well done, Kojuro, Ao said. No, Hotaru screamed as Hunter Nin surrounded her fallen mentor. Ao allowed her to break free as she had no chance of getting past them now. A Jinchuriki won't die from. The nervous swordsman was cut off by a loud noise that followed a loud yell. How could you? The girl slapped Kojuro, who was knocked to the ground on his ass, and Ao, who just stood there and took it like a man. He's not a weapon for you to use. He's a human. He's a weapon of the village, as are all shinobi, who has been recalled and he's being hunted, Ao said as the hunternin began to seal Utakata. At least we're taking him back alive. If you truly cared about him then you'd understand this was the best outcome for him. Ao snapped his fingers and had several hunternins grab the girl, escort her back to her home. Utakata, Hotaru screamed in sorrow as the other hunternin took her precious person away. Land of Iron, 5 months after the Land of Wind incident. He's so cute when he's asleep, Kanna chuckled as she laid safe in Naruto's arms, along with Fu, in a very large bed of a luxury suite hotel room. They were currently in a major village on the outskirts of town. It had been so long, but I didn't think his stamina could increase further. I can't believe you went along with the clones and the transformation, and did. Fu trailed off. Anyway, it was funny when he introduced you to Pervy Master and you tried to beat him with a branch. He said my ass was too soft after he smacked it so hard it had an imprint when I checked later. Kanna countered and the two women went on with girl talk before things got back to a more somber mood. Kanna, Fu whispered to not wake Naruto. I've been wondering something, why doesn't Naruto just join another village? I heard Kumo treats theirs better than others. During the time I was under his guard I asked him something like that when he told me he was banished. Kanna sighed. He said all the major villages use Jinchuriki as weapons and minor villages are the same to an extent. Kumo may treat Jinchuriki better, but both Naruto and his tenant would be hard-pressed to even try to join, leaving aside the fact that they'd still be seen as weapons. Why? Fu's fingers traced a circle on Naruto's ABS. They weren't rock-hard yet, but very firm. Because they've attempted to kidnap his mother and Kurama, Kanna shifted her body to hug Naruto's sleeping form. He mentioned that the first time was with the Gold and Silver brothers, who actually survived being eaten by the fox. The second time was when they kidnapped his mother and his father saved her. Since the ones that attempted to kidnap her and the third Raikage have already died, he won't seek revenge, but he won't join them. What about the places he's helped? Fu bought up a secondary plan. Even the nations he's helped might shelter him, but they are relatively small compared to the Land of Fire and Konoha. They would have to eventually yield to their demands under the threat of an embargo or such politics. The Hokage took gentle steps before by only sending one team to negotiate, but all the other cages have begun forcing their Jinchuriki back according to the other daimyos at the last meeting. She won't hold back manpower anymore. Did Naruto tell you what he wanted to set up the village for? Fu stroked Naruto's whisker marks. Naruto wants to restore his mother's village and open it for all those who need a home away from the other villages, like abused orphans like he was in the past, and people like me. That was the past. Kanna gently rubbed Fu's face. I love Naruto and you have me and him, while he has both of us now. He won't put me in a bad position if he can help it, but I'll support him in any manner he needs. He taught me a bit about chakra during our travels while he humbled me, but I can't join him on the battlefield. Only you can do that and I'll support you. For emphasis, Kanna kissed her on the forehead. If he wants to create a place of peace where everyone can be accepted then I'll do what I can. You do what you can as well. Mount Shumazen remains. The Uchiha did a number on you, Sasori stated factually. You probably should have cut your losses and went with Kakashi instead of Itaka's little brother. You are lucky that whatever genjutsu you had on these ruins prevented the ninja from the 5 nations from thoroughly confirming your death. Who are you? A white-haired man covered in bandages addressed the 2 men in black robes with red clouds. There had been a quick battle and they were currently in a stalemate, even though both parties were holding back. Hiriko, former Konohanin and international criminal for attempting to instigate the next great war and kidnapping shinobi from all great nations to obtain their bloodlines. Kakuzu started. We've come to recruit you into Akatsuki. We might even be able to help you with that whole immortality problem, given the 2 of us. I'm listening. A small smile made its way across his bandaged face. Land of Hot Water, 2 weeks later. Naruto and Fu appeared in an orange flash next to Pace in the Land of Hot Water. Thanks for the lift, Pace, Naruto told the small ferret. Are you sure your dad is okay with you staying with us so long? No problem, Pace chirped. Dad was grateful to hear about the Toad boss and how the Snake boss got skewered with his sword. Alright, Fu kneeled so that Pace could hop on her shoulder. What's the plan, Naruto? We catch a boat going to the Land of Sea and Water walk once we're passing by the island, he told her. I don't want to risk going by the Land of Fire since that's where Gaara's contractors are coming in from, and Konoha frequents the port. I had Gaara recall the construction group for a 2-week paid vacation so we could look around without worrying that our identities would slip, meaning we'll have an entire island to ourselves. Fu wrapped her arms around his waist. Yeah, he nervously rubbed his head. I plan to have Kanna come along, but she has a meeting with Gaara this week, and she said she felt a little sick. They'll drop by sometime later next week. I hope she'll be okay. Fu grabbed his hand and led him to the docks. Let's go check our new home. Chume wants to see if the living areas for the little ones are set up right. Naruto could only curse the gods that a member of Jiraiya's spy network and one of Orochimaru's lackeys oversaw them as they made their way to the docks. It didn't take 3 days for the information to get back to their respective parties. Konoha. Tsunade addressed the gathered units for the retrieval team. All of you are here because the time has come to retrieve Naruto Uzumaki and his partner and fellow Jinchuriki. Phew. Now, this mission in itself is an S-class secret, only to be shared with individuals of my choosing after it is carried out successfully. As much as I wish I could say otherwise, you are authorized to use force if negotiations fail, as he has stated that he won't hold back. According to Jireya's intelligence, they took a boat to the south. She trailed her finger down from the edge of the land of hot water to a small island. I believe this is the target location. The land of whirlpools? Lee tilted his head. The fire daimyo informed me that someone had bought the entire island but didn't give any information. In addition, Suna has been sending civilians, according to the boat checkout logs. They rent boats and return them, but the destination log has an inaccurate time frame from where they were supposedly using them for fishing. Of course, Shaizun muttered. Makes sense, Jiraiya added. How the hell did we not think about that? Are we missing something? Kiba asked. The land of whirlpools is the original home of the Uzumaki clan's village, Uzushio. Shaizun told him. What kind of clan would stay in a place named the land of whirlpools? It's so. Kiba, shut up. Sasuke told him while nodding towards the obviously irate look on Tsunade's face. For your information, Inyazuka, my grandmother and wife of the first Hokage was Mito Uzumaki. Tsunade told him. The next person who says something stupid gets the same treatment as Jiraiya when he does something perverted in front of me. Complete silence reigned. Now then, since the academy didn't apparently teach you history or you slept through it, the Uzumaki clan were allied to the Senju clan, and you carry their symbol on your flak jackets, the spirals. Their village, Uzushio, was in the land of whirlpools, before it was wiped out. Shino raised his hands. Why did such an event occur? The Uzumaki were the best-known seal masters in the world before their fall, and it made them feared to the point that when Konoha was busy with their own battlefront, they were ambushed and decimated. To compare, the fourth Hokage and Jiraiya were both taught their seals by Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's mother. Princess. The reason I'm telling them this is so they don't get distracted and killed because they were stunned like Kakashi was. She cut him off. This is also an S-class secret and will remain unless Naruto consents to the public knowing it, but while we have no photographs of Naruto's current appearance, according to Niji Hayuwaga and the others who have confronted him, he bears a strong resemblance to the fourth Hokage who was his father. Not that surprising, Shikamaru sighed, until everyone looked at him. How many people in the village had blonde hair but weren't from Ino's family, born on the night of the Kyuubi attack, and had Asuma-sensei's father looking after him since when he was a baby? I'm lazy, not stupid. They looked at Asuma. In my defense, Dad never told me who he was related to, and after he entered the orphanage, it was years before I saw him again since I was with the 12 Guardians Ninja. He used his own son? Tenten asked. Minato was never the type to sacrifice an orphan. Naruto was the only newborn at the time, and Jinchuriki by nature are almost always related in some way to a high-ranking figure inside their village to instill loyalty, Jiraiya told them. Until the villagers trample over them, Sasuke pointed out. You wondered why Gaara was so kill-happy a few years ago. We're getting off topic. Tsunade grabbed their attention. The point is, by now, I'm sure you all realize not only the fact that there is a power balance because each nation has one or more Jinchuriki, but Akatsuki has been going around and capturing them and upsetting the balance. The other nations have already put their effort into retrieving their own, and leaving Naruto and few out makes them bait for Akatsuki and for the nations who will seek to claim them in order to bolster their power. You've all been informed of what skills and techniques they've exhibited during their last encounters, and just to be safe, Kakashi will go over them along the way. But it's been almost half a year since then, and I doubt they've been sitting still all this time and growing complacent. Your numbers are to ensure you capture Naruto as the primary target and few as a secondary since one probably won't go without the other, but Naruto is the greater threat. Is everyone with me so far? They all nodded. Shaizun and Irika are to try and reason with Naruto, as well as the rest of you who were close to him. Barring that fails, Irika is a barrier user and a fairly skilled tracker, and Shaizun is a medic and poison user. Both Jinchuriki are capable of manifesting cloaks, as you may have seen when he was younger, and Yamato is the only one of you capable of siphoning off the chakra and weakening them. You Chunin are to weaken them and create an opening for the Jonin to settle the issue and Jiraiya to seal away their chakra. If at any state they go beyond Three Tails, enter a stage 2 transformations and gain blood cloaks, or full-blown Baijuya states, Chunin are to withdraw from the battle and allow the Jonin to act alone as well as send the fastest message towed to me so I can join them on the battlefront. If Yamato, Kakashi, or Jiraiya are killed or no longer able to suppress their chakra, you will flee the location as quickly as possible. I don't give a damn how you feel about Naruto or the Fox, but don't fuck up like Sakura did and destroy or say anything unnecessary or I'll personally make you pay the bill after I shove my foot up your ass as hard as I can. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am, they all replied. You have 2 hours before leaving, spend them wisely. Outside the Hokage's tower. Why didn't you say something, Shika? Shuji asked. If you knew all this time, it wouldn't have changed a thing, Shikamaru told him. Forget the fact that he's related to someone famous, the village abused him as an orphan. Naruto has every right to a grudge, and if we're unlucky, he'll take it out on us. His heritage doesn't matter, he's used your kindness and taken advantage of you. The voice inside her head strung you along. Kill him, take away his everything. Hinata, are you alright? Kiba asked her. Your eyes are active. Ah, she deactivated them. Sorry, Kiba-kun. What are your thoughts on the information we have received? Shino asked her. We're just to bring the Kyuubi back, she told them. That's all. Shino watched as she walked off before addressing Niji and Kiba. I believe we should ensure that one of us is by her side the entire time to prevent her from acting irrationally. Irika-sensei, since when are you a tracker? Ino asked. How do you think I always found Naruto? I can perform a type of echolocation using sound waves by applying chakra to my vocal cords and ears. When air passes through the vocal cords, it causes fluctuations. Irika sighed. Because Naruto could hear very well, I had to make the sound waves become ultrasonic by applying more chakra to my ears and vocal cords, and even then, I had to change the frequency occasionally. So basically, you follow your namesake and act like a dolphin? Shikamaru chuckled. That's troublesome. Anko fell down laughing when I told her. Irika chuckled at himself. Land of Sound. Kabuto had just relayed the information he received to one of his masters, planning to send information off to the other once Orochimaru made his decision. It was a dangerous game he was playing, but it was one he played very well. This is too important to leave to mere lackeys. I shall go personally and take Gurren and you with me, Orochimaru told him. Tsunade is sending Suzuki Uchiha, who once considered the Kyuubi brat a brother, to reason with him, as well as Jiraiya to be sure they get him. This is a chance to strip Akatsuki of their goals and grab my next container, and if I just so happen to kill my old teammate and weaken Konoha in the process, a bonus, really. Hasn't Gurren been a little off since the death of that boy, Uokimaru? Kabuto asked. Yes, I fear that she may have had feelings for the boy, Orochimaru shook his head. However, she should still be capable of killing the Nanabe's host after we give her incentive. An Akatsuki base. My spy has picked up that Orochimaru intends to kill the Jinchuriki and capture the Uchiha sent to retrieve them. Sasori explained. From the list of deployed ninja that he snatched, Konoha is sending Jiraiya the Toad Sage, Kakashi of the Sharingan, Asuma Sarutobi, and the Taijutsu expert Might Guy, within 4 teams and some lesser-known ninja. What is the location? Pain asked. The Land of Whirlpools, Sasori told them. Apparently the entire thing was bought earlier this year, and contractors, artisans, and stonemasons have been moving in and out, according to the last plant I have in Suna. We think they're planning to rebuild Uzushio, the home of the Uzumaki clan. Conan's eyes widened for a brief second, while Pain barely blinked. Kisame chuckled. So he's rebuilding his home village? Good bounties all around. Kakuzu mused. A shame we're still too far to reach there before it all goes down. I imagine a battle between Sunan will be something worth witnessing, even at my age. We've let Orochimaru do as he pleases for too long, Konan stated. Indeed, Pain agreed. Kisame, Itake, you two are the closest to their location, correct? Yes, Itake answered. Then ensure that the snake does not leave alive, Pain ordered. If the Toad Sage does not finish the job, then make sure you do. If the Jinchuriki brat is there and I'm there, Kisame started. You two alone can't handle that many. Pain cut him off before he saw the shark man pout. But if Itaka sees an opening and the main objective is dealt with, take him before Konoha can. But don't kill him and don't get caught. Your abilities are too useful in retrieving the Baijuyu. The projections faded from existence. Back in aim. Pain. Konan addressed her god. If he's rebuilding the birthplace of your clan, the Uzumaki have had a long, pain-filled history up to and including their destruction, he told her. Naruto Uzumaki knows pain, having been a Jinchuriki, and seeks peace, I'm sure. If he and the others had not been unfortunate to bear the power we seek, I would have left them be. Still, I would like them to see the world we will eventually bring about. He stared at the demonic statue of the outer path and the bodies beneath them, still looking as fresh as the day they died. New Uzushio. Hugh was on the edge of New Uzushio, flying over the area set up to house a variety of insect species that would adapt to the new environment of the island when a beetle from the shore that the workers usually docked on landed on her fingertips and sent the bad news. Naruto! Hugh yelled as she approached the central building where the tallest pole stood. Konoha has come. Well, that would be my luck taking a turn for the worst, he muttered under his breath before pressing for details. What can you tell me? Hugh told her as much as she could gather from the little one that informed her. Fuck, Naruto said to himself. Those were odds even he wouldn't be on. He sighed before he told Few, stay in the storage facility beneath the village until this is over. What the hell? Are you going to try to fight them yourself? From the information you've given me, they sent my entire graduating classmates, which would be doable, but also Kakashi, the big version of Bushy Brows, Old Man Sun, Pervy Sage, and a few others the insects couldn't identify. I'm confident, not crazy. That's the snake bastards department. Phew, they're going to have their hands full with me, and I will not go down easy, but I need someone to watch over this place in case something happens to me. I'll contact Gaara in a minute to tell him we have guests and to get ready to send a set of documents to the fire daimyo with Konoha's signature, but he can't directly intervene since Suna and Konoha are still in an alliance and neither one can interfere with each other on missions. Why is it that you have to fight, but I can run away? This is going to be my home too. I can't keep running, Naruto told her. Not now that they know about this place. I refuse to let the village I'm setting up be taken from me by Konoha or any other hidden village. Gaara understands what I'm planning and will do what he can, but he has no direct control of the politics of Konoha. Naruto, unless you plan on physically stopping me, I'm going to fight. That's a cheap shot, damn it, Naruto relented. Fine, but show me your seal so that I can add a parallel array to the boundless orange step as a last resort. It'll be a rush job, and if I use it, it'll wipe the array for the original formula clean, and I'll have to reapply the whole thing, but it'll transport you to Gaara's location. I won't let Konoha take you no matter what. Pace, you go home, Fu told the ferret. Naruto and I need to get ready. No way. I can help you with that teleporting thing on the battlefield. Pace, Naruto chided him. You aren't a warrior or monk ferret. You can get killed. I wanna. The young ferret kept going on a tantrum while Naruto and Fu sighed and decided to talk strategy. Naruto, we can't fight head to head with them, right? Fu confirmed and he nodded. We don't fight with them head on then, we have more stamina than them so we make it a guerrilla war and wear them out. Fighting fair is for sparring, this is for our future. Point made, Naruto admitted. She looked at the map of the old Uzashio village. You've still got traps set up in old Uzashio, right? Just one section of the trap barriers since I moved all of the manually triggered ones to the perimeter of the new village to set up the defense system, he sighed. They'll be there in less than 30 minutes, and I'll be adding the parallel array into your seal, which will take 10 minutes, plus another 10 so you can recover from the shock and pain while I tweak my own seal, so we can't add more in time. Oh, and what may I ask are you planning to do to your seal? Kurama asked. Let's just say that if I get captured and they try to play the threat of death card, we have incentive for them to not try, answered. Naruto walked over to the table and put chakra into his body seals to empty the contents. Phew, I want you to take a couple of my sealed scrolls just in case. Phew looked at them. Barriers, fire, poison, exploding tag balls, Konoha with exploding tags, Konoha with ice bombs. Phew went on and on as she listed them all. Once again, Naruto, overkill. There's such a thing as too much. Considering who we're facing, I believe I'm under-equipped. With the retrieval team, 27 minutes later. The Konoha retrieval team leaped as they passed grassy plains and over green hills into the ruins of old Uzashio. Their cloaks billowed in the wind as they landed with their guards up and slowly made their way inwards. The broken village was filled with collapsed pillars that had the spiral of Uzashio carved into them and the occasional building that still had at least a third of its original shape as they lined the narrow streams that gathered into a lake. In the center of the lake was a leaning tower that had been broken in half with the largest spiral emblem in the village barely visible above the water. This place is a mess, Kiba said rudely, earning him a bark from his partner. I was not being disrespectful. This is all that remained when the village was destroyed during the war. Jiraiya said somberly. This was the birthplace of the Uzumaki clan, who were targeted for their sealing arts, and the survivors scattered, along with their knowledge. Are you sure that anyone has been on this island? Ino asked. My insects have picked up the scent of several people. Shino answered. Me and Akamera have a few scents, but they're days old. Kiba added. If these guys were supposed to be rebuilding this village, they slacked off. You're wrong, Niji said with his bloodline active. There's another village further ahead. Maybe they felt it would be easier to build in a new location. I'll take a look. Sai drew an ink bird and hopped onto it. As he neared the new village, he noted that the perimeter was a circle that had been divided into sections by the streams that flowed through it. The buildings were smooth, cylindrical shaped and towering, but there was an abundance of flowers and parks being cultivated. In the center of the village was a large building with a long pole that rose above the village and had the Uzumaki emblem on the end. Dickless really must have called in a few favors. It looks impressive. Sai mused as he crossed the village boundary, before hundreds of chains emerged from the perimeter of the new village and Sai was forced to dodge them as they attempted to spear him before arcing towards the single tallest pole with the Uzumaki spiral at the center and formed a barrier. As he circled back to the group, something hit his ink bird from behind and caused it to burst. He fell from the sky like a stone. Chuji extended his hand and it grew to a massive size to catch the artist. Thanks, Sai muttered. As dozens of chakra signatures from the ground beneath them began to spring to life, Niji yelled, scatter! Chains erupted from the ground and coiled towards the clumped-together group. The ninja reacted quickly, but a wave of them curved to ensnare as many as they could. Irika was snared as they coiled around all his limbs, Shikamaru was bound around the arms, and Jiraiya was caught by the left hand when he pushed Shizen out of the way. An intricate array appeared beneath the trio with another 30 chains crossed to make a translucent barrier. "Where's the enemy?" Yamato ordered. Niji and Hinata looked around and could only make out 2 figures. "Above us, moving towards 12 o'clock is a woman with wings," Niji answered. "She was most likely the one who took out Sai's drawing. There's a small creature also moving towards 12 o'clock in front of us," Hinata answered. "And below us are ceiling tags that are remote activated, that's where the chains came from." The green-haired woman fluttered just above the ground, kicking up dust 50 feet in front of them. Her hair was lightly wafting in the wind as she looked at them piercing orange eyes while a ferret scampered beneath her. "Get out of our home." "The Jinchuriki of the Nanabe, phew," Suzuki stated factually as a blur sped past him towards the figure. Hinata, "No." Tenten threw a weighted chain at the girl to stop her from attacking first, and Kiba was on Akamera following her before she did something she would regret. "Where's the Kuwabai?" Hinata ordered as she closed the distance and got ready to strike the Jinchuriki with a gentle fist technique. The ferret rushed beneath her and pulsed chakra into the seal it had. It was only because she had her eyes active that she saw the man above her with a spiraling sphere of chakra in his hand or a chain wrapping around her waist. "Die," he muttered before slamming the Grand Raisnon down towards the Hyuga. The chain around her jerked as Tenten and Lee pulled as hard as they could to avoid having her smashed along with the ground. Hinata flew backwards before flipping in midair and landing away from the cloud of dust and dirt on the back of Akamera with Kiba as they went back to the group. He flew back and the figure jumped out of the cloud and somersaulted a good distance away before the group could get their guard up and the dust cleared. The blonde-haired figure with cold blue eyes stared at the invaders. He wore black pants and a deep orange long shirt with chakra chains that formed a cross around his torso that could be seen under the fluttering long coat and the scroll bandolier that went diagonally across his chest. Armed with his bracers and fingerless gloves, in his right hand was a dissipating Grand Raisnon, and on his left shoulder was the ferret. "Minato," Jiraiya muttered, as the image of father overlapped with son. The majority of the group looked stunned despite being warned as they looked at the near-identical image of the 4th Hokage from a history book. "Naruto," Suzuki yelled and snapped them back to normal. Naruto's eyes took in the group but froze on a certain person. "Irika-sensei? I expected my old classmates and a few others, but why are you here?" "I was sent to try to convince you to return, Naruto," Irika said while glancing at the barrier around them. He had experience in using barrier ninjutsu, not that Naruto knew it of course. "You've grown a lot. In that case, I'm glad you and the other 2 troublesome ones were caught," Naruto coldly stated. "I have nothing against you, and Shikamaru's jutsu is a pain in the ass, so you can stay there and out of the fight to tell Granny what happened when the rest trespassed on my property." "Your property? How did you afford an entire island?" Jiraiya asked while trying to figure out the sealing array used on the trap seal on the ground so he could. "The 7th array stabilizes the Yang chakra and spreads it out using the chains, so if it I." Naruto shook his head. "Have you forgotten my luck in gambling? I'm the anti-Tsunade." Jiraiya and Shizen facepalmed. "Your ass is mine after I get the rest, pervert." "Anti-Tsunade," Niji muttered. "Tsunade-sama is renowned for losing whenever she gambles," Shizen rubbed her forehead. "Unless something bad is happening. Which means he has Mad Bank at his disposal and paid for the village's construction himself as well," Sai said, only for the others to look at him with raised eyebrows. "I read the term in a book. That means we cannot use money as a bargaining tool for his return," Shino stated. "He doesn't look like he's in a bargaining mood." Shikamaru muttered and Chuji nodded. "I know I wasn't the best godparent, Naruto, but..." Jiraiya was cut off. "You could have been better," Naruto snapped. "You get a narrow pass because you taught me the Raisnon, and for that, I'm going to send you back to Granny barely alive. I'm castrating you because you used my parents for your research, you pervert." Kushina knew. Jiraiya was shocked, and Kakashi turned pale. "Not exactly," Fu answered with a blush. "I crossed the memory with some of your materials." "You're a fan," he raised an eyebrow. "Can we get back to the matter at hand / castrating the pervert?" Yamato and Naruto interrupted. Yamato coughed and spoke first. "Naruto Uzumaki, we have been assembled to retrieve you at all cost, as well as your partner if possible. We have been told to start with negotiation and then force if necessary. Naruto, Tsunade-sama is willing to make reparations for the excess clauses in your exile." Shizen tried to reason with him. "You have to come back so you can claim your father's estate and we can remove the seals on your hands for you to practice ninjutsu again. She'll also tell everyone your heritage if you want." "Shizen, I'm not going back, not even for that." He addressed the sister-like figure with no hostility. The moment the old man's law was broken, going back there was never an option, and we all know it. Who I'm related to won't change the opinions of the majority, and even if it did, I will never forgive them regardless, plus I don't want people constantly kissing my ass like they do Suzuki. "Cheap shot," Suzuki countered. "As for these seals, I could have gotten rid of them easily by now. I bet I could even render that seal on Niji's forehead useless by simply overwriting the algorithm sequence that causes pain through the nerve receptors. Niji's eyes briefly widened at the prospect while the others were amazed he knew big words like receptors. He clearly was no longer an idiot. I'm keeping them on because they represent a reminder of the pain I've gone through, the last betrayal, and also the freedom and happiness I've obtained now that I am no longer tied to that village. I won't go back. Konoha misses you, Naruto, Asuma told him. A lot of us do. We know the village has attempted to smother your flames of youth, but things are different. None of us here bear you any ill will, Guy told him. He's right, Naruto, Kakashi said. I don't blame you for hating me, but we really don't want to fight you if we can avoid it. This time things are in our favor, and we know you aren't going to go easy on us, so we'll have to be rougher on both of you. I might miss Konohamaru, the Ichirakus, and a few others, but like I told Kakashi, I'm not walking into a lion's den, and you won't take me or few back. He pointed to the girl with her bloodline active. No ill will? Have you been ignoring the killing intent that the Hyuga princess has been giving out? You think I'm going to a village filled with thousands of that with few? Naru Irika was cut off. That strike of hers was aiming for Few's heart. If you didn't save the bitch at the last minute, she would have been the first to die for the attempt. The strike would have left her unable to fight, Hinata stated coldly. We have 3 skilled medics here, and the chakra could have easily been pushed out or dealt with before her heart failed if you surrendered. We were told to use force if negotiations failed, and you have made it quite clear that you are neither wanted nor want to be in Konoha, Kuwabai. I am not. The Kuwabai. Naruto's eyes turned crimson. The Kuwabai and I aren't the same, and quite frankly, he's treated me better than Konoha treats their orphans. After everything I went through, going back to that hellish prison was never an option. Naruto, calm down. Few told him. Don't lose control. Naruto closed his eyes before slowly opening them and showing steel and blue eyes and directing them towards Irika, Jiraiya, and Kakashi. Would you tolerate an enemy that's invading your home? Would you let them attack your loved ones and drag you to a prison in chains without a fight? Your home is Konoha, Jiraiya said, even if he knew otherwise. This island is my home. He glared at them and pulled out his sealing rod. I'll tell you the same thing I tell the others who faced me, and I've got nothing against leave and I won't chase you, or fight with your lives on the line. I've been preparing to deal with Akatsuki and Konoha, and I'm not holding back. Naruto, please. Irika tried to reach him but Shikamaru cut him off. Look in his eyes, Irika-sensei, he'll resist to the end and drag as many of us down with him as he can if he has to. Shikamaru told him. This is the Suzuki retrieval mission all over, but with Naruto this time, words won't reach him. No. Suzuki agreed before activating his bloodline. No, they won't. Jiraiya sighed remorsefully before he looked at Kakashi. Do it. Negotiations have failed. Kakashi revealed his hidden eye. Combat units, subdue the targets using force but try not to do anything fatal. Sakura, Ino, and Shizun, you are all medics in here for that reason. Do not engage unless they are trying to stop you from healing the injured, saving a patient, or being attacked. The group charged. Few, get ready. Naruto yelled as he tossed the squealing ferret to Few for safekeeping and formed the blade. We're going with the glacier collapse after the first volley. Pace exclaimed. Pace, this is not a game. Few told him as she placed him on her head and summoned several clones that all started making hand signs. Rain down. Naruto swung the blade at the incoming group and it released several crescent arches that cut through the ruined pillars and stone towards the enemies of Naruto Uzumaki. Destruction barrage. The Battle of Old Uzashio had begun.